In this video, I will be going over 300 tips for Rainbow Six Siege. This will be a compilation of a lot of my videos, so if you want to become better at the game, make sure you stick to the end. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. The first tip that I'll be going over is that when you are trying to ash rush into a barricade, don't just shoot your ash charge in the middle of the barricade. Instead, put it in one of the corners of the barricade. That way, when you sprint in, you don't take any damage from your ash charge. Now, that was just one out of 137 different tips that I'll be going over in today's video. The second of which is actually for Castle. My tip with Castle is if you want to make it to where you can surprise people on the other side of a barricade, all you have to do is prep the Castle barricade. Usually, it takes about 9 brick to break a Castle barricade. So if you melee it 8 times instead of 9, then the second you want to surprise somebody who's maybe planting on the other side of a doorway, you can just hit it once. There are better ways to use Castle barricades, as he mainly is used for cutting off angles, but I do like this way sometimes. Speaking of barricade operators, let's go over this next tip with Azami. If you want to make any pixel angles in the game with Azami, all you have to do is go to a reinforced wall, hug the very left side of it, and look as far down as you possibly can. Then throw your knife and look up immediately. That way your gun blocks the Azami from making a full circle. From here, throw your next kunai at the top of this red bar on the reinforcement. And from there, when you prone, you get an angle just like this you can use to watch anywhere you want to. This works on any reinforcement, on any wall, on any single map. Something else that works on every single map is bouncing Valkyrie cameras. If you want to get a Valkyrie camera in a high place that you normally wouldn't be able to throw it to, all you have to do is put a Valkyrie camera on a surface and bounce another Valkyrie camera off of that first one, which will result in that Valkyrie camera being on top of the surface, allowing you to also pick up the other one. Now, as you can see, it's on top of the wall I wanted it to be on, while still being able to watch whatever I wanted it to watch. Moving into the attack though, let's talk about this trick with Ram. If you want to be able to create a thermite-sized breach in a soft wall with Ram, all you have to do is shotgun open a hole like this. Then throw your Ram device in it, like that, and activate your Ram device. This will breach open the entire wall for you. An even more necessary tip is shooting glass on windows in the prep phase. When you put 5 bullets into a window in different spots, it will actually take the glass off that window without breaking any part of the barricade at all. You do this so that you could hear people repelled on the window a lot easier, so that you know when they're on the window and when they're getting off. Now, just like you should destroy glass on barricades, you should also be putting punch holes on reinforcements. When you punch reinforcements or put shotgun holes through them, that makes it to where when the wall is reinforced, you'll be able to hear people putting hard breach utility like thermites or aces on the wall a little bit louder. If you're K tricking or bandit tricking, that's really helpful because you need to know exactly which wall to place your bandit on so you don't get it wrong and accidentally open the entire wall. But if you want to hear your game, you need to go to your audio settings. Make sure that when you're playing the game, you have on night mode, especially if you're running earbuds. If you're on headsets, hi-fi is usually preferred, but it does make explosions a bit louder, which can cover footsteps in some scenarios. It's a pick your own poison kind of thing, but I personally like to run hi-fi. Another setting you need to change is when your aspect ratio is on automatic. When your aspect ratio is on automatic, it usually displays at about 16:9 aspect ratio. This aspect ratio is really bad, and in this game, you want to have wide stretched res. For most people, that would look like 4:3. The issue with 4:3 is that people appear to move faster, which is especially hindering to you when you're playing online and there's ping involved, which is why most pro players will run 4:3 on LAN tournaments, but they'll run 16:10 when they're playing ranked, like the majority of you should. 16:10 allows you to still be stretched and get the benefits from it, while also not making your game look like crap and making it to where you don't have to react to super fast people. Now, my next tip is actually for Flores. If you're Flores droning an opponent, chances are they're going to try to shoot that Flores drone. Meaning that if you shoot a Flores drone in a building like this and get off of it, your Flores drone will continue rolling, allowing you to get off of your Flores drone and swing people who are actually shooting at your drone. Speaking of Flores tips, did you know that Flores drones can jump over punch holes? To explain this, I'm going to put a few punch holes in this soft wall just like this. If I wanted to, let's say, put a Flores drone and explode this wall, but there's no other way to do it, well, I can actually climb up punch holes. So if I get on my Flores drone, as you can see, when I jump up, it gets caught on the punch hole. I can jump it again, and then jump it one more time, and explode it, allowing me to get that wall open, all the way from down here. Speaking of droning tips, one thing that I think is pretty highly underutilized is turning your drone last second to actually extend your ability to land on a surface. For example, if I were on this white van and I wanted to jump up on top of that ledge right there, when I jump and try to do it, sometimes I'll just completely miss. But if you do it and then turn your drone to the right last second, your wheel will actually get caught on the ledge, allowing you to get more angles than you previously would be able to. But let's bring you back to Courtyard for a second, because there's a cool spawn peek you can actually do from Courtyard. If you use an impact grenade on this wall right here, and then you come into blue bar and open up this blue bar window, doing those two things allows you to get on this couch here, and then if you lean to the left while hugging this wall, you can actually kill anybody coming through the ruin spawn under this archway. When you shoot a bullet around right here, that is usually head level to where anybody will be running across. People sprint across here really fast though, so I would honestly just pre-fire this and you might get a free kill. An even better defensive trick that you can do though is with a nitro cell. If you ever put your nitro cell someplace and then you realize no one's there and you want to get it back, but now it's just too late, all you have to do is actually shoot the soft floor around the nitro cell like this, and if you destroy that soft floor, your nitro cell will come falling down and you can pick it up. One thing you should also be utilizing is cutoff drones. Let's say I wanted to push into sunrise here. It would take me a lot of time to drone each and every single individual room, but if you had a drone in here from the prep phase already that you could use, all you have to do is simply get on this camera. Oh, okay, no one's here. Let me walk in. And that took way less time. One thing cutoff drones allow you to do really well is take space. And you should be taking space and finding gaps and taking them whenever you can. For example, if I know that all of Aqua and luggage are clear, there's no reason for me to not take that space. Anytime that there's rooms that are available for you to take, you need to take them and do so very quickly. Having more map control is always going to be better than having less map control. The more map control you have, the faster and more time you have to be able to apply pressure to the site and work a take you want to work. Now, taking space quickly is something that you can do if your teammates are rushing, which brings me to my next tip. If your teammates are rushing or you have one Ashman that's just running into the building and he's being really stupid, you actually just baiting him and trying to refrag him the entire time will net you a lot of free kills. Instead of him just running in and dying like he's probably going to do, at least you can kill the person who killed him to even out the man count and at least make the game a little bit more fair. Something else that can get you free kills is not crouch walking anywhere that you go to. At no point should you be crouch walking up to anything, or especially if you're on a flank. You might think that crouch walking actually makes less noise, but it actually makes more noise than just alt walking. Alt walking at least keeps you at head level, so that if you ever need to stop alt walking to swing, you can swing faster than if you were to swing while crouched. Crouch swinging actually makes it to where you swing slower, and it makes noise every time you crouch, making it to where crouch walking is really just never a good idea. Moving it back to the site though, a tip that you need if you're setting up the site is to make rotates before you do anything else. If I'm running anybody with a shotgun and I need to set up site, whether it be making rotates, making head holes, destroying dressers, it doesn't matter. The first thing I need to destroy is the rotates. The reason you want to do this is because when you make rotations, it allows your defenders who are also setting up site to go through the site and around the site easier because they have more points of access to do so. So you're essentially making site setup faster when you make rotates first. Now, my next tip is less about actual practical game knowledge and more about your mindset, and that is that you need to have confidence. A lot of the times people will not swing, or they'll drag out fights longer than they need to be because they don't have the confidence that when they swing, they're going to win the gunfight. When you're scared of people shooting you back, you play a lot more passively than you need to be in order to win rounds. Chances are your enemy is just as scared as you are, so use that to your advantage and think that you're the better player so you're less passive. Something else that can give you confidence when you're playing Clubhouse is opening up this plat wall when they're playing CC. If you want to do this, there's a very easy way you can do it with Ash. All you have to do is pro next to this double barricade, shoot out a portion of this barricade, and Ash right on that soft wall, just like this. That is below where anybody is bandit tricking or K tricking, making it to where they can't actually do that, and you'll get all of the electronic utility necessary so that your hard breacher can get the wall open. Something else you should be doing is not peeking the same angle twice. So if I'm trying to clear any of these angles and I eventually see somebody, but I know that they saw me too, it doesn't make sense for me to re-swing at the same angle that I was just swinging, because then they're just going to pre-fire me once they see my head. So instead, when I quick peek and I see that they see me, I'm going to crouch and then peek again, so that they aim above my head and shoot instead of actually hitting me in the head. Something else in the game that can show you what to do is the timer at the top of your screen. A good rule of thumb if you don't know what to do is that your first minute of the round should be you trying to get into the building as an attacker, and as the first minute and a half as a defender, that is your time to roam and prevent them from actually getting to the site. After a minute and a half, you can go back to site, and as an attacker, you should be making vert at a minute and a half and executing on the site once the time is under a minute. So if you don't know what to do, there's a good rule of thumb. Moving into the attack though, let's talk about this next tip that has to do with something called ghost pressure. Ghost pressure is essentially opening up angles that you're not going to use just to scare defenders into thinking that you're going to use it. Let's say, for example, I'm attacking the top floor of cafe. If I know there's a guy playing in piano, which, you know, there probably is going to be, then when I get on the roof, opening up this window and then getting off is a great idea, because then when I start working these hatches, they're still going to be looking at that window, and if they do, they're going to back up and give free space, or at least be a little bit more paranoid when we attack where we're actually going to attack. Speaking of tips you can use on cafe, let's talk about this next tip with Buck. A lot of people don't realize, but as Buck, you can actually buck through multiple different layers of floor in order to get even crazier angles on the site that you normally wouldn't have been able to do with any other operator. You can buck through multiple floors, but you're also able to go through floors and certain walls to get angles on people onto other places that you also couldn't get had you not done that. So make sure that you try and get creative with Buck as much as possible to get more insane angles. Another thing you should do to get better is watching yourself in match replay. When you watch yourself in match replay, you notice mistakes that you make when you're watching yourself, allowing you to become even better at a faster rate when you don't want to play the game but still want to get better in the process. Speaking of watching things though, this next tip is in the same vein, because you also need to be watching content creators like myself in order to get better. A lot of the times just watching somebody play can make you better because you notice they do things that you don't that gets them a lot of value, or you notice certain tips like in this video that you can use in your games to get more value yourself. Going back to tips about vertical though, if you ever wonder like where floor beams are so that you don't hit these like random metal beams, all you have to realize is that metal beams go the opposite way that wooden beams go. So if these wooden beams are going up to down, I know the metal beams are going to go left to right, just like this. As you can see, the metal's left to right, but the wood is up to down. The same logic applies over here. If I know the wood is left to right, I know the metal beams are up and down. Let me sledge it. Would you look at that? That's how that works. Now, something you can utilize whether you're on attack or defense is giving exact comms. Saying somebody's in sight or on my dead body is not a good comm. A lot of the times when I'm pushing sight as an attacker, somebody will die and say that guy's on sight, which doesn't help me at all. Obviously, the dude's on site. You just died to that guy. But I want to know which side he's on, what room he's in, what corner he's in. That's a great call out to give, and sometimes it gets me killed when my dumb teammates don't tell me the exact call out. Something else that can get you killed is putting deployable shield on doorways just like this. You never want to put shield on doorways because it makes it to where if you want to rotate through the site, you have to vault over the shield, which makes a lot of noise and gets you stuck in an animation that can get you killed. Instead, all you have to do is back up your shield off of the doorway just a little bit like this, which gets you the same amount of effect of being able to use the shield while also making it to where you can rotate when you need to, and it makes it to where you can put ADSs on the other side of the wall that protect your shield but can't get shot by enemies. Now, my next tip is actually with Grim. You should be using Grimbees less for information to drone out a room like this, and more as area denial, kind of like a Capitao like this. If I want to go for a plant, having Grimbees right here is great because it tells me if anybody is about to swing me, so then I know when to get off the actual plant to then swing and go for the kill, or if I can stick the plant and not have to worry about it at all. Moving it back to the defense though, I want to show you a cool zombie angle you can use to prevent anybody from getting on these windows on bang. All you have to do is look at the chandelier post just like this, and then throw your zombie barricade. The zombie will land and block off that window completely. However, if you go to the second window, they can still see you. All you have to do is throw a second zombie barricade on it like this, and that completely solves the problem. Speaking of good operators, let's talk about thermite. Something that's pretty underutilized about thermite is using the explosion radius to open up other exterior walls you might have not meant to. So if I use the thermite, obviously I'm trying to explode this wall, right? But because the explosion radius of thermite is so big, when I try to explode this wall, I'm also going to explode this wall. So if these walls are ever electrified, you can just thermite this soft wall and easily get it without any electricity being able to kill your thermite breach. Speaking of hard breachers, let's talk about my next game sense tip, which is that if you're playing support, especially a hard breach, you should never be the first into a map. You should always be trying to be behind your entry fraggers, behind your shields, or being the person to drone them in instead of following them physically. Putting yourself at risk or making it to where you're not checking spawn peaks before your teammates are makes it to where you'll die a lot more more than you should be. Speaking of breachers, let's talk about a tip for Buck. Now, Buck specializes obviously in soft breaching, and you need to use this to Buck's advantage. If you're ever playing a map with a lot of soft destruction, you should be aiming to open up as much of the walls as possible and opening up new lines of sight you never thought were even possible. You don't necessarily have to use all of the angles that you're creating, but just opening them in general allows you to get a lot of angles onto anybody who doesn't know these angles are there, getting you a lot of free kills in the process to people who are very unsuspecting. More angles on a map is only going to be attacker sided, especially if you're the ones that made them and the defenders don't know they're there. So as Buck, you should be looking to honestly run out of his ammo most of the time that you play him. Something else that can get you a lot of free kills though is making sure that you're warmed up every single time that you play. It's as quick as queuing the game, but going into the shooting range as you queue, just to make sure that you're at least a little fresh. I would do it 1 round on the 1x scope, 1 round on the 2.5, and you should be fine. If you want an actual warm-up though, go into endless drill, use both of the scopes, then run an arcade. And while you're queuing for said arcade, use the shooting range, and after about 1 or 2 arcades, you should be fine. Something else that can get you a lot of free kills is not solo queuing. When you solo queue, you're essentially just putting yourself at an unnecessary disadvantage. I know sometimes it can be hard to find teammates, especially if you're a content creator, but when you solo queue, there's less coordination on your team, there's less stratting, there's less comms, and when you're with a 5-stack, there's more of everything I just talked about. Another tip that you need for your mindset is making sure that you have a mission-based mindset. Having a mission-based mindset essentially makes it to where you're never just sitting around doing nothing. As an attacker, your mission should always be to plant the bomb. So if you're ever at a doubt as to what it is you need to be doing, make sure that what you're doing makes it to where planting the bomb is easier. If you're a support player and you don't know what to do, maybe you can't get the wall open, well, your mission is to get the bomb down. So making sure that your entries get into sight is an easy way to do that, so just drone in your entries, right? So if you ever have a puzzle that needs to be solved as to what it is you need to do something that makes it to where you can plant easier. That is always the best case scenario of what you need to be doing, so that you're never just sitting doing nothing. Another mindset tip that you need is to make sure that you're not roaming to get kills. Your job as a roamer is to waste time. If you can waste a good 1.5 to 2 minutes of the attacker's time, they only get 1 minute to attack the bomb site, which is not a lot of time, especially with the amount of utility they have to use and the amount of kills that they have to get. If you were to get 1 kill on the roam and die immediately, they would still have 4 players and 3 minutes left to be able to do anything they'd want to do, which is still great for them. So make sure you're roaming to waste time and not to get kills. Something else you should be doing is getting on cameras at the start of every single round. When you're a defender, especially if you're anchoring, there's not much you can really do other than just sit around and wait. And like I said, you never really want to be doing that. So make sure you get on cameras at the start of the round. That way you know where they're pushing and you can react accordingly. The same exact thing can be said for attack. When you don't know what else to do, the best thing you can do is to set up flank cameras and watch them. If you know your teammates are getting walls open, they're working a deployable shield, they're pushing the bomb site, they're getting kills, and you actually have nothing that you can be doing that wouldn't otherwise be done by another teammate, just watch flank cameras, especially if you have no dead teammates that are watching them for you. Now, I know you should be worried about flanks, but something you shouldn't be worried about is your statistics. Having a low KD is fine if your rank is high. It is okay to be a champion with a 0.8 KD. I promise you, that is fine. It is better than being a copper with a 1.2. Your KD really does not matter. The only stat that actually matters is your win-loss if you're trying to get a high rank. Moving on from just mindset tips, I want to give you a cool strat for the top floor of Cafe with mutes. If you have the red walls reinforced and you want a mute jammer that you can put on the wall that can't be shot from the window, all you have to do is come all the way to the left and place your mute jammer vertically like this, and they will not be able to shoot that from the window, but this will cover the entire left side of the wall. If you want the right side of the wall covered, all you have to do is come to this drone hole and put it on the very far right next to the wall here, and now both mute jammers cover the walls and they can't shoot it from the window. This mute jammer also covers your hallway, but only about halfway, which is why you want another mute jammer on the right side of this cigar box here. Now they can't send a drone through this hallway, and if you don't want them to be able to send a drone behind you through this hallway, just put a mute jammer like this. With all of these mute jammers combined, you can sit and put a shotgun hole just like this, and if anybody drops the hatch, if you ADS, you will one-shot anybody, yes, even 3 armors if you hit the body. You also have a bunch of cover and they can't drone you, making this strat get you at least 1 free kill every single round. Just like you should be holding cigar box on Cafe, you also should be holding trophy on Oregon. A great strat to do is to bring anybody with a deployable shield and put it in trophy just like this. When you put a deployable shield in trophy, you can peek off of it and kill anybody on the master balcony from both sides of the shield, while still allowing you to play off the shield and be safe. You can also bring thorn mines, proximity alarms on Wamai, or a nitro cell on Warden to get free kills, or just to use for information, making this one of the best strats you can do for the top floor of Oregon. Speaking of trap operators, something that you really need to start doing is placing legion mines lower on staircases. If a legion mine is super high on the staircase right here, when an attacker does shoot or ends up hitting that legion mine, you'll have about half a second to react before their crosshair is already on your head. So you need to make sure that your legion mines are actually lower on the staircase. That way you have more time to be able to react to them being there, so you don't just immediately get your head taken off. Moving it back to the attack though, I need to talk about this droning tip. If you're ever droning into the building, over droning is a huge problem. Let's say I drone in from garage and I want to drone my bottom main stairs to rush down the basement. One thing that can happen is if I keep droning on and on and on, somebody in meeting could have already gone in and into garage right about here while I was on my drone. So make sure that when you're droning, you only drone about 2 to 3 rooms ahead of you. That way you can't miss drone people, and then once you've taken the space you've already droned, then get back on your drone and then start re-droning. Okay, I know this is clear. I'm gonna come in like this, and now I'm gonna re-drone. That way that you're not accidentally letting people slip by, but you're still droning at the same pace. Something else that you should be doing on attack is if you know that you and your team are more coordinated and better than the enemy team, is that you should be rushing every single round. Dealing with a rush requires serious coordination and communication between you and your team. So if you know that the enemy team is uncoordinated, especially compared to yours, you rushing is a great idea 9 times out of 10. Something else that can win you a lot of rounds is taking advantage of Peeker's advantage. Peeker's advantage essentially says that if you peek somebody, they will have less reaction time than you will because you're peeking off of information, allowing you to get easier kills and them to have harder gunfights. Anytime that there's the option of letting them peek you versus you peeking them, you should be the one peeking so that you don't have to rely on reaction time and they are the ones in the delay. Really quickly though, I want to bring it back to Legion because there is one thing I want to talk about. Legion mines, as you can see, are no longer invisible. I see way too often people just throwing Legion mines indoors like that, and that makes no sense. You're not going to get any Legion trap kills or damage with that at all. Because Legion mines are no longer invisible, Ubisoft essentially compromised by making them have a large area of effect around the Legion mine instead of you having to directly hit it to activate it. Meaning that you can put Legion mines on the side of doorways just like that, where they're hidden, and if people walk through the doorway, even if they're hugging the right side of it, they're still going to hit that Legion mine every single time. Something else that you need to start doing on defense is managing your aggression depending on the man count. So if you're in a 2v4, a lot of the times, if the enemy team is coordinated, they're just going to flood the site all at once, which makes it to where you're gonna lose because you can't take on 4 people as one person, or even 2 people. However, if you were to get aggressive before you gave them the time to flood the site and get a free kill or 2, evening out that man count to a 2v2, it'd be a lot harder for them to execute onto the site with the exact amount of people that you have on your team. So if you're ever down in man count, get aggressive, try to get a pick. If you're up in man count, be passive because there's really nothing that you have to do due to the fact that they're naturally just at a disadvantage. Another tip that you absolutely need for your ranked games is making sure that you're shooting hatches diagonally to one-shot them. Sometimes shotgunning hatches just doesn't one-shot them for some reason, but if you were to shoot it from diagonal angles like this, it is always going to one-shot the hatch. Another cool tip about the defense is if you're ever playing Echo, you can jump your cameras up outside and they gain some serious height if you want some information. So if I want to see if anyone's on the roof, all I have to do is drive outside and hop up like this and check. It's really nice to do. Now in this video, I've shown you a bunch of solo Q strats like the mute one, and I want to show you one more that's even more lethal than anyone that I've talked about in this video, and it actually has to do with Thorn. Now what sucks about attacking K9 when you're going to attack Chalet is that when you're up here and you rappel in or you come up the ladder, you're at the whims of anybody who's on this doorway, and if you want to escape, you have to do so very cautiously. To make things harder, all a Thorn player really has to do is put Thorn traps all around the K9 balcony just like this. That way if anybody hops in, they either have to stand here and die to your Thorn traps, or when you as a Thorn player run out and start shooting them, they'll die to that. Either way, they're going to die no matter what, and you have a 100% chance of getting a kill here. If you want a cool attacking strat for Chalet though, then make sure you rappel up to this mud window here. If you open up the bathroom window, you can see all the way into solar for anybody setting up site, and if you do it early enough, a lot of the times it can actually net you a free kill. Bringing it back to the defense though, I have a really specific tip that has to do with you holding angles. A lot of people will hold angles angles super tight, like pixel peaks, and because people are running across the angle, you don't have time to react to it and you'll just miss your shot. So when you're holding angles, give yourself a bit of room, just like this, so that when they do peak, you can still hit the shot, but you're able to swing out and actually kill people and react to them, whereas if you had a tight pixel, you wouldn't have been able to do that. Speaking of defensive tips, one thing that you really need to start doing is using every single reinforcement on the board. There are some times on some sites, especially like Canal, when people just don't know what to reinforce, there will be like 5 or 6 reinforcements left over. I actually see this the most on the trophy statue bomb site on Villa. You need to be using every single reinforcement. There's no reason not to. There's no reason to have a wall that they're able to shoot you from if they get a drone ping onto you. You might as well just reinforce walls, even if you don't know if it's going to do anything, just reinforce it. Unless it's on site, you know, when they have specific site set up for it. But if there's like 3 extra reinforcements and the whole site set up, go use them on the realm. Why not? You're not really going to do anything until 30 seconds when they're actually at the building anyways. You might as well just reinforce a few walls for fun. Something else on the defense you should really start considering doing is making more of your rotates vaultable if you know that they have shields. As a shield, having to vault through rotates really sucks because it locks you in an animation and exposes you from the side completely, allowing people to just gun you down. So if you know they're going to run shield on the defense, just start making more of your rotates in a vaultable way. That way they have to vault more often and you can get more free easy damage. Moving it back to the attack though, I want to talk about a tip that has to do with switching your secondaries. If you're ever in a gunfight and you're spamming past a doorway like this and they hear you stop shooting, if they're a good player, they're going to swing you because they're going to think that you're reloading. So anytime that you mag dump and you're out of ammo, instead of reloading, immediately switch to your secondary and start backing up and pre-firing. And then once you have cover again, reload your primary weapon immediately. That way you're never at a disadvantage and you never just don't have a gun out with 0 ammo in it and you get swung, and you're at least able to defend yourself while you go reload that primary weapon. Something else you should never do in a gunfight if you know you're going to get swung by somebody is proning. Proning, as you can hear, makes a lot of noise. So if I'm an attacker and I'm trying to swing this dude and I hear this noise, I know all I have to do is aim down and start pre-firing, and because he's prone, he can't move. So if I'm pre-firing, I'm just going to murk that dude 9 times out of 10. So never, when you're in a gunfight and someone's close to you, should you ever prone unless you know they're swinging you at the exact time you're proning. Something else that you should be doing is going into your settings and turning on visible throw trajectory in your settings. This makes it to where if you need to get an exact nitro cell onto a very specific point, but you don't know if you're able to do it, all you have to do is hold out your nitro cell and it'll show you exactly where it's going to land, so you know when and how to make that throw happen. Next up, let's talk about this trick with Azami. You might not know this, but if you fall next to a barricade, it just completely breaks. You can use this to your advantage though. If you have a barricade covering a window like this, any attacker is going to expect you to melee it 3 times and then run out of it. They'll never have the reaction time or expect you. They'll never expect or have the reaction time to expect the barricade just breaking immediately and then you running out and killing them. Another cool zombie trick that you can use is if you come into the kids room right here, put in a zombie barricade at the bottom left corner of this leg of the bunk, just like this. And then you should get a vault prompt to actually hop in the bunk right here, which allows you to be inside the bunk. You can even close yourself off just like this. And now you can sit here and watch the rotate into sight. Moving it back to the attack though, whenever you're rappelling on windows, you never want to rappel straight on the window like this. This rappel line will give you away to anybody who's actually on the window looking at you rappel. If they see the rappel line, they might hop out and look straight down because they know that you're right here. Instead, you always want to rappel on the side of windows and shoot them open like this. Not only do you not expose yourself to anybody on the window when you do this, but it'll be much harder for them to pinpoint exactly where on the wall you are, and because they can't see your line, you might be able to go above the window and go on the other side without them knowing. My next tip is actually pretty map specific, and that is that you never really want to go to the basement of Chalet when you're picking your bomb choice. The 2 tertiary sites, that being bar gaming and kitchen dining, are actually way better bomb sites and more defender sided for that matter than the basement is. The only way that you can play the basement and it makes sense is if you have an Azami. So if Azami is banned, I would honestly learn bar and learn kitchen and learn how to set those sites up, because chances are if you don't know how to defend it, the attackers don't know how to attack it. So you'll actually have a lot better of a time if you go these bomb sites than the basement, which usually is actually won by attackers. Next up, I'm going to teach you how to one-hit barricades. If you want to hit a barricade, you have to do it from pretty far away so that you get the most amount of barricade per hit. Kind of like this. That was a pretty big portion of the barricade, and all you have to do to be able to one-hit it is shoot open the top and bottom portion like that and vault through. If you do it quick enough, it's actually quicker than meleeing it once, twice, and then 3 times. So once you get good at it, it kind of makes sense to do it over just doing it normally. Now that we're on bank though, I need to show you this tip with a Rooney. If you put in a Rooney gate on a hatch just like this, and you're able to play below the hatch, if you stand on the desk like this, the Rooney gate will deactivate. As you can hear, there's no noise when I crouch. As you can hear, there's no noise, but if I were to get off the desk here, you can hear that light buzzing. That's my Aruna gate, and if I get on the desk, it goes away. So if they try to put a thermite or any Hibanas on the hatch, all you have to do is like slightly walk away, and it goes back on, and it'll kill anything on the hatch. Next up, if you're ever trying to turbo trick a wall and you don't know when it's going to expire and you're going to need to throw another one, just know that each turbo canister lasts 12 seconds. So if you throw a turbo canister and you count backwards down from 12, once it hits 0, just throw your other turbo canister and you'll be good. For this next tip, this is with Maestro or any bulletproof camera in the game, but if you literally just look higher as you're placing it, you'll be able to place it very high, which just makes them sort of out of melee range, because if you just look up with your camera, they won't be able to melee it at all, no matter how hard they try. Whereas if it was normal height like this, even if you were looking all the way up, I'd still be able to melee it. So make sure you always put your Maestro cameras just a little bit higher. Next up, we have a game sense tip, and that is to always keep in mind where your teammates are. For one, knowing where they are can tell you where you need to go. If there's an angle that's uncovered on the defense, you know where to go based off of if your teammates are holding it or not. If you're on attack and there's one place that really needs to be held and no one's holding it, now you know where you need to go. But also, if you have teammate outlines off because you hate having to look at enemies through your teammates' outlines, knowing where they are is the difference between you accidentally shooting them when they surprise you or not. The next game sense tip that I have for you is making sure that you're pre-firing more. Most of the time when you play Siege, when you die, you're going to be left over with at least like 50 rounds. So it's okay for you to be pre-firing a lot in your games because you're not going to use all of the ammo anyways. You might as well spray it and maybe get a free kill in the round. Bringing it back into the custom games though, did you know that whenever you run, you actually run faster if you switch to your secondary? It's a very, very slight difference, but something to note if you want to get someplace just a little bit faster. Another thing you might not have known is that when Yin Candelas are rolling, you can actually shoot them as they're rolling to stop them from going off completely. This is why they actually added that delay this new season, because they wanted it to make it to where if you fully charge a Yin Candela, there's still a second of it rolling before you can shoot it if you're good enough. Clearly without a crosshair, I'm not, but you get the idea. If you want your aim to be better than mine though, then you need to make sure that you're aiming calmly. Having a really tense hand that's very tight on your mouse can make it to where you have very inaccurate micro adjustments in your aim. If you aim very calmly though, and you're not as stressed with your actual forearm muscles, then aiming with your micro movements is a lot easier and more precise. Now that we're already on bank though, I do want to show you this cool Twitch drone spot. If they're ever playing Mira looking onto the garage wall in the basement of bank, just throw your Twitch drone in this drone hole over here, and then you can easily zap the Mira on the wall, then get the default camera, hop down into vault, and then from here get the second Mira, and you can get both mirrors in the first 30 seconds of the round. I do this every time and it has not failed me yet. If you're the Mira player in question though, then you need to make sure that after you place down your mirrors, you shoot out the little portion of soft wall around your mirrors. This actually makes it a lot easier to see through as you have nothing else obstructing your vision, so you get a more clear picture of what you're looking at for nitro lineups like that. Now that we're already on the basement of bank though, I do want to show you this really cool angle you can get from the back side here. All you have to do is go to the right side of this bomb and you can see all the way into CC through these head holes if you want to. And even crazier angles if you get on top of this desk here. You can look to the left and get an angle onto the door or any one of your Goyos to deny the plant, and they'll never expect your head to be all the way up there. You won't be able to do this strat though if you're in a 1vx clutch scenario, which is why I'm going to teach you how to be better at them. When you're in a 1vx scenario, if you want to win and clutch the round out, you have to stop thinking of it as a 1vx scenario. Instead, you have to think of it as you taking 1v1s over and over and over again, because that's how you clutch up. You isolate one gunfight, then you isolate the next gunfight, then you isolate the next gunfight. At no point should you be in a gunfight with two people at the same time. That is how you lose. Now, we've talked a lot about barricades in this video, so I want to show you how to correctly break a barricade. Instead of breaking the bottom of it like this, that makes a lot of noise, so they're gonna know you're gonna run out and you're just gonna die. Instead, all you have to do is shoot out the bottom little panel here and then melee the little strip of wood left over on the right, just like this, and make sure you melee it twice. Then that makes way less noise and you're still able to do the run out if you want to. Now, some people are saying that this is patched in the new season. As somebody who played in the test server or the pre-release server as well, I do think this is a bug, but if it isn't in the next season, then I guess I'll eat my words. But that's enough of bank tips. I'm gonna actually bring you onto the basement of Clubhouse. Did you know that the moto hatch and the kitchen hatch of Clubhouse are both K-trickable? Well, if you want to K-trick the moto hatch, all you have to do is get on this blue box and then shimmy your way onto these cardboard boxes here. Well, if you want to do it, all you have to do is get on top of this blue box, then shimmy your way onto these cardboard boxes just like this. From here, you can throw a Cade Claw just like this, which will electrify that hatch, just like that, and then you can pick it up and trick it as you please. The kitchen hatch is much simpler. All you have to do is get on this box, aim your K claw right here at this line, throw it right there, and from here the hatch will be electrified. Then you can pick it back up and just rinse and repeat. Now that we're here though, there is one cool angle that I do want to show you. If you put a hole slightly higher than your normal rotate, just like that, and then you knife a chair, you can get on top of this table and look at anybody coming down the secret stairs for an easy kill. You can also get this angle if you go to the church wall and look above just like this, allowing you to get free kills that nobody will see coming. Now the last angle I'll show you on this map is actually if you're defending the basement, what you can do is get on this gym hatch and open it. From here, if you prone and look above this wall here, you can clearly see the main stairs just like that. As you can see, those are my bullet holes right there, so if anyone is bottom main, you'll be able to kill them, and this is their point of view. They'll have to shoot this little triangle right here, which is almost impossible to hit, especially because most of them have 1x scopes. Next up is a tip with Lion. As Lion, you don't want to scan for information, but you want to actually scan to make people still once you have that information. When people get Lion scanned, they're gonna sit still. You know that's gonna happen. So you can use this to your advantage by droning somebody out, pinging where they are, and immediately scanning, so that if they move, they get Lion pinged, and if they don't, well, you just drone them so you know where they are anyways, and you can pre-fire them and kill them. Moving it back to bank though, I want to show you a great way that you can get 3 default cameras just from outside this one spawn. For the first default camera, as you can see, you can shoot the one that's over here. I already shot it out of habit before recording this segment, but you get the idea. You can shoot that one. If you go close to this building right here, you can look up through this grate. As you can see, there's our second one right there. And then if you shoot through this window right here, you'll actually see the third one for top square, which you're able to shoot just like that. On a map like Bank, where everything is super long range, one thing that you really need to do when you're holding an angle on defense is to make sure that you're actually backed up off of whatever you're holding. If I were to hold top square like this and jiggle peek it, even when I back up off the wall, they're still going to be able to see my shoulder and my leg. But if I, however, were backed up all the way to like right here, let's say, and I were to jiggle peek that same exact angle, they wouldn't be able to see me when I backed up to the wall, making it a lot safer to peek things from farther away from whatever you're peeking off of. Moving it back to Chalet though, I want to show you a cool spawn peek that you can do from the game's window. You obviously don't want to do this if you're playing inside of bar, but if you're playing basement, the top floor, or kitchen, making sure that you melee the right side of this barricade to where it doesn't break the glass, but still being able to peek through the window, makes it to where if anybody's running through this trail right here out of the helipad spawn, typically, especially if, you know, you're in the basement, they're gonna run straight to the left without even looking at this window, so you can get a free kill just like this to anybody who's running past this path here. Something else you should do as a defender is if they are rushing a lot, which I talked about earlier in my video, you should be sitting on site as much as possible. If you know they're gonna rush and they're gonna hit site hard and fast, roaming isn't gonna do anything, because the whole point of roaming, again, is to waste time. And if they're not spending time roam clearing you and they're spending their very little time rushing the site, roaming will not do anything. So if they're rushing a lot, make sure that you are anchoring. The next thing you need to know about Siege is if you have a turbo canister and you throw it at your feet, there's a few abilities that actually don't work on you anymore. For one, Glaz can't see you in his thermal scope because you're cold, obviously, so you're not going to appear on a thermal scope. And also, Deimos cannot track you when you're inside of your canister, so you can effectively counter both of those operators just by throwing one of these at your feet. Bringing it to the attack, though, one tip that you need to know is if you're going for a plant, you shouldn't always plant in the default spot. Default spots exist so that if you need to go for a plant and there's people in sight, you can plant without having to worry about those people. For instance, if I'm behind the trash can, I don't have to worry about the rotate or blue stairs or main stairs. But if nobody's on site, you might as well plant somewhere else where you don't even need the cover. If no one's in sight, I might as well plant right in front of this breach right here instead, and then walk outside. That way, if they go for a defuse, I can easily see them as they're defusing and not have to peek around a wall if they're trying to ninja defuse. But you'll never have to worry about that as a defender if you're able to utilize sound cues. What do I mean by this? Every single surface that you have in Rainbow Six Siege sounds different depending on what you're walking on. So if I turn up my audio for this example, if I walk around on tarps, it sounds a lot different than if I were to walk on concrete. See how it's more of a deep, bassy sound compared to tarps? They're a little bit lighter. If you memorize every sound cue, whether it be wood, marble, tarps, concrete, whatever it may be, you can know people's exact positioning a lot better. Another thing that you can do to increase your awareness is learning map knowledge. And my biggest tip to do that is to make sure that you just go into custom games of maps randomly to learn callouts. If you look at the bottom of my screen, right here, where it says basement boiler room, obviously I know, hey, this is called boiler. If I go into the hallway, this is called a corridor, but most people call this highway, so I guess it's a bad example. But if I stand in this room, it says laundry room. So now I know if I call out laundry, that means someone is in this room. If I call out washing machines or dryers, I know somebody's here. If I call out supply, I know that's what this room is because it's on my compass. People call this E-box, E standing for electric, because this is called electric room. So the more you just go around in custom games looking at the names of rooms, the better you can give and receive callouts in the game. Something else that can help you in game is not focusing on past losses. Whenever you lose a round, a lot of the times you can get killed. Whenever you lose rounds, a lot of the times you'll get tilted and start thinking about the past rounds and what you could have done differently. There's actually zero point to doing that. Just focus on the next round and try to stay level-headed so you don't accidentally make mistakes in the heat of passion. Bringing it to the attack though, one tip that I really need to tell y'all about is to make sure that you're droning every single corner. Let's say that I want to drone into this shower hallway and I want to drone out shower to maybe do a backside push if they're in the basement. Well, if you don't know, a very common corner roamers will sit in is this corner right about here. If you're droning in through the hallway and you just look through the door, check shower like this, you're actually not going to see the person tucked in this corner, which can get you killed a lot. So droning out every single corner when you're droning rooms is crucially important. Speaking of drone tips though, one thing that I need to tell you about, especially if you're solo queuing, is to never trust your teammates when they're droning. A lot of the times your teammates will have the idea to drone you in, which is completely fine. The only issue is that they kind of suck at droning you in sometimes, meaning they won't check corners, they won't check rooms, which can get you killed, and I know has gotten me killed a lot of times in my ranked games. Another aspect of Siege that's really important on the attack is to make sure that you're not just fully mag dumping a barricade when you break it. If you magged up a barricade and immediately reload, somebody on the other side of this barricade can be waiting for you to stop shooting, and then they're just going to swing you, and because you're reloading, you're just going to die. So instead, when you're breaking a barricade, break it with only about half of your magazine, then reload, and then break it again. That way, when it is broken, you still have a bunch of ammo left to use in case somebody does want to swing you. Now, just like you shouldn't be trusting your teammates to drone you in, you really should not be trusting your teammates to hold angles. A lot of times in my ranked games, when I see my teammate holding an angle and then I hold a different angle, I'm like, surely this guy has my back and a random enemy isn't just gonna slip in and kill me from his side of the map that he's holding, right? And then sure enough, that's literally what happens. Your teammate will be holding a room and somehow he just lets two enemies walk in behind him completely unscathed. It's the craziest shit I've ever seen, but it happens literally all of the time. I don't know how, but don't trust your teammates to hold angles. Something else you should never trust your teammates to do is shoot drones, which is why in the prep phase, you should honestly prioritize shooting and killing drones more than anything else. I understand site setup is important, but if you have the option of stopping yourself mid-reinforcement to kill a drone and then going back to reinforce that wall later, I would honestly do that, because if a drone walks by you and you're like, surely my teammates will get it, your teammates won't. A lot of the times, they'll just let the drone walk past them just like you did, so make sure that you go and kill the drone. Speaking of tips with barricades though, one thing that you really should be doing when you're spawn peeking or trying to peek through a window in general is never just shooting the window like this and then peeking it. The glass right here being broken, whether it be partially or completely fully, gives a way to an attacker that I'm spawn peeking here, not only because it makes noise, but because it's easier to see a barricade on the other side with no glass in front of it. So if you want to peek a window without breaking the glass, all you have to do is look at the side of the barricade, shoot 2 bullets into it like this, and then the barricade will break, but the glass won't, making no noise and still putting a little bit of visible protection between you and the enemy. Now, a tip that I can give you, no matter if you're on the attack or the defense, is that whenever you're swinging an angle trying to clear a room or you're trying to quick peek for information, you don't want to just wide swing something. This is due to the fact that when you wide swing, you're exposing yourself to multiple angles at once, and even if you have the aim of somebody like Bolo, being able to flick to multiple targets at once is literally impossible. So when you're trying to clear a room, peek each individual angle that you know exists one at a time. That way you can take one gunfight on at a time if there's multiple people peeking where you're at. So if I know people like to play next to the stressor, they like to play it behind the bomb chassis, or they like to use a rotate here, what I do is I'd go through a mental checklist. Okay, I'm gonna peek these holes. Okay, no one's there. I'm gonna peek the stressor. Okay, no one's there. I'm gonna peek the bomb. Oh, one's there. Pre-fire. Okay, let's check the rotate. No one's there. Let's check the feed holes. No one's there. Okay, now I'm gonna go in instead of just wide swinging the door and hoping that you flick to somebody. Now, we've been talking about a lot of different barricade tips on defense, but one thing I think is really underutilized about barricades is that you can place them literally anywhere on the map, and this will slow down attackers and give information on them when they eventually break the barricade and make a bunch of noise. So if there's an area of the map that you know nobody's going to roam and you know nobody's going to play, you might as well just barricade it off so that it makes noise and it slows them down when they try to push you. Now, the next thing that you should do is actually in your settings. If you go to the controls tab and scroll down to drone deployment, you should be putting it on advanced. If you don't, it essentially puts you on your drone the second you throw it out, which can get you killed if people are waiting for you to get on your drone to then swing you. So make sure you turn on advanced, that way you can throw your drone, have your gun up and bait it, and if no one swings you, then get on your drone. Something else that you should be doing on attack is baiting hatches with your sledgehammer as sledge. A lot of the times defenders will have a pre-placed nitro on the hatch, or they'll just sit with a nitro in their hands stands below the hatch waiting for your sledgehammer to be pulled out, which does make noise, by the way, and then they'll put a nitro on the hatch and blow it up. So as Sledge, all you have to do to avoid this is pull out your sledgehammer and back up. This will bait out the nitro cell, and then you can open the hatch whenever you want to. Moving on from Sledge, let's talk about a different attacker, which is Ace. Something that's pretty underutilized about Ace is the fact that as an attacker, you can shoot the second Selma charge on the wall to not have to make a rotate if you just want to make head holes that you can duck under for cover. And then all you have to do to still make that hole is make a hole on the other side, giving you cover for head holes while still allowing you to rotate into the site if you want. The next thing you should be doing on attack is always using an ACOG. You should never ever be using just 1x scopes on attack unless you're running 4:3 aspect ratio, which in my opinion you shouldn't be running. But regardless of that, if you're running 1610, always be running ACOGs. If defenders have ACOGs and you have a 1x scope, they're going to naturally have an advantage over you, making gunfights a lot harder and angles a lot harder to contest when you're actually shooting people. Speaking of attachments, my next tip actually has to do with the barrel attachments. If you never know what to run on your guns, when in doubt, just run flash hider if you're on PC to control vertical recoil, and if you're on console, run compensator to control the horizontal recoil. Now, the next tip that I have for you is that if you are in a slump gameplay wise, you just haven't been doing good the past few games, honestly, my best piece of advice is to take a break. Taking a break a lot of the times can give you the mental reset that you need to actually start playing better, even if it's just for a day or two. Something else you can do if you're losing a lot, at least when you're doing front side takes, is to try a backside take. Let's say the bomb is actually CC and cash. If you're pushing rafters, you're pushing plat wall, and nothing's really working, try pushing master. All you have to do really is put some gridlocks on a flank, drone all of this out, and then you pretty much have con control for absolutely free. So doing backside takes honestly can simplify a lot of the attacks for you if front side takes aren't really working. The next thing you should be doing if you're on attack is whenever you're leaning trying to take a gunfight, don't unlean mid gunfight. As you can see, when I'm leaning and I stay leaning, my crosshair stays in the same place no matter what. But if I were to lean and unlean, my crosshair moves about a half an inch on my screen. This can throw your aim off a lot if you're not prepared for it, making it to where when you swing and you're leaning, just stay leaning the entire gunfight. Don't lean and then unlean mid gunfight. Speaking of leaning, honestly, my next tip is that you should always be leaning. There's no point, especially when you're swinging anything, to not be leaning, as it makes it to where only your head is peeking out instead of your entire head and your body. So when in doubt, you should never really be unleaned ever. You should always be leaning. Now, just like you should be always leaning, you should always have a purpose. Don't ever just be doing nothing. A lot of the times when I spectate people, they're just literally sitting in sight doing nothing, especially my support players. Like I said, when in doubt, just be on cameras. It will help you so much in your game, more than a lot of people will ever know. Now, one thing that you should stop doing, at least in the amount that most people do it, is actually sprinting. Sprinting makes a lot more noise, and you're not honestly saving a lot of time doing it than if you were to just be normally walking. So make sure that you're not sprinting too much and making extra noise when you don't really need to. Let's move it back to an attacking tip though. Speaking... This is, again, another barricade tip, which is pretty funny, but if you want to actually enter barricades a lot more quietly, breaking an entire full barricade makes a lot of sound, which is why you'll see a lot of people melee a barricade like this, melee it a second time, and then now they're able to literally just crouch through it like this without making a bunch of noise and alerting all of the enemies that you're coming through here. Now, just like you can utilize 2-hit barricades on the attack, you can also utilize 2-hit barricades on defense. Let's say, for example, that I have this barricaded, but I purposefully put 2 melees in this barricade just like this. An attacker's gonna see this and think, oh, nice, I can just sneak through this. When in reality, you have 2 Kapkan traps on this side of the barricade waiting for them to walk through this barricade. Because it's 2-hit, they're not gonna be able to see it when they walk through. So they're just gonna walk through and die to your Kapkan traps. Speaking of barricade Kapkan trips, one thing that's cool about barricades when paired up with Kapkans is that normally, from an attacker's perspective, this is what Kapkan traps look like on a doorway. But if you barricade this doorway and then immediately unbarricade it like this sliver of barricade is still left behind that actually covers your Kapkan traps a bit more, so attackers are more likely to walk through them. Speaking of trap operators though, I want to show you a very specific frost mat for workshop on border. If you come to this piece of drywall right here and you melee it in the center, it makes it to where when you put a frost mat in that drywall, it actually completely hides it for whatever reason. And then if you pair that up with a bulletproof camera on this wall, they'll come to melee that bulletproof camera and step right on your frost mat. Speaking of tips on border though, a lot of the times when you're defending the bathroom site of border, people will send a RAM device through this window that creeps all the way on top of the bathroom floor goes through this wall, and then goes on the floor in front of it. So if you want to avoid a lot of this vert, all you have to do is reinforce this archives wall when you play the basement. A lot of the times reinforcing this anyways to protect you when you're inside of archives is nice anyways, so make sure that when you come to bathroom and tellers of border that you reinforce this archives wall. Another defensive tip that you need is that when you're trying to swing people with shotguns to kill them, make sure that you're ADS'd. When you ADS with a shotgun, it makes it a lot more precise with how you can move because your sensitivity is actually slowed down compared to your un-ADS sensitivity, meaning that you'll put more pellets onto the target a lot easier. Also, some shotguns have increased bullet choke when you're ADS'd compared to when they're not ADS'd, making it to where you're literally more accurate when you ADS with your shotgun after this new update that just came out. Something else that happens when you're ADS is that you have a crosshair. So today I'm going to talk about crosshair colors. The best crosshair colors that you should have are either green or purple. These are both colors that are not common in the game, so it's less likely that these two colors will blend in with any environment that you're in. A blue crosshair blends in with a lot of blue walls and blue stairs, and the same can be said for a red or default crosshair. The other colors are just too bright or too dark, making them not viable when spawn peeking or on dark maps, making purple and green just the best two crosshair colors in the game. Speaking of attachment tips though, I want to go into Nox attachments really quickly. One thing that you're supposed to be doing as Nook when you're playing her is making sure that you are stealthy. When you shoot cameras, you pretty much give your position completely away, but if you have a suppressor on one of your guns, that actually doesn't make that the case anymore. Now, I don't recommend running the suppressor on the FMG9 because the recoil is a lot, especially for my PC players, which is why this tip is talking about you putting the suppressor on the deagle. A lot of the times the deagle has a lot of recoil, so you're not going to use it a lot anyways, so having a suppressor on it just to shoot default cams so you don't give away your location is pretty nice in most scenarios. Now, I've been talking a lot about shotguns in these past few tips, so something else you should really note with shotguns is the more you move around, the more the crosshair on your screen expands, meaning that if you're trying to open walls with a shotgun, a lot of the times moving while trying to open these walls makes the holes even bigger, making rotates actually a lot easier to make and run through in a quicker period of time. Now, a secondary gadget I haven't really talked about in this video is a bulletproof camera. A big weakness that bulletproof cameras suffer from, is if you shoot them from the sides, they obviously die. But there is a way to prevent this. All you have to do is put it inside of a reinforced wall. Just shotgun open a part of the wall you want to reinforce, and then reinforce it. Then go back to the other side and put your bulletproof camera inside of the reinforced wall. This will make it to where people can't actually shoot it from the sides, allowing your bulletproof camera to be a lot safer. Speaking of tips you can do with Frost, one thing I think that is pretty heavily underutilized with Frost is doubling up frost mats on windows that people can't rappel on. If you put 2 frost mats under this window and somebody hops in, they're not going to be able to shoot both frost mats as they're hopping in, pretty much guaranteeing that you'll get it down under this window. Now that we're on skyscraper though, I do want to show you this really cool angle. To do this angle, come into dragon and shoot open the top portion of this soft wall just like this. This allows you to sit on top of shrine and look at anybody coming in through the terrace door. If you come to the left, you can also see the terrace window, making it pretty easy for you to get anybody that is outside on the balcony from a very far angle away. Let's move back to chalet though, where I'm going to show you this cool cade claw spot to electrify both of these wine walls. All you have to do is go up the west main staircase. Then come into dining, pull out anything that can destroy a table, and shoot open this portion of the table. Then throw your cade claw on the other side of it just like this, and that will electrify both of these walls into wine cellar. If you want to be able to counter cade though, then make sure that you bring Thatcher. One of the best tips that I can give you with Thatcher is to try to space out your EMPs. One thing I see so often is Thatchers will throw their first EMP and then immediately throw their second EMP. This is really, really bad. Instead, you want to throw one EMP, wait 1, 2, and then on the 3rd second, throw your second EMP. This will make it to where if anybody is cade tricking, you completely counter it. Somebody else who can open walls is Maverick. If you want to silently open a barricade as a Maverick, you don't have to shoot it or melee it. All you have to do is get your torch out and literally just blowtorch the barricade like this, which will break the barricade and allow you to just walk in. Moving it back to defense, one thing that I do want to show you is that it is still possible to hide Valkyrie cameras in leaves without the leaves just completely breaking. To do this, all you have to do is find a pot of leaves like this and throw the Valkyrie camera not on top of the leaves, but just behind the actual leaves themselves. That way, no attacker can still see it, but if you get on the camera, you can clearly still see them. Not only can you hide cameras in leaves, but on Chalet, you should really be hiding drones in leaves too. There are plenty of these pots right here all around the map, and if you jump your drone into the leaves, you can hide them in the pots just like this, which is really hidden to the defender eye, but you can clearly still see anywhere you want to. If you want to be able to counter this though, that brings me into my next tip as a defender, which is that you need to constantly be pre-firing common drone spots. If I know people commonly put a drone on Owl right here, I'm just going to go around in the prep phase and quickly do this, go around to the pot, quickly do this, make sure there's no drones in here, and then I'll go set up sight as I do usually. Just making sure that you're pre-firing common drone spots wherever they may be is really important on the defense. Now earlier we went over a tip for bulletproof cameras. One thing that I don't see being utilized enough is the fact that these bulletproof cameras have an EMP on them. So if you see any electronic gadget, you can zap them with this EMP and disable them like a mute jammer. But you can also do this to enemy players. If there's a Finka or an Iana on their team and you shoot them with an EMP, they won't be able to use their ability for a short amount of time. Speaking of secondary gadgets, I have a tip for you with hard breaching charges. A lot of the times when you put a hard breach charge down on a wall and it explodes, you have to vault through it because it's so high. As you can see, I have to vault through this to be able to get through it, and that's really bad for this gadget. However, you can make these to where you don't have to vault through them and you can just crouch through them. If you pull it out, crouch and look as low as you possibly can, and then put it on the wall like this. This allows me to just crouch through it and walk through it, as opposed to having to vault, which is a lot safer for you. Now, just like you can throw hard breaching charges on a wall to make it specific for you to crouch through it, you can do the exact same thing for H charges. Instead of aiming your H charge in the middle of a wall, actually aim it about 1/4 of the way down on the wall, just like this. Now, because the radius of explosion is still pretty huge, you're not going to be able to hit your head on this thing, and you'll be able to crouch through it just like normal. If you want to make it sprinting, all you have to do is put an ace above that, and then now you can sprint and walk through it, making it a lot safer than just a crouching or vaulting wall. Another breacher on attack that's really good is Ash, and I want to show you a cool lineup for her on the top floor of Oregon. For this lineup, shoot the ammo crates right here on the armory cabinet. Then use an Ash charge on this armory wall here. And now you get an angle onto anybody in lower attic or using the kids rotate. Another great strat for an attacker is this strat with Osa. If you're ever attacking gym bedroom on Clubhouse and you need a way to cover the CC window from anybody shooting you when you're on highway, just put an Osa shield on this window. Unless they have impact grenades with Aroma right here, which typically they don't because Castle plays here, they're not going to be able to get this Osa shield, and you can play on highway for absolutely free. Moving it back to the defense though, I want to talk about a great Cade Claw you can use for the bathroom wall on the basement of Skyscraper. To do this, just come in the minibar, prone right here, and shoot this yellow pillow under the couch. Then throw your Cade Claw under the couch just like this, and as you can see, both of these walls are electrified. If you're ever playing the top floor in karaoke though, and you want a Cade Claw for the geisha wall here, all you have to do is come downstairs and throw a Cade Claw directly below it just like this, and as you can see, the wall is electrified. Bringing it back to attacking tips, I want to talk about this tip for Buck, and that is to avoid using your shotgun for kills whenever you can. It is much better to use an AR that does a lot of damage very quickly versus a shotgun that does very little damage each hit that you do. As you can see, it did 23 damage to the body. If I aim to the head, it does 23 again pretty consistently, which makes the shotgun pretty terrible for most ranged gunfights. A great tip for the defense though is that when you're placing deployable shields, not only should you never place deployable shields flush with a doorway, but you should never place them flush with a wall. If you place them flush with a wall, you won't actually be able to see the sides of the deployable shield, but if you move the deployable shield just a little bit to the right or to the left, depending on whatever wall is there, you can peek off of both sides of it and peek above it, which just adds more versatility to where you can peek. There are some walls like this specific one though, where it's thicker at the bottom and thinner at the top, allowing you to get crazy pixel peeks even if it is flush with the wall, but for most walls, this will not be the case. But with that out of the way, that is it for today's video. Check out this next video, and I hope we'll see you there. From uncounterable mirror angles to drone spots that will make your mind break, here are 28 Rainbow Six Siege secrets that you need to know. The first of which is going to be on border. This is a Mira one-way angle that is uncounterable for the defense. The first thing you're going to do is reinforce the armory to archive single wall right here. Then crouch, equip your Mira, and put it as low as you possibly can on this single wall. From here, you're going to break your Mira window purposefully, which will allow you to sit all the way behind Sandwich and get a long angle onto anybody outside the archives window. This is completely uncounterable, and you're able to kill anybody planting. And you can also use this for information if you want to be able to get a nitro cell above this wall to deny the default plant, just like that. This is what it looks like from an attacker's POV. As you can see, you can't even see the person above that half wall. It's completely blind to the attacker eye, unless you were to go prone and then look, but nobody in their right mind is going to be doing that, and if they do, you're going to absolutely fry them. Now, that was just one out of 28 different tips that I'll be going over in this video. These get crazier and crazier as the video goes on, so make sure you stick to the end. The second of which being this insane nitro lineup if you're playing the bottom floor of Theme Park. To do this, get on top of this box, and then immediately look up. From here, you're going to break the floorboard just like this, and then also break the red wooden grating on the second floor right here. From here, pull your nitro cell out, and you're able to get an angle just like this to throw the nitro cell above the second floor, which if you go into the hallway will actually land... Oh, no shot, I missed it. Then pull your nitro cell out and throw it just like this. That nitro cell will land on the first floor right here and kill any single attacker that is in bottom dragon. Now, if you thought that lineup was insane, then you need to see this next lineup with Izami. Firstly, come into Box of Oregon. Then you're going to crouch and go as close to this reinforcement as you possibly can. Then, pull your Kiba out and look as far down as you can, putting the Kiba on the far left of the reinforcement. Then, when you throw the Kiba, immediately look forward so that your gun blocks the Izami from making a full circle. Once you've done that, get out your second Kiba barrier and throw it at this red line, just like this. This may not look like much, but if you prone, you should get a very, very tight angle just like this that you can shoot a hole from. From here, you're actually able to see anybody inside of barrels, and if you put this zombie barricade a little bit higher, you can actually see them a bit more just depending on your exact placement. You may be able to see a lot of them, but trust me, they are not able to see a lot of you. They're going to be too busy looking at these head holes and this door to notice the tight little pixel angle right there, which your head will be peeking them from, allowing you to get a lot of free kills. Something else that can get you free kills is this insane angle from the target range in the spawn of Oregon. What you'll do is go all the way over to these sandbags here, then use them to run on top of the other sandbags until you get all the way to the back left. From here, you can shimmy your way back to the other sandbags all the way back here, and then shoot open this kid's window. From here, you're able to get a crazy angle onto anybody rotating from attic into kids. And if you go to the left and stand, you can actually kill anybody coming in through the door, trying to rotate from dorms into the kids' room. This is the door that I was talking about, and from a defender angle, they can't actually really see you as you're going to be under this little hood in spawn, but you will clearly be able to see them, allowing you to get a lot of free kills if you're just patient enough. Something even crazier though is this Fenrir spot for the top floor of Canal. What you're going to do is remove the right side double window on Skybridge. Then put your Fenrir mine inside of the window behind where the barricade would usually go, right about here. Then you're going to re-barricade your window just like this, break open a slim portion of the barricade, and activate your break open a little portion of the barricade just like this, and then activate your Fenrir mine. When an attacker is walking through Skybridge, they have so many angles to look at. They have to look at the Skybridge desk, into CC on the server rack, and anybody in the site from top red hall. The last place they're going to look is on the other side of a window when they expose their back to all those angles I just talked about, making this Fenrir mine never really be found ever, but still allowing you to wait for the sound cue of it going off to go for a swing. Moving it back to the attack, let's talk about this insane glass angle for the top floor of Coastline. The first thing you'll do is rappel up to Ruins. Then from here, instead of just peeking the window and the door from the actual Ruins balcony, we're going to go a bit higher. To do this, make sure that you're in line with this portion of this wall on the right side of Ruins. Then turn around and shoot this exact pot here. When you do this, you'll be able to sprint up the wall, take a right, and land on top of this umbrella. From here, you can open up the double window here, as well as the hookah door. Then you can get even crazier angles at a more elevated surface that no defender will be expecting. Now, from a defender's POV, as you can see, the only place they'd be able to see you from is that place that I just shot right there. Because your head peeks over the wall and your body doesn't, this makes this angle almost completely invincible and very, very hard to fight if you're not a defender with an ACOG and good aim. Speaking of insane angles for the attack, let's move to Bank, where I'm going to show you this crazy Cali angle that you can get all the way inside of the site. To do this, make sure that you come to the main entrance of Bank and rappel on the left side double windows here. From here, you can shoot out the detention barricade just like this, and on the other side of that, as you can see, is the janitor rotate. So if you zoom in, as you can see, anybody inside of janitor or going through the rotate, you're easily able to kill if they try to rotate literally at all. You can also get crazy angles from both of these windows into detention itself, or even into the site if they're bandit tricking or sitting behind the table. This is a great rappel spot to have. But that's enough about angles for now, because it's time to show you some crazy cade claws for the basement of Chalet. Having a claw somewhere on this wine wall just sucks a lot, because most of the time, people who are inside of trench as an attacker can easily shoot it off of the wall. So instead of doing that, I want you to come up the west main stairs. From here, you can prone, shoot out this portion of the table inside of dining, and throw your Cade Claw all the way on the other side. Once you've thrown your Cade Claw just like that, as you can see with no Electro Claw on either side of the wall, both of these walls are electrified because you simply put one above in dining under the table. As insane as that is, it has absolutely nothing on this cap can spot for the top floor of Cafe. To do this, put a cap can trap on the door leading into freezer next to these trash bags right here. As you can see, that cap can trap is completely hidden inside of the trash bags. And if I put a second one right there as well, they're not going to see that at all, and it's going to blend in with the trash bags as long as they aren't exploded by something. As much as it is unlikely that people will even go through this door as an attacker, these are still great cap cans to use as they are extremely hidden. If you thought that was crazy though, then you need to see this angle for the basement of Nighthaven Labs. To do this angle, all you have to do is come into storage. Then you're going to make an impact hole right in front of this drone hole here. Once you've done that, as you can see clearly through the floor and through this drone hole, you're able to see the site wall. If you break open this site wall, depending on which one's not reinforced or reinforced, you can get an angle onto the actual exterior wall that thermites like to open to go for smoke plants. As you can see, these were the bullet holes I was just shooting, and from an attacker's perspective, they can't even see the angle unless they are prone. Even if they're prone, they can still see through the vert, but they're not going to hit that shot, and they're certainly not going to hit it through that tiny little drone hole right there. So this angle is one of the most broken angles in the entire game. An even crazier angle though is this one with Azami for the basement of Oregon. A lot of people do not know about this, but if you come onto this laundry table just like this and throw a kunai that's horizontal at this wooden beam in the middle of the table, just like this, all you have to do is peek to the left and you get a crazy angle onto anybody crouch peeking the double door here. Even if they walk through, you can still hit them in the head if you just go a little bit more to the left, which is absolutely great for you because most of the time they're not going to be able to see you through this angle. As you can see, these are my bullet holes, and if you come down here, this is what it looks like from an attacker's perspective. When you see in a zombie barricade, you're going to be checking the sides of it like this. You're never going to check under, which is why this angle is so powerful. You might be worried about anybody in freezer on the head holes, which is fair, but all you have to do to prevent that is throw an Azami on the very corner of the table like this. And then you could crouch behind this Azami, peek this angle, and if you need to, you can then peek this angle off of your Azami, making this a crazy, crazy strat for the basement of Oregon. Something we have not talked about in this video, though, is drone spots. So the first one we're going to talk about is for the top floor of Chalet. If you want to be able to do this, make sure that you hug the right side of this pillar here, and you walk all the way forward until you're about to fall off onto the staircase. Then pull your drone out and you want to bounce it on the topmost wooden chase just like this. Then throw your drone and bounce off that wooden chase. And from there, your drone is going to actually be on this wooden chase that's closest to the wall. This drone can watch all of Master, even into Solar and even into the Master hallway, depending on where you put it. It's one of the best cameras in the entire game, but it's not quite as good as this next drone spot. This drone spot is also for the top floor of Chalet. All you have to do for this one though is get on the Solar window, and then you can bounce it off of this chase right here. This will make it to where you have a crazy camera in Solar that can watch all of Solar, the Solar stairs, and then you can use it later in the round to drone out bathrooms so that you can rappel in the Solar window and go crazy if you want to. This is what it looks like from a defender's POV. Even if you back up and you're on the door, you cannot see this drone, but it can see your feet, which is why this drone is so good and honestly never really gets shot in my ranked games. Moving on from drone spots though, and talk about this insane angle that you can get for the top floor of Emerald Plains. To do this, all you have to do is come to the stool right next to the piano and green hall. Then crouch right about where I do and try to ADS at the stool. When you ADS at the stool and look around, at some point you should get a vault prompt. As you can see, I just got it, so I'm going to vault on top of the piano like this. From here, if you break this red drum and look to the right, you can also vault on top of the piano. Then break the grating right here. And from there, you'll be able to see anybody coming up the staircase leading from their spawn trying to attack the green balcony. As you can see, those are my bullet holes, which look like this when you're actually outside. And from an attacker's perspective, where those bullet holes are, as you can see, this is what they see. They literally cannot see you. The only way they could possibly see you again is if they prone, but if they've taken the time to prone, which takes a lot of time, you will have already killed them by then, making this angle impossible to attack as an attacker and can get you a lot of free kills. Something else that can get you free kills is this way to get on the roof of Chalet as a defender. To do this, break open the Ivy Hall window, then get on top of this display case. From here, you can get on top of the actual Ivy Hall. From here, you can get on the Ivy Hall windowsill just like this. And if you're fast enough, you can actually vault on top of the roof just like this. From here, as you can see, I'm a defender and I'm on the roof. I can run all the way across and get kills on anybody on the floor, or just kind of hang out. It's not all that practical, but it is fun. If staying inside the building is more your style though, then you need this Maestro camera for the armory, weapons, sight on layer. To do this, all you have to do is get on top of this green drone box. Then shimmy your way onto this plywood table, and after that, crouch and look down at this black drone box. From here, you can get a vault prompt to get in between the black box and the bomb. Then you can uncrouch, look all the way up, and put a Maestro camera under this vent. This is what it looks like from an attacker's POV. They will have no idea how to get onto there because from this angle, it's really hard to get on top of the black box because they won't know that there's actually a secret vault prompt to do so. This is what it looks like from the Maestro camera. You're able to zap anybody planting here or planting here. But if you're worried about them tucking in this corner to plant, all you have to do is vault on top of this blue table, shimmy your way on top of those cabinets, get on top of the plywood desk, shoot off the head of this armored person as well as the body inside the armor, and then go on top of the table, shimmy your way on top of that armor, put your Maestro camera right under the hatch, and now every single possible planting position from either side of this entrance of the site is covered. From an attacker's perspective, this is what it looks like. And without the proper knowledge to actually get up there, it's going to be pretty hard for any attackers to melee that Maestro camera, even if they're above on top of the hatch. An even crazier place that you can put a gadget is this fen replacement for the top floor of Oregon. All you have to do is come to this lamp and put it inside this lamp on the light bulb, just like this. Once activated, this honestly blends in perfectly with the actual lamp, and from an attacker's perspective, they're never going to find that. If they walk in here at all, maybe to go for the default plant or just in the room in general behind the couch, they will get blinded and have no idea where the Fenrir mine is. And the best part about it is that it's bulletproof, meaning they couldn't destroy it unless they sat here just like this and shot it, which is going to get them killed because they're out in the open, crouching like a moron. Speaking of crazy Fenrir spots that you need for ranked, let's go over the next one in this video, which is for the top floor of Coastline. If you're worried about people swinging this VIP door to get into your hallway when you're playing inside of Hookah, all you need to do is throw a Fenrir mine inside of this pot of plants here. This Fenrir mine, when activated, is completely hidden, and unless attackers actually vault on here and look straight down at it, they're not going to see it, and if they do that, they're going to get shot by 3 different angles, so this Fenrir mine is never getting found the entire game, I promise you. It is one of the best Fenrir mines in the game, and from an attacker's perspective, they're going to be looking all over here, never inside of a pot of plants. Moving it back to layer though, let's talk about this crazy angle you can get on the attack if they're in the basement. All you have to do is rappel on this wall outside. From here, you can shoot open the top left portion of the wall, just like this. With this angle, you can see over the huge wall in Big Garage onto anybody inside of the rocket hallway, rotating from missile to the locker room. Holding this angle for about 30 seconds to a minute will usually net you a free kill, but I don't recommend staying here any longer as you might just be wasting time, but this is still a great angle nonetheless. An even crazier angle that you can get is with a zombie on the top floor of Oregon. All you have to do to get this insane angle is to put in a zombie barricade on the lower leg of this bunk inside of Kid's room. Once you've done that, crouch next to the zombie barricade until you get a vault prompt like this and vault inside of the Kid's bunk. From here, if anybody tries to go through the attic rotate, you can easily kill them when they're trying to go for a plant or when they swing you. If this wall is open with head holes because the attackers made it so, you can also sit right next to the bomb chassis and get free angles that they will never expect to get and they can't pre-fire. You could even go so far as to lock yourself inside of here and then get even crazier angles that they can't counter while still being able to counter anybody going through the rotate. If you prep this with 2 melees, you can easily hop out of here whenever you need to and still get kills and escape whenever it is necessary. It's one of the best and craziest angles that you can get with a zombie in the entire game. Something I have not gone over in this video though is frost mat placements. The only one I'll be showing you is in Workshop of Border. To do this, make sure that you melee this random piece of drywall on the floor like this. Once you've done that, put a frost mat in the drywall and it will actually be almost completely hidden. This, to an attacker eye or anybody's eyes, does not look like a frost mat. It just looks like part of the decoration. So if you want to kill anybody, maybe dropping the hatch, pushing close to this wall, or maybe put a bulletproof camera here so that they get baited into meleeing it and thus fall into your frost mat. Either way, it's a great strategy to get a free down every single time you come to this bomb site. Speaking of insane strats on Border though, is this Cali angle that you can get on Border. To do this, spawn in the east side and come to this gated door here. From here, if you go to the left side door, you can crouch and aim through both of these layers of gate to get an angle onto the bathroom rotate just like this. You can even shoot open parts of the soft wall here, or if you prone on the door hinge, you can get an even crazier angle higher and into bathroom. And as you can see, these are all of my bullet holes right here, meaning that if anybody's actually in this little shower right here or trying to rotate through the rotate, you will easily be able to kill them just like that. But this isn't the only angle that you can get as Callie if they're defending bathroom, because you can get an even better angle if you go through this drone hole into the bathroom. All you have to do is prone outside of this drone hole. From here, you can go all the way to the left side of this box and get an insane angle that will even reach into passport onto this wall. As you can see, that is my bullet hole right there, meaning that this is what a defender is going to see if they were even trying to see you through that drone hole. This is 12 times zoom, which is more zoom than any defender is going to get. Realistically, this is what they're going to see. They're not going to see you at all, and you're able to kill anybody or at least shoot the feet of people who are in this entire hallway into bottom square, as well as anybody more importantly in bathroom rotating through either this door or through this rotate. That is very, very common. Either way, if you sit there, you are bound to get one free down and one free kill if you play your cards correctly. Now, we all know how they recently took out the ability to cook frag grenades, which means you can no longer grenade people from below. But what if I told you there was a way to still do this? All you have to do is find a place that you want to grenade below. For example, I know the red rotate is right here, so I'm going to try to grenade below here. Once you've found your spot, just shoot open the soft floor. But wait, don't shoot open both portions of it, only shoot open the bottom portion of it. From here, you can bounce your grenade inside the floor by bouncing it off the top layer of wood and inside the bottom layer, just like that. And from there, you've grenaded through the floor, essentially doing what they tried to take out of the game, but just couldn't. Something that they do need to remove from the game, though, is the trick I'm about to show you with RAM. To do this trick, just quickly shotgun a hole in any soft wall. Then throw your RAM device through the hole, and it should get stuck on the wall just like that. When you activate your RAM device, this will create a sprinting sized hole that you can immediately sprint through just like this. So if you want to create a huge hole in the wall, that is how you can do it with RAM and do it very easily. Another droning ability that you can do a weird trick with is with Flores. What most people don't know about Flores drones is if you make punch holes in a soft wall like this, your Flores drone can actually jump on top of the punch holes. So let's say that you wanted to Flores drone this wall up here, but you had no way of reaching it. Well, all you'd have to do is put some melee holes in this wall, and then find a safe place to get on your Flores drone, and then jump your Flores drone on top of the punch holes just like this. And now you can create a breach inside the wall that you never thought you could. From here, you can get crazy angles onto anybody in pink bar or anybody rotating through the double door. But that's just one example. If you find any wall where it makes sense to jump a Flores drone, you are able to do this trick. It is absolutely game breaking. Let's make your way into Bar of Clubhouse. What you'll do is put cap cans on the left side of this single door right next to this vending machine. These cap can traps blend in with the vending machine a tad bit more than they would on any other surface, making them slightly more invisible than any other cap cans, as half of them are inside of the vending machine, so they're less likely to get caught out. If you also barricade this door just like this and unbarricade it immediately, this little sliver of barricade covers a good portion of that cap can, making it much less likely that when they quick peek this, that they'll actually see the cap cans on the doorway, and they're much more likely to just skip over it and die to the cap cans in the fridge. Now, the final tip that feels like cheating is knowing exactly how many bullets it takes to destroy a barricade. So if I know that it takes 20 bullets to destroy a barricade, and I put 19 bullets in the barricade, as you can see right there, all I have to do is sit and drone the kid out. And then if I know that he's in there, I can completely catch him off guard by just shooting one bullet and sprinting in at him and killing him. He's never going to expect that, because defenders will sit and wait for you to make 3 distinct punching sounds before you enter in. But if all he hears is one bullet, you're just going to kill him immediately and he'll have no time to react. But with it out of the way though, that's it for today's video. Check out this next video, and I'll see you there. You're attacking wrong in Rainbow Six Siege, so in today's video, I'll be giving you 17 tips to attack better. For the first tip, you should be opening as many angles as possible. To show you this, I've brought you on to Chalet, which is a great example of what I'm about to be talking about. If you're ever doing a library take, where you rappel onto library, you open up the double window, and you try to take mez, you shouldn't just do that. First, you want to honestly open up the games window here, Then honestly, I would open the mud window as well. You can rappel here and open up the bathroom window with a Gone 6. And just by doing that, you've made it a lot more dangerous for anybody to try to contest you. You opening this bathroom window made it to where they're not going to rotate through there as easily, and you might be able to get a cheeky kill on that rappel. Opening this games window makes it to where if there's anybody playing below the hatch while you're rappelled, it's a lot more dangerous for them to do that, so they're just adding ghost pressure. And then by opening this window here, you're making it to where they know you're pushing library. By opening the mud window, you make it to where they can't just sit bottom blue stairs. So you're making it a lot more dangerous for people to sit in places, even if you're not really there, because you're applying ghost pressure, which is something you can do very, very easily on attack that I thought that I should briefly mention in this video. Another thing you need to start doing on attack is upside down rappelling more. If you're not good at taking gunfights upside down rappelled, you definitely should start training that, as it's going to become very useful. Now let's pretend that this zero camera here is the head of a player, while this zero camera here is the feet of a player. If I'm upside down rappelled, I am easily able to see the feet, the legs, and even the hips and torso of a player, but because their head is all the way up there, they will not be able to see me. If you don't know how perspective works in Siege, the camera is right between a player's eyes. So if that camera can't see me, but I can still see them, that means I'm able to shoot them and get information on them very, very easily and get a free kill where they're not even able to shoot or see me at all. So if you're on attack, upside down rappel on all the windows you try to rappel on to make it a lot easier for you to take gunfights in these certain scenarios. Moving on to my third attacker tip, let's get off the rappel and get on the drone. Because as an attacker, a mistake that I see players making is they're way too afraid to actually start droning. Whether it be they're under droning because they're not droning themselves in the building and they're just sitting outside all around, or they're actually going in the building but they're not droning themselves in and they're dying. So make sure that you're actually droning in whenever you're going into the building, but also on attack, never be afraid to drone in general. It could be like a minute into the round. If you've gotten your entry picks and you need to start getting utility on the board, you don't know where anybody is, you have no information, you don't know how to execute, then start droning. Never be afraid to drone on attack and start droning more, unless you're over droning, which is a completely separate issue. But especially in a more aggressive season and an aggressive year, people just aren't droning as much, so you need to make sure that you are. And even droning in your teammates as well can be something that is very, very helpful to either win or lose your ranked games. Something else that can win or lose you a ranked game is learning to slow down on attack. Now, I get attack means you're actually attacking. You have to go to them, which means you don't really have the luxury of just sitting back and not doing anything. But it also doesn't mean that you have to rush people. You don't have to play aggressive all the time. You don't have to run into the bomb site. There are chances and opportunities when you should be slowing down, when you should start to use utility, when you should start to get information, start to drone like I just talked about earlier. But when is that opportunity? You want to be doing this after you've gotten your entry frags. Now, entry fragging, whether it be you got to kill pretty late into the round, you got to kill early in the round, you've taken space, it doesn't matter. Once you've gotten those first few picks and you've gotten a little bit of space near the bomb site, now you need to drone out the bomb site. You need to drone out the remaining defenders. You need to make sure that you know where all the utility is, so you don't die to a cap can trap, so you don't die to a guy sitting in a corner with a shotgun. This is where you would drone the most. You drone in your entries if you're a support player, you drone in the prep phase, but not into the bomb site, and then you also make sure that you're droning in whenever you're trying to actually execute onto the bomb site after you've gotten your entry picks. That's when you'd slow down, you'd play more passive, you'd hold angles, and you drone, you get information. But also, you need to learn when to be aggressive, right? If you're aggressive on attack, that typically happens within the first 30 seconds of the round, because you need to enter the building, you need to get entry picks. Also, if you're in a post-plant situation, you'd play passive then too, right? So this all fits into this tip of learning when to slow down on attack. Really, there's only two scenarios. You slow down after you get your entry picks, and you slow down in a post-plant, or whenever you don't have information and you need to drone somebody. But you won't be able to actually slow down and drone people if you don't have drones in the first place, which brings me into my fifth tip. You need to be saving your prep phase drones. Too often am I seeing people just driving their drones into sight just to get information on people and their drones dying. Now, I understand this might seem like a good idea if you have a Deimos on your team and you need to red ping people, which is like the one rare exception, and I can also understand if you're playing Yana and you have clones so you can afford to waste a drone or two. But beyond that, you really should be saving your drone. It's cool to be able to get the information on what their site setup is, what operators are playing, what site they are in general. But if you're in high enough elo and you're average at the game, you've played the game, you know the maps, you know most of the operators, you can kind of guess what they're going to run based off of bans, based off of you hearing what guns they're running. Like if I hear a Vector, I know they're either playing Goyo or Mira. But if it's Basement Oregon, it's probably a Mira, right? So you don't have to actually drive your drone into sight to see what they're doing. Chances are, if you're solo queuing as well, your teammates are also driving their drones into sight, so you can just get on their drone and get the information that you need. But if you don't have drones that you can use because you wasted one in the prep phase and one early in the round, it's going to really, really haunt you later in the round. When we talked about how you need to be droning in my previous tip. So make sure that you don't run your drone into prep phase and waste it for absolutely zero reason, and use sound calls, get on your teammates' drones, and save that drone for later in the round. Something else that I see people doing on attack that is terribly wrong is they're prioritizing getting kills over getting the plant down. Now, there are scenarios in which both of these are going to be the correct move. If you're in a 1v1 situation and the person's close to you, you don't really have cover to plant behind, then sure, go for the kill. If you know you have information on that person and they don't have information on you, or you can pre-fire them, or it's just an easy kill and you know it is, then of course, go for the kill. But if you have the clock on your side, you have utility, maybe you're up in man count, you have the sight, don't go for kills. Get the plant down if it's safe to do so. And a lot of the times, it is honestly safe to do so. You can at least try to get the plant down, and if he tries to rush you, then go for the kill. Or if there's barely any time left, that's when you'd go for the kill, because then he's just going to wait for you to plant, wait for the time to run out, and then kill you, right? So there are certain scenarios where you should go for the kill, but on attack in general, you should really be prioritizing plants. This is due to the fact that when you get the bomb down, now the roles are reversed. Defenders have to come to you while you defend the bomb, instead of you going to the defenders and them defending the bomb. This makes it to where you can play passive, you can hold angles, and if you've ever played Siege, you know that Siege is a defender-sided game because of these simple principles. If you're holding angles with a gun in a game with servers, it's going to be a lot better because of defense, and a lot easier for you to win than it is on attack, which is why going for bombs and playing a post-plant scenario naturally is just going to be easier for you, especially if you know how to do it by fake running up to people who are defusing or things of that nature. So always prioritize going for plants if you have the safe option to do so, and never really go for kills because you're taking unnecessary gunfights that you don't really know if you're going to win. Something else that is completely unnecessary is wasting more than one flash grenade on one person. Think of one flash grenade as one room that you're able to clear. I love using flash grenades as room clearing instead of getting kills, but either or are acceptable. To show this to you, I'm going to bring you in-game really quickly. For this example, let's say that the bomb site is in gym or master, or at least that's what I'm trying to roam clear from maybe the basement site. You get the idea. There's just somebody here that I'm trying to clear out, and I have flash grenades. If I know that there is a kid in this corner, or at least in this room, I don't need to waste one flash grenade and then two flash grenades. It's not like it's going to double blind them or blind them for 2 times the duration. I can just lob one frag grenade, or flash grenade, I guess, over here, flash the person, and that's enough to blind them to be able to swing and make sure that you've taken the space or gotten the kill. If I want to take master, and I've quick peeked this and I know no one's close, and I know no one's in the bathroom, but I hear someone on my hard right, or I'm just trying to clear the room, I don't need to waste 2 flash grenades. I can throw one into the room right here, wait for the flash to go off, run in, and take the space. And you should be utilizing every single flash grenade like this. You don't want to lob a bunch in. You typically don't want to waste it on things like ADSs or Rooney Gates unless you need to. You want to be using each flash grenade as a way to take space, especially if you know someone is there, to be able to roam clear even more efficiently than you had before. It's really good on operators like Dokkaebi, where you can call and figure out where they are, and once you hear, hey, they're around the corner because their phone is ringing, you just flash in and you go and get the kill. So use one flash grenade to clear one room or to get one kill, and don't waste any more than that, and you'll be way more efficient with this piece of utility. Something else that is way more efficient is playing off of your teammates who are entering. This is called being a secondary entry fragger, or you can even do this as a flex or a support operator. If you notice that you have one teammate who you can actually trust that has good gun skill to run in, actually baiting them is not a bad idea. There is a fine line between good baiting and bad baiting, but usually if you know that your teammate is going to get an entry frag pick, whether you're roam clearing or executing on the site, making sure that you're playing off of him, especially in 2vx scenarios on attack, is crucial, because then if he dies, you're able to refrag him. Or if there's 2 enemies, he kills one and the other one's there, you can then get that kill. But if you're leaving your teammate in a 1v1 and then you're leaving yourself in a 1v1, it is much more likely that you win a 1v1 than a 2v1. So making sure that you're actually playing off of your teammates and you're taking those trades is crucial if you see somebody that's trying to roam clear every round by themselves, which you will see a lot in solo queue environments, because if you're solo queuing, chances are your teammates probably aren't in the stack either, obviously, because they can't be because you're in their team. You get the idea, whatever. But the point of it being is that you want to be refragging your teammates. So if you see that there's a teammate who's alone, go with him. Or if you see that your teammates are rushing the site, maybe 3 or 4 teammates are running Finka, Blitz, Monty, Smokes, whatever it may be, you see they're rushing the site, you might be like good-spirited by trying to get a hatch open, but it's not going to help them. What will help them is playing with them or playing off of them. So if their dumb strat doesn't work, you can at least refrag them and put the man count back in the balance to be able to play the round how you want to play it and be able to actually win the round instead of just hoping that your teammates do good, because where I'm from, that don't happen often. Let me tell you what, it does not happen often. So just play off your team, bait them if you can, to a certain degree, so that you can win more rounds on attack. And this plays into my next point, which is never roam clear alone. Instead of being the person to help your roam clear, we're going to put you in the shoes of somebody who's trying to roam clear alone. And now, if you don't have somebody that's being a good teammate that is refragging off of you, don't roam clear alone. It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to go for a roam clear, that typically means you're either hitting the backside or you're playing vert. And if you're going to do that, you can't just do it with one person. Otherwise, you're taking way too risky of gunfights. Like I said earlier, if someone's roaming, typically they have a second roamer. And taking a 2v1 is a lot harder than taking a 2v2 or a 3v2, right? So if you're going to roam clear, make sure you have a teammate, maybe communicate to your team, hey, can I get someone to help me on the roam clear? Or if you see someone is playing vert, then maybe go roam clear with them. But you never really want to roam clear alone. Just push the side if your teammates are pushing there. Because not only, one, does it make it to where you have a lower chance of actually winning because you're just one person against multiple people, but also if they have a Caveira, you're running the risk of getting interrogated because you don't have a teammate for a refrag. You also aren't able to get multiple jobs done at once. You can't roam clear and play vert and deny Valkyrie cameras or see if they're playing pulse. You can't do all of that. You can't be flank watch as well, right? There's just too many jobs that a roam clear requires for you to do it by yourself. So you're just kind of wasting your life if you try to roam clear by yourself instead of doing whatever your team is doing. Something else that you should not be doing on attack is staying on vert too long. What I see a lot of players doing is they'll do the roam clear, and then if there's 30 seconds left in the round, that's when they'll start playing vert. First of all, that is a mistake. At that point, just help your team hit the site. But more importantly, if you do end up getting the roam clear down and making vert within a timely manner, you don't want to be up there if there is exactly 45 seconds or less in the round. Because at that point, you need to be getting on site and getting the bomb down, or getting man count in your favor, or going for kills, whatever it may be. You don't need to be on vert for that long. And chances are, if you're on vert for that long, maybe a minute and a half, and you still haven't gotten kills, and you're still unable to apply pressure, that probably means that they're hiding somewhere, and they're not going to peek you. So your vert is completely useless anyways. So don't stay on vert too long. Stay on vert in the beginning to mid section of the round, but in the end section of the round, the last 45 seconds to 30 seconds of the round, get off vert. There's no reason for you to be there. If they're not peeking you then, they're not going to peek you now. Just please help your team. I see it way too often where I'm trying to get on the bomb and I have a ram upstairs holding an angle when we know the kid is literally right next to me. You know what I mean? Just help your team in the last few seconds of the round and get off vert. Now, this tip can play into my next tip, which is adapting your pushes based off of man count. So here is a great example. If I'm trying to get a wall open, but it is a 2v5 and I don't have my Thatcher anymore, maybe it's time to not get the wall open and it's time to push somewhere to maybe get some kills, a backside push, whatever it may be. If I'm trying to roam clear and my other roam clear duo dies, maybe adapt to push to somewhere else. Don't push there, right? Adapting when you're down in man count is very, very crucial, especially in the higher ranks, because if your teammates die somewhere, chances are they're there, so you're gonna die there too, especially because, like I said, 1vx's are harder to take than 2vx's, 3vx's, 4vx's, right? So adapt your pushes. If you see that there's a bunch of defenders somewhere and your team is dead, adapt accordingly. Not only should you be adapting in terms of your positioning, but you also should be adapting in terms of your aggression. If you're down a man count on attack, you want to either bait if they're being super aggressive, or you want to get aggressive if they're being super passive. Both of these will make it to where you're taking 1v1s instead of 1vx's, and you're going to get a lot more free kills this way, and kills that naturally wouldn't happen had you been more aggressive in the wrong spot or more passive in the wrong spot. If you know that they're swinging everything and that's how your team died, maybe sit outside and wait for them to run out on you and get the free kill and then go in. Or if you know they're playing super passive and your team just kind of ran in and died within a Maru rush, then maybe get a bit more aggressive. Try to kill the roamers, try to kill the people on site, get on a rappel, do what you need to do to even the man count back up so that it is more in your favor, or at least an even match, instead of being something that is very disadvantageous, which is being down in man count. So you want to be adapting your pushes based off of your man count and based off of how your team is doing. Something else that you should adapt to doing mid-round is finding openings in the defense. There are many examples of this, but typically, because there's only 5 defenders, there's only so many places that they can roam, or sit, or anchor, whatever it may be. So if you notice, hey, they're all bunkering on site, that's when you'd want to take vert, or that's when you'd want to roam clear very, very quickly to get the amount of time that you need to play vert effectively. Or let's say they're all roaming. They have 3 to 4 roamers, only 1 guy on site. Then rush the site, because a 4v1 is easier to take than a 1v4, right? So like, you're going to win that gunfight. So you want to adapt and find openings based off of what the defenders are doing in terms of their positioning. It goes deeper than this too. If you notice, hey, they have 2 guys in sight, 2 guys upstairs, and only 1 guy on the east side of the map, then maybe push the west side of the map, because there's 0 players there, so at least take that free space, right? The whole point of this tip is take free space. If you notice an opening that they're not holding, take it. Having space is always better than having not, any space in the map, because being able to sit in a room to safely drone to get utility down is going to be very, very important, instead of sitting outside and hoping that you don't get spawn peeked, ran out on, or just losing a gunfight. So if you find an opening, do not be afraid to take it and be more aggressive to actually net a free kill. Because a lot of the times, openings include maybe they're not holding this part of the bomb site, so you yourself, by yourself, can just run in the bomb site while 2 people are in the bomb site, but they're just looking the other way, and then you get a free kill, right? So try to find openings as much as possible onto people who don't even know you're there to take free map control. In order to correctly get map control, though, something that can help a lot is giving good comms. Now, the biggest tip about communication here that I want to give you is giving the actual call out in a proper manner. If I'm like, hey, there's a Malusi on the left in the green hallway, that's a bad call out. It is very specific, but if someone's in the middle of swinging, you want to get that call out fast so that they have the most amount of time to react and act off of that information. So instead of saying, hey, there's a Malusi standing over here, say in green hall standing, there is a Malusi, because the first piece of information that your teammate needs to know is the exact position. They don't need to know the operator. They don't need to know what utility they have. They don't need to know if they're standing or crouched. They need to know where they are, first of all. So giving the location call out, then giving if they're standing, crouched, holding an angle, prone, swinging, wide, whatever, then do that because it's more specific after they know the general area. Then maybe give the call out on the operator. If it's somebody like a Mira, so they know maybe not to swing the Mira, or if it's somebody like a Smoke, so they know maybe to play far away so they don't get shotgunned, right? You never want to give the operator name first and then the actual location of the call out last. You want to give the location of the call out first, because I've died due to the fact that I'm mid swing and then someone calls it out, but they called out the location last instead of the opposite, where I've actually gotten saved because someone called out the location and then they called out the operator name and the other specifics like that. So making sure that you're giving callouts in an actual correct way can be the difference between you or your teammate losing a gunfight, which can be the difference between you winning or losing. Something else that can be the key difference between you winning or losing game can be actually filling based off of your team's needs on attack. So if you know that nobody's running anything for wall, nobody's running anything to help the person get wall, or maybe you're on a basement site and nobody's running anything for hatches or for vert, then you should be the one to fill those shoes. In a solo queue environment, you have the disadvantage of not being able to coordinate a good attack, but the least that you can do to make semi-coordination is to coordinate based off of your teammate's attack. So if you're attacking the basement of Oregon and you know we have an Ash for the Mira, we have a Twitch for the Mira and the Goyo, we have a Ying for the hatch drop, we have maybe a shield operator or a Zofia for utility, explosives, whatever it may be, but nobody has anything for hatches, then you would be the one to get something for the hatches, not playing Yana or Finka because you like their gun. It's much more important that you fill the roles that are necessary to have a dynamic and complicated and strategic attack that has many layers to it, instead of just picking your favorite operator. This is something called flexing. No, it's not the same as a flex operator role that we'll go over in a different video, but you want to be flexing your operator selection based off of your teammates if it's actually applicable in that scenario. For tip 15, I'm going to bring you back in game. The next mistake that I see players making is they push positions that are just way too hard to push alone. If you're a solo queue player, chances are you're alone. If I'm playing bank and I'm trying to attack alone, do not go to somewhere like square balcony, because you have to worry about the headholes here, the staircase here, the door down there for the flank. You have to worry about the first stock window, the second stock window, anybody in stock. You have to worry about the janitor door, the janitor hall, anybody with a shotgun close to this door. Like, you just have to worry about way too much as one person. It just doesn't make sense to push areas like this. Instead, push places like lobby, where you can drone yourself into ATMs, drone out all of lobby, have a cutoff camera for your flanks, shoot the default camera, and now you have all of this for free. Or maybe rappel on that window as Hibana to get open the hallway walls right here. Or maybe go to open area and walk up the marble stairs for a fast rush. Either way, do things that are better that you don't need a team for, where you're not exposed to a number of different angles, and it'll be a lot easier for you to attack on maps specifically that you don't really know how to attack on. Something else that I see a lot of attackers doing that is a mistake is using the wrong scopes in gunfights. Let's talk about Hibana, who is somebody who has the 1x scope or the option of an ACOG in her loadout. If I'm trying to take square, having an ACOG here is great because I can see the railing, I can see into archives, I can see into like kitchen, anywhere, bottom square, doesn't really matter. Having an ACOG here is really good. But then if I want to push down a staircase and swing a door really close to me, having an ACOG is terrible because it's way harder to take gunfights up close range with ACOGs because they're so zoomed in, especially ones like the ACOG B where you get barely any peripheral vision if you're on stretched res. Instead, use the actual hollow on your gun to take this close range gunfight. It's not as zoomed in, you'll be able to see people a lot more clearly, and it's much easier to take gunfights this way, so make sure that you're not using the wrong scope in the wrong distances when you're taking gunfights on attack, and you'll win a lot more of your gunfights this way. For the final tip, number 17, the mistake you're making is you're swinging incorrectly. Whenever you're swinging, you want to prioritize certain angles first. If I'm swinging from the right, I want to prioritize the angles on the left first, and then I'll go slowly over, like, okay, someone's on the window, nope, someone's on the couch, nope, someone's on this window, nope, someone's on that door, nope. Then I can worry about the kids on the right. Is someone on this table? Is someone on this rotate? Is someone close right prone with a shotgun? No? Okay, I'm good. You never want to check the kid on your right that's close first before checking all of these angles, because you're exposing yourself to everybody on your left before you take the gunfight with the kid on your right. So if somebody really was on that window and somebody was on the rotate right here, I'd be able to take this gunfight one at a time and then take this gunfight. Whereas if I were to swing the kid on the right first and not even clear the left, I'd be taking gunfights 2 at a time. And like I said, a 1v1 is much easier than a 1v2. So make sure that you clear the left side if you're swinging from the right first, or clear the right side if you're swinging from the left first. Either way, just swing. Either way, clear the opposite of what you're swinging off of, and you should be fine. But with that out of the way, that is it for this video. Check out this next video. My name's Alka, and I hope we'll see you there. Later. This is not what good roaming looks like.
Load a new mag!
This is.
They're shooting everything, but they're not hitting anything.
Let me explain. Roaming is not actually about getting kills, it's more about wasting time. Now it's great if you are able to secure kills, but that shouldn't be your primary focus. Going for hero plays, going for flanks, going for tons of kills to get your KD higher is not what roamers are actually meant to do. Roamers are meant to be the first line of defense to an entire strategy when it comes to Rainbow Six Siege. So the first people that ever get into contact and ever get into gunfights. A lot of people may get this confused with the entry fragging playstyle on attack, where attackers are forced to get kills to be able to take space to get into the building. But on defense, that's not necessarily the case. All you're meant to do as a roamer is waste time. By passively applying ghost pressure, or by shooting every drone that comes near you and keeping them guessing as to where you are and where you can come from next. This ghost pressure of them not knowing where you are and where you're going to come from is exactly what makes them have to waste time trying to roam clear you in the first place. This is why operators like Vigil and Caveira excel at roaming, because it makes it so hard to track them down, hence they have to waste so much time tracking you down and they have less time to execute on the bomb site onto your anchors. Less time on the bomb site means that they have less time to use utility to get the bomb down, they have less time to get kills, which makes them more stressed out because they have to do things in a faster rate, which will make them make more sloppy decisions and hasty decisions. This is perfect for you. I would rather have a roamer that wastes 2 minutes of the attacking team's time and gets no kills than a roamer that dies within the first 30 seconds and gets 2 kills and wastes absolutely 0 time. Does this mean that you have to be extremely passive as a roamer? No, not at all. You can be very aggressive, but you don't want to be so aggressive that you get yourself killed in the process. You want to be able to be aggressive and manage your aggression and know whenever to be passive. Which brings me into my second tip. When do you be aggressive and when do you be passive? Well, a good rule of thumb is you want to be aggressive when you are down in man count to re-secure the man advantage, and you want to be passive when you're up in man count. Now this is great if you are an anchor and you're playing on site, but it is a little bit different if you're actually a roamer. Depending on what operator you're playing and where you're playing on the map, your aggression is going to differ in when you're aggressive and when you're passive. But a great rule of thumb is if they're applying a lot of pressure to you, you can be passive and give up the room, only shooting drones when they drone you out. But if they're not particularly worried about you, maybe they're not roam clearing you as much, maybe they're passively roam clearing you, you can be aggressive to get their attention and be like, hey, no, look over here, roam clear me, and then you can waste more time, right? So you use aggression to make them come to you, and you play passively to make them go away from you in case you're being way too pressured and it's like a 3v1 across the map, right? So you play passive to stay alive, and you play aggressive to waste parts of their time. Now, you don't actively have to be shooting in their face to be aggressive at the right moment. You can do something which is called ghost pressure, which is my third tip. Ghost pressure is you applying pressure when you're not actually there, almost as if a ghost was applying the pressure, hence the term ghost pressure. I've talked about this countless times in my videos, but essentially you can make fake rotates, or you can shoot random bullets throughout the map so that people know that you're there, or you can shoot a drone near where they're playing and then run away, so they think that you're near when in reality you're not even there at all. You can put random head holes with alibi clones next to them to make you think that you're playing off of the alibi clones and make them roam clear certain rooms. You could flank, hit an air jab, and then leave. So now they think you're on the flank and they don't know where you are and they have to waste time roaming you. But applying ghost pressure and just being a little thorn in their backside and just like, you know, reassuring to them, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. Hey, by the way, you have to roam clear me, right? Is applying ghost pressure at its finest. This is what you need to be doing as a roamer, especially on very sneaky operators like Vigil and Caveira. It's not necessarily as important if you're playing an operator like Solus, or somebody who is a bit more passive at roaming, or somebody who is a bit more kill heavy on roaming like Warden, but it's very, very important if you're using utility in specific on this operator to waste time. Which does bring me into my fourth tip. You want to be roaming differently depending on the operator that you're playing. So, like I said, Cav and Vigil are meant to be sneaky operators, but they actually play very differently from each other. Vigil is meant to be sort of a bastion on the roam. He sits in one place and he forces you to roam clear him. How does he do this? Well, if he denies your ability to drone him, then you have to face check him and face check the room, or Dokkaebi call him, or Jackal scan him, whatever it may be. He forces you to have to roam clear. So he makes his map presence known, and as soon as you try to roam clear him, he either gets aggressive on you or he just completely leaves. He's always applying ghost pressure and always trying to take control of rooms, never really showing his face unless he needs to. Now, Caveira is a lot different. Caveira doesn't hold on to map control and hold on to very specific rooms until you drone her out. Caveira is the best roamer when it comes to applying passive ghost pressure. Caveira, because of the threat of an interrogation, even in the hands of a bad player, makes attackers have to stick together and roam clear if they want to do anything else throughout the round. Not only this, but because of Caveira's silent step, they never know where you're going to come from next. You could flank, you could be right in front of them, you could be flanking from a different direction. Now they have to watch multiple flanks, right? So on Caveira, you want to be more on your feet. You want to be coming from multiple different angles. Hey, I just shot my gun over here so they know I'm here. Well, 3 seconds later, I'm over here. You're constantly going to different places at once and showing your face in different places. So the difference in playstyle here is Vigil is a lot more, I'm going to stay in this room and hold this room heavy, and Caveira is more on her feet. No pun intended. So roaming really does differ depending on your operator, and I'll go through all of them right now. So like I said, Vigil, he's meant to hold one room, while Caveira, like I said, is meant to be more on her feet. Oryx is kind of like Cav. Because of his Oryx dash, he can easily rotate from one place to another, which allows him to do the same thing that Cav can do, which is applying pressure at multiple points at the map to make them really annoyed and scared of a flank that may be happening. The ability to fastly climb up hatches as well further reinforces this flank and show your face playstyle. As Solus, you want to be more of a passive roamer. You don't necessarily want to be going aggressive and getting kills, you just want to be roaming for utility and intel. Whether it be roaming below the site to deny a plant, whether it be roaming to where you know they spawn to deny drones. But she's a lot more like Vigil in terms of the fact that she just sits in rooms, destroys drones, and leaves. Really just wasting a lot of time and trying to hold map control for as long as she passively can. Alibi is a bit of a different case though. Alibi is meant to really hold one part of the map for as long as she can. With Alibi, you really want to be playing your life in most scenarios. As Alibi, you play off of your prismas. Once your prismas get shot, you swing the enemy that's getting pinged. If you have observation blockers in front of your prismas, they're more likely to shoot them, so you just want to be playing off of your clones as much as possible, which means you don't really want to be roaming and going for flanks because your clones can't come with you. So you want to be holding one room or one area of the map in particular as best as you can and for as long as possible. Due to the fact that you're not really meant to be on your feet and apply ghost pressure, you want to be a tad bit more aggressive to further hold the space that you're trying to hold so that the attackers don't get it for absolutely free. With Mozzie, you just want to be doing the same thing as Solus, where you passively roam near a site for information, or for anti-information. You just put pests in the area that you're roaming, and you hold a room for as long as possible with your pest, passively backing out of room to room depending on if your pests get destroyed or take a camera. Using his pests as cameras in the prep phase by taking over prep phase drones is not really a good idea because if you just want 3 cameras, play Valkyrie. But those are all of the main roamers. People like Legion, Ella, Thorn, and Warden aren't really supposed to be roamers, but people roam with them anyways. So I won't be heavily talking about them in this video. Now, your playstyle when roaming will differ from operator to operator, sure. But with each roamer, learning when to flank is around the same. Which brings me into my 5th tip. You need to learn when to actually flank and when not to flank. Now, like I said, your flanking and on your feet playstyle can differ from operator to operator, sure. But there's a golden rule as a roamer no matter what operator you're playing that can tell you when you need to be flanking and when you need to be holding a room. The best time to flank is whenever you get droned out and you get pushed out of a room. This normally happens when people are heavily droning you and you have 2 to 3 people trying to roam clear you at once. Obviously, you're going to need to leave the room so that you don't die and you can waste time elsewhere. Well, the best place to waste time elsewhere is on the flank. They push you out of one room and then you flank behind them on a staircase. When you go for a flank, you don't even need to go for a flank for kills. As long as you're making presence known that, hey, I'm behind you, so now you need to actually roam clear me again and waste more time, then that's all you really need to be doing. You can flank aggressively with Cav, or you can flank passively with other operators. It does not matter. But flanking when you get flushed out of a room, or flanking whenever your other roamer is being pressured so that you can help your other roamer, is a great strategy, especially in this roam heavy meta. Now, learning when to flank is cool, but if all of your team is dead, then you shouldn't be flanking. So you need to learn when to also come back to site, which brings me into my 6th tip. Learning when to come back to site is very important, because as a roamer, yes, your job is to waste time, but what does it matter if all the attackers are in site and they planted the bomb already? As a roamer, you don't want this to happen. If they're rushing site and they're not even trying to roam clear you, flanking can do you justice, but if it takes you too long to go on the flank, then it doesn't matter anyways. So you want to be coming back to site the second that your anchors are getting into more than one gunfight at a time. Now, I brought you onto Chalet to further show you what I mean. Let's pretend that most of your team is defending the basement site, and you as a Vigil are off roaming. As Vigil, let's say that you're roaming top floor in Library, or in Master, depending on what you're trying to flank. Now, at what point as the Vigil should you just rotate back to site and help your team? Do you rotate back down main stairs whenever the wall gets opened? Do you rotate back down after the bomb has been planted? Do you rotate down after they're starting to drone out your defenders? Well, the answer to all of those questions is none. The only time that you want to be going back to site is if you have more attackers pressuring the actual bomb site than pressuring you. So let's say that I have 4 attackers pressuring the basement, whether it's through getting walls or trying to open them in general, and I only have 1 person trying to roam clear me. It's much more imperative, especially if I only have like 1 to 2 people on site, for me to come back to site and just apply some pressure so they can't as easily walk in. Because if they walk in and get the bomb down, then my roam is completely useless. But if it's only 2 or 3 people opening a wall and trying to attack, and you have 2 to 3 anchors on the site and the other people are trying to roam clear you, then you should stay on the roam. Now, typically people really only pressure the site in a way that you need to come back to the site to whenever it's like the first minute 30 and the round has already passed. So it's not something that you particularly have to think about all that much, but that golden rule should help you in most circumstances. Another thing that is imperative to roaming is running impact grenades, which is my 7th tip. As a roamer, if you have the option of running any secondary utility and impact grenades, you want to choose impact grenades every single time. Why is this important? To show you why you need to run impact grenades, I'm on Oregon. Now let's pretend that the site is basement and you're roaming top floor as Vigil again. I'll give you a scenario. Let's say you're roaming in attic and you're trying to hold off attackers from getting into attic, or maybe you're going here so that you can flank the first floor. Either way, as Vigil, you're in top floor in attic, particularly right now. Now, if attackers are swarming you, they're coming from the kids' window, they're coming from white stairs, they're coming from the dorms window, they're coming from white stairs, they're coming from trophy, and you're just getting surrounded and you're stuck in attic with no rotate, then you're pretty much dead and you have to play your life. But let's say that you have an impact grenade. Well, now you can open a rotate for yourself, and now you can escape. Maybe go for a flank, or waste as much time as possible by killing drones in tower and then leaving immediately after. That one single impact completely saved the amount of time that you're able to roam, and effectively roam for that matter, which might be the reason that you won the round, just because you brought impact grenades. Another cool thing about impact grenades, especially on operators like Caviera that down people a lot, is if you down somebody with any roamer in general and you don't want to finish the kill because typically there's another attacker behind them, you can easily throw an impact grenade from cover to kill anybody that you've downed. So having impact grenades is very important for that reason also. Not only is running impact grenades good for getting kills and rotating out, but it's also good for setting up the actual site. 9 times out of 10, the anchors that you have on site don't have anything to set up a site with unless they're playing somebody with a shotgun. So you need to be using your impacts to help make rotations if your teammates don't have the ability to do so. Even if you're not making rotations, as a roamer, you should be helping set up site in general, which brings me to my 8th tip. Because roamers typically have no utility they need to put down in the prep phase, as a roamer, you should be helping up set up site a lot. So as you can see in the top left corner, you have 10 reinforcements in the reinforcement pool. As a roamer, I'm going to give you a quiz. Should you be reinforcing 1 wall, 2 walls, 4 walls, or 6 walls? I'll give you a few seconds to answer this question. Well, if you guessed anything below 5, then you're actually wrong. Roamers are supposed to set up the majority of the reinforcements. Now, when I say roamers, I mean you and the other roamer. I'm not saying that you single-handedly have to reinforce 6 reinforcements. But the anchorers should be the people who are setting up site the least, contrary to what you might think, because they're the people that are actually on the site. But if you think about people like Fenrir, like Azami, they have a lot of utility to set down. 5 for both of them to be exact. You, as a Vigil player, have nothing to set down, so you should be reinforcing walls. Maybe you reinforce this wall, and you go upstairs and reinforce 2 hatches. You have 30 seconds to do that. So that's a lot of time for just 4 reinforcements that only take a few seconds to reinforce in general. Look at how long it takes to reinforce this wall. That wasn't that much time, and you only have to do that 4 times with a little bit of running in between. So as a roamer, you really should be helping your team set up site for this and other specific reasons. Not only should you be using reinforcements as a roamer, but there's a second piece of utility that you should be using too, and that is cameras, which brings me into my 9th tip. As a roamer, you need to be on cameras within the first 30 seconds to a minute of the round. Now, you'd assume that your anchors want to be doing this, because they're sitting in sight, not really doing anything for the first few moments of the round. But the reason you want to be doing this as a roamer is because, in particular, you want to know where to roam. If you get on the outside cameras, which are really the cameras that you need to be on as a roamer in particular, you'll know where they spawn and where they're going to be pushing because of where they spawned, because of what default camera they'll shoot. So if I'm right here on this camera and I see that they shot this camera, I can immediately assume, if I'm playing in the basement, that they're going to push CC. So now as a roamer, I know, hey, let me go over here, let me open up a rotate for garage wall, or maybe even some head holes, and now I can play in lower garage and then drop oil pit. Or I can play in rafters. I can give myself a rotate here, and then I can play top rafters. Once they come in the door, apply a little bit of pressure and then leave. Now imagine if you hadn't gotten on cameras and you were roaming somewhere all the way across the map in somewhere like Strip, then your roam wouldn't have done anything, and you essentially would have been a useless teammate off-site. This is why getting on cameras within the first 30 seconds of the round as a roamer is so important. Now, you can have teammates and anchorers do this for you. I actually recommend it over you doing it yourself, so that you can watch out if you get droned. But chances are you're a solo queue player, and you can't rely on your teammates to get on these things, so I would just do it yourself. But even if you can't rely on your teammate, you still should be communicating with your teammate as a roamer. Whether it be by you getting on cameras and seeing where they're going and be like, hey, they're gonna be pushing CC really heavily there, I'm gonna roam, prepare for a blue and oil pit rush. All of that information you just gave to your team, even if they're not reliable, now they have no excuse to not be defending exactly where you want them to be defending, and it just took one comm to be able to do that. That's how easy it is. Not only this, but there's various ways as a roamer that you can easily and effectively communicate with your team to win the game. Which comes into my 10th tip, communicating with your team. Communicating with your team is very, very important as a roamer. Now, you might not think this because roamers are just getting into gunfights, and communicating with your team doesn't do much if you're dead. But like I said, as a roamer, your job is to waste time. It's not to get into gunfights and to get kills, as much as that might help your roam. So that's not really a valid point. As a roamer, communicating with your team is vital, because like I said, you can communicate where the attackers are pushing to help your anchorers better suit how they're anchoring. But also, giving your teammates, not even just your anchorers, but your other roamers comms, will allow your roamers to help you on the roam and go for flanks that can potentially win you the round and win you the game. So communicating with your team, your roamers, anchors, and everybody in between is vitally important if you want to win a single round roaming in Rainbow Six Siege. If you want to win every single game and climb to champion though, check out this video next. My name's Alka, and I'll see you in the next one. Later. The first R6 tip that feels like cheating is the fact that you can literally just get around mute if you're a hard breacher. As you can see, when I put a thermite down and the wall is mute jammered, I can't activate the thermite, right? Because it's in a mute jammer. Click, doesn't do anything. All you have to do is go to one side and go as far as you can, then look all the way up and place it on the wall just like that. And now, as you can see, it's not in the radius of the mute jammer because I can just blow it up, which makes mute completely useless for exterior walls. Or honestly, interior walls too. You can do this on any outside wall at all and get around it with ace, thermite, hibana, it doesn't matter. Which is why this tip feels kind of like cheating. Just like this next tip that completely counters shields by just playing rook. So if a shield operator is coming to you and you have rook armor on, just like I'm about to have right here, instead of having to melee you just 2 times, now the shield operator has to melee you 3 times. That's once, that's twice, that's 3 times. Now, you might have already known about that tip, which is fair, but I guarantee you have no idea that when Doc stims himself when he's downed, he's actually completely invincible. And to show you this, I've brought you Kali's Sniper, which is one of the highest damaging weapons in the entire game. So once I down him, he's gonna stim himself, and I can't shoot him or kill him while he's stimming himself because he's invincible, as you can see by the fact that I literally just shot him while he was getting back up. Now, you're not going to use this in most of your games. It's pretty impractical, but if you ever are shooting a Doc that's stimming himself and he doesn't die, now you know why. A tip that is much more practical though is taking gunfights from farther away, especially when you're swinging. Now, one thing about the current meta is that everybody is using ACOGs, especially if you're on console and you can't use stretched res. Not only does swinging angles when you're farther away allow you to take gunfights easier when you're using an ACOG, but it makes it easier in general for a reason you might not know about. Let's say, for example, that I know somebody is standing right on those pile of clothes that I just destroyed in Master, and I'm in a trophy. Swinging the door like this when I'm close to the door is actually disadvantageous, because he's going to see my shoulder and my elbow before my head can see him. However, if I were to back up and swing out, I would appear to be smaller, which makes it a lot easier for him to have not as much reaction time and make it a lot easier for me to kill him. So always try to take gunfights from farther away, whether it be swinging a doorway like this one, or even swinging a doorway like this one, even swinging a window. Don't get up close like this, back all the way up as far as you can, and then swing. Obviously, do it within reason. If you're going to put yourself in danger by backing up, don't do it. But in most scenarios, you never want to swing off of a wall. You always want to swing a little bit farther back. And a lot of the times, that can get you a free kill. Just like this next tip about using claymores. Now, a lot of the times, placing claymores is a bad idea just because most players will be able to easily see the laser and shoot it, due to it being a bright red beam like this. However, when somebody shoots a claymore, they immediately just run away, which is why stacking a claymore behind the first claymore that you placed is such a good idea. Because realistically, if you're a defender flanking and you shoot one claymore, you're not going to expect the second one to be there. And because the lasers are already deployed by the second one, the second that you shoot the first one, these lasers are already deployed. Meaning if they shoot that one and run, they're going to die to the second one. And this alone has gotten me so many free kills because nobody expects it. And a lot of the times too, it's not like you're going to use your second claymore for a second flank. Like if I'm pushing up here in trophy, I only have to worry about one single flank. So it's okay to use both of your claymores in one place because you're never going to use your second claymore in the first place. At least for this specific push. In other pushes, sure, you might actually use it, but a lot of the times you don't, which is why stacking claymores is such a good idea. Which is just like our next tip about countering shields. A lot of people don't know this, but if you end up doing damage to a shield operator, they can't sprint or melee when you do it because of an effect called suppression. So if I turn on my HUD really quickly and Valkyrie shoots my shield, you can see this bottom left little red timer that's slowly going down. That is suppression. And when that's active, I can't sprint at all. Meaning that one of the best ways that you can counter shields is literally just by shooting them in the shield. They won't be able to run at you, which is great for Blitz players, because then you can just shoot them in the feet or shoot them in the shoulder. And especially Monty players that run at you that are way too cocky when they don't have their shield extended. Something else that you might not have known about is how to correctly break a window when you're prepping it for a run out. Now, I want you to listen to my game really quickly. Here, I'll even turn my audio up. Now tell me which sounds louder, this or this? Obviously, the first one sounded louder, right? And the enemies on the other side of the window will notice that difference too. Because if you do the second way of knifing a barricade like I showed you, not only will they be able to not hear it, but as you can still see, I get the vault prompt and I'm still able to hop out of the window. Which means the correct way of knifing a window to prep a run out instead of just hitting the bottom twice is to shoot out a portion here and here. And then knife the sliver of barricade on the left side of that. And as you can see, I can still hop out. Now, this isn't the only barricade tip that I'm going to give you. In fact, I have a lot of them. Another tip with a window being that it takes 2 bullets in order to destroy a sliver of any part of the barricade. 1 bullet doesn't destroy it, but 2 does. It's always 2 no matter where you try to break the barricade. So if you're ever trying to go for a late round peek into the outside of the building to shoot an attacker, you can absolutely abuse this. All you have to do is go up to the barricade and look around where head level is. It's usually this one right here. If you think they're crouching, maybe break open both of them, but all you have to do is put 1 bullet into the barricade. Once you've done that and you know that they're where you want them to be, you shoot out the second bullet, and then you should be able to see them wherever you want. Let's say I know that they're crouching. Instead of breaking this panel, I'll break the one below it. I'll prep 1 bullet, and then I'll prep a second one, the second that I want to open it. Boom. And then you kill them. It's that easy. So what I do is if I know that I'm going to peek a window in the prep phase, I'll go around and do this. Now they're both prepped, so if I want to peek out the window, all I have to do is this. And peek people. It's so easy. The reason that I like to do that as well is because I only like to actually break the barricade portion. I don't like to break the glass, which is why I don't just spam through a window and break it. I like to prep it and then shoot because then the glass isn't broken, which makes it make less noise, and it makes it to where the window breaking doesn't make noise either. Something else that makes way less noise is instead of just opening a barricade with your crowbar or shooting it open blatantly, you can prep entire barricades as well. Just like it takes 2 bullets to break any part of the barricade, it actually takes 20 bullets to destroy an entire barricade. As you can see, And now this is my 20th bullet. And as you can see, I ran out perfectly, and you can use this to your advantage. If you, in the prep phase, put 19 bullets into the barricade like I just did, and you sit and wait for a noise, you can just shoot one bullet and then run out the barricade. And they will never see that coming, ever. Now that's enough about barricades, but trust me, we'll revisit them later. Because the next R6 tip that feels like cheating is the fact that if you're playing Finka, or you at least have a Finka on your team, and somebody self-revives out of a frost mat that they walk into, if you self-revives, it gives you this huge bleeding effect, right? Look, I'm leaving gallons of blood on the floor that should not even be humanly possible. But if I simply just give a Finka boost, that effect goes away. As you can see, I can sprint around. I'm not leaving any more pools of blood anywhere that I go. So the one thing that makes Frost actually kind of powerful in a solo queue environment is completely gone with Finka. Now, you might not have thought that that gives you that much of an advantage because it's pretty situational, but something that is way less situational is this next tip about making head holes. Now, most people, when they make head holes, make them from about a distance of right here, right? That's a good sized head hole. The one thing about it, though, is you can't vault through it, which is good because your enemies can't either. But if you just back up just a little bit, like that much, it still looks like head holes. So they're not going to try to vault through that, but trust me, you still can. So if you get good with making head holes that don't look like they're vaultable, but are actually vaultable, you can surprise a lot of enemies. For example, if you have a guy right here contesting you when you're in cash, instead of taking this gunfight here, you can pull out your shotgun, vault, and shotgun him, and catch him completely by surprise. Always having an extra rotate option is going to be advantageous to you, no matter where it is, and head holes are no exception. Something else that they're definitely not going to expect at all is the fact that you can use zombies to make runouts that people would never expect. So let's say, for example, that you have this window broken open, right? Maybe you're trying to get a runout for people on this window or these windows. It doesn't matter. You just have this window open, right? Well, one thing is if you zombie it, the attackers are going to expect you to melee it 2 times and then break it to run out, right? Because it takes 3 melees to do it. What if I told you that you didn't have to melee it at all? Because Ubisoft implemented a new mechanic with a zombie that makes it to where you can't vault on top of a zombies, and if you try to vault near or next to them at all, that they just break. Which means that if you want to fool them, you put it up there, they're going to expect you to melee it 3 times, when in reality, it's just going to break, and then you can run out and catch them completely by surprise. It's a crazy way to abuse Ubisoft mechanics in order to get a free kill, which is why it kind of feels like cheating. Another tip that definitely feels like cheating is the fact that you can manipulate tarps and carpet around any map to make sound louder. For example, people love to rush elbow as blitz or just anybody in general. So that's why I actually recommend that you shotgun tarps like this or carpet around any maps. It's not really that noticeable of a difference, but to me, the sound of tarps or concrete is a different sound, even if it's not louder or quieter. It's just a different sound, which helps me pinpoint people's location better. Because if I know that they're making a tarp sound, I know, well, they're not on this one, because I shot this one open, and they're not on these two, because let's say I shotgun those open, so I know that they have to be on these 2 tarps, because this is a different sound than this, right? So now I can manipulate the carpet and the tarps around the map to know exactly which ones they're on, so I know exactly where to place my crosshair to know where I need to take the gunfight. So it gives you information at the cost of almost nothing. Another great piece of information that you need in your ranked games is that if you're ever trying to play above or below a wooden floor for vert play, and you don't know if the metal beams that you're shooting into go up, down, left, right, you just don't know, a good rule of thumb is it always goes in the opposite direction that the wood is going, which is how it works in real life. So if the wood is going up and down, then I know the metal beams are going left to right. Or if I turn this way, the wood's going left to right, so I know the metal beams are going to be up and down. Let's test it out, right? Look at that. They're up and down because the wood is left to right. You can do this literally anywhere. Let's try it over here. I know the wood's up and down, so the metal beams are going to be left to right. Look at that. They're going left to right, right? So it's always the opposite of where the wood is going. So if you're ever playing vert, just know that. Something else that you need to know is that if you're planning on spawn peeking a window, do not break the glass of that window. Breaking the glass of a window makes it way more obvious that you're spawn peeking. For example, to show you this, what is more obvious as an attacker? This as a spawn peek right here, or that as a spawn peek? Obviously, this is more obvious because the glass is broken. It especially works if it's next to another window that also has glass on it, because people's minds as attackers are going to reference this window in their heads without knowing it subconsciously, right? And they're going to say that these two look pretty similar, and therefore no one's spawn peeking on it, when in reality someone is spawn peeking on it. And if in reference they have this with glass on it and this without glass on it, their brain is immediately going to think, oh, someone's on that window, and they're going to ADS it, right? But if they both have glass on it and they're not getting shot from that one, then the brain isn't immediately going going to see that there's a spawn peak there, even if it ends up seeing it later. So if you're going for a spawn peak, just break the side of the barricade like that. Don't break the glass. You'll get a lot more kills that way. Now, one thing on my channel that I like to do, especially when I'm streaming, is Amaruing through hatches. It makes less noise than doing it through a window, and typically it's a lot safer, especially if it's not connected to the site like this hatch is. But another thing that's just as good is using flash grenades before you do it. Well, how would you do that? Not only can you literally just shoot through the hatch like this, especially with a shotgun, and then just throw a flash through there, right? That works. But you can also do it from the floorboard as well, by just shooting open a part of the floor that you think somebody is going to be sitting on, throwing a flash grenade like this, pulling out your Amaru ability, and flashing in, and going in right after the flash has been detonated to get a free kill. If you time it right and you're quick enough, they will still be blinded by the time you come in. Flashing also gets rid of a lot of sound, making you a lot more sneaky when you do this, and if you have a shotgun to their face, or in this case an SMG-11, you will get that kill. So before you Amaru into a hatch, either through the hatch or through the floor, just throw in a little flash grenade, and then pull out your ability, Amaru in, and get some free kills. Another niche way that you can use an ability to get a free kill is this tip with Fenrir. Now, Fenrir mines aren't bulletproof anymore, which means that you need to be able to find creative ways to hide the Fenrir mines without them getting shot. One of the best ways that you can do this is by using barricades. All you have to do is break the glass and the actual barricade on a window. Then throw your Fenrir mine on the windowsill, just like this, and activate it. Once you've done that, you're going to re-barricade the barricade, just like this, and then you're going to shoot out a part of the window like this, next to your Fenrir mine. This will make it to where if they walk through right here, they're going to get stunned by the Fenrir mine. And if they're looking around corners for that Fenrir with their drone, they're never going to think to look outside of the window right there. You could even break it a little bit lower instead of breaking it right there, and they will still get stunned. And their first instinct, again, isn't going to look for a barricade. They're going to look down there, they're going to look right there, they're going to look up there, they're going to look somewhere in the roof if that's possible. Maybe they're looking for the floor glitch. Whatever it may be, they're not going to look where the Fenrir mine is, which is actually a very big deal. Because if they try once and you're doing the strat, then you know that they're eventually going to have to try again, which means you can be prepared by sitting somewhere like Skybridge, and the second that you hear it go off again, you wait for them to get blind and you shoot them. And then they're going to go back and do it again, and they're going to go back and they're going to do it again. All this does is it gives you more free opportunities to get that kill on the blinded person, and it wastes even more time. So if you ever have a window that you can put Fenrir mines in, like this window here that nobody really repels on, I definitely recommend that you do it. Something else that you definitely need to try in your ranked games is this glitched drone spot on Consulate. If you're pushing the top floor and you want a good drone spot for the hallway next to the bathroom, all you have to do is get on your drone, drive your drone into the wall like this, turn, then drive into this white pillar, and then move your drone to the left without turning your head. Then you could turn around, and now you are inside the wall, and you can see this hallway. And if you get off your camera really quick and you go around to here, you can't see that camera, but that camera can definitely still see you. And the best part about it, let me ping right here, right? This is where the camera is. It's bulletproof. It's completely bulletproof. I'm spamming an entire mag into where this drone would be, and it's still alive, as you can see. I can even go behind it, and I can't see or shoot it either. It's still right there. It is a bulletproof camera that they can't even see, that you will get free information on. Crazy glitch. It's still unpatched, and it's been unpatched for seasons, and I abuse it every single time I get on Consulate, and you should too. Something else that you need to be abusing in every single game is moving while making any sort of sight setup, whether it be head holes or rotates. Whenever you're actually doing the action of shooting the holes open, you should be moving the entire time. You can move side to side, but I find the best use of it to actually be moving in a circle like this, or a circle like this. It doesn't actually matter, but the entire reason that you move is because there's this funny thing that happens with your crosshair, where when you're sitting still, it doesn't move. But when you move, your crosshair actually expands because you're going to be less accurate with the shotgun that you're holding. Whether it be a bailiff or an actual shotgun, you get the idea, your crosshair expands. Which means that if you're trying to make a hole, the hole you make is going to be bigger. Let's say I want to make a hole like this, right? That's a pretty okay sized hole. But if I move around like this, the hole's much, much bigger, right? Now, this is a pretty bad piece of wall to do it on because of the material it's made out of. It's not very consistent. A much better wall to do it would be on drywall like this. And the reason that having a bigger hole whenever you're making rotates as opposed to a smaller hole is because the bigger holes that you have when you're making rotates means the less amount of shots that you have to put into the actual rotate. As you can see with the bailiff, I used 3 shots and I was able to make a rotate. If I wasn't moving, the holes would be smaller and I'd have to use way more bullets. See, I had to use 4, and an unskilled player would use like 5 or 6, or maybe even more than an entire mag. But just because I'm moving in a circle, or just moving side to side, I'm immediately able to get bigger holes than if I wasn't. So always be moving around when you're making any sort of rotate, and it will make rotates a lot quicker to make in the prep phase. Another trick that you can do to make rotations quicker with shotguns is by one-shotting hatches. Now, I'm going to one-shot this hatch with my shotgun, and I want you to try to guess how I do it. Now, obviously, I was moving, and that's part of the trick, but it's not the entire trick. To do this, all you have to do is go to the hatch. You want to make sure that you're not straight in front of the hatch and you're actually diagonal to it, so the hatch doesn't look like a square and it looks like a diamond when you're facing it. Then, you want the top of your crosshair and the bottom of your crosshair to line up with the top of the hatch and the bottom of the hatch. Pretty simple, right? To do this, obviously, you're going to have to back up, right? Now the bottom and the top are lined up. But if you back up like this, sometimes it won't one-shot the hatch. It did there, but sometimes it won't. And if you want to guarantee that it will, all you have to do is be moving while it's going on. And then you'll be able to one-shot hatches every single time without fail by just lining up your crosshair correctly and moving around. Another thing that makes the game just easier to play is going into your settings, going to general, and turning on your visible throw trajectory. Let's say, for example, that I wanted to get a Valkyrie camera above this pillar right here. I'm not going to try to land it in the roof because then they'd be able to shoot it, but I want to land it on top of the top of this pillar. Now, without my visible throw trajectory, it's going to be pretty hard. I don't know where this thing's going to land, and if I try to, like, make a lineup for it and actually throw it, I didn't even make it up there. Not even close, right? But all you have to do to make sure that you never miss literally anything in your game ever again is turning on visible throw trajectory. You might be saying this is a crutch, maybe it's only for new players. Well, personally, I don't like to miss, and it never really gets in the way of my gameplay. So now I know, oh, yeah, that's going to land way too far down. Maybe let's look up. That's going to land too deep and not get as much info, so maybe let's scoot back a bit until it's on top. Mess with it a bit more. And right there. That's about where I want it. Let's throw it. And obviously, because I lined it up, it didn't miss. It landed on top of the pillar, but not on the ceiling. And no one's going to find that, while the Valkyrie camera will definitely find them. This is one of the best Valkyrie spots in the game, and you can find many more like it by just turning on one simple setting. Something else that's very simple that I guarantee you're not doing, that you would need to start doing now, is putting your Mozzie Pest in floors instead of on the floor. What do I mean by this? Well, if I'm droning through this building and I see a Mozzie Pest just on the floor like this, which isn't a bad Mozzie Pest, it still covers this entire hallway and makes it where they, they can't drone upstairs. Like, it's okay. But if I'm droning and I see this, I'm not going to run into it, right? Unless I'm a copper solo queue teammate, I'm not going to run into that. I'm just going to keep my drone safe. And as Mozzie, you kind of don't want to let them keep their drones safe. You want to catch at least a drone. To do this, all you have to do is break open a little part of a wooden floor that you can find, like this one. Then, put the Mozzie Pest in the floorboard like this, and now it is much more likely that they're going to run over that. Why? Well, if I'm droning right here, I'm droning through this door, pretend I'm a drone, right? I'm droning in, right? And I see the little indicator on my screen of a Mozzie Pest. I'm gonna assume, oh, it's around this corner, right? And then once I see, oh, it's not around the corner, I'm gonna be like, oh, then it must be on the janitor door. Let me just walk past the janitor door, and then boom, that Mozzie Pest is going to catch me, right? 9 times out of 10, this works because they expect it to be like on a doorway. Especially, like, for instance, if there was wooden floor right here, right? And I put the Mozzie Pest on this wooden floor, if they drive right here, right? They drive all the way right here and they see that indicator, of course they're gonna think the Mozzie Pest is around the door. That's what 90% of Mozzie players do. So then they're just going to drive past the door and drone the hallway, and then they're going to die to the Mozzie Pest in the floor, right? That's why putting Mozzie Pests in floors is such a good idea. I know this is a little bit of a bad example, but you get the idea. Start putting them in the floor and you'll get a lot more success out of your Mozzie Pests. Something else that will give you so much more success is aiming for the body with one-shot weapons. Now, the reason that you need to be aiming for the body when you have one-shot weapons like the Boss G or Kali Sniper or even shotguns for that matter is because it's an easier target to hit, right? Because I know that if I shoot him in the torso, he is going to get downed. Now, if you're playing Kali, aiming for the head and getting a headshot is cool because you'll get the kill, but 9 times out of 10, if you're in the position to down somebody, you're in the position to finish them off and kill them when they're on the ground as well. If the target that you're shooting for is bigger, it's easier to hit. Bigger things are easier to hit. I know, what a concept. But if I'm aiming and I'm quick peeking, right, it's so much easier for me to, like, just aim low and hit the body because it's so fucking big than it is for me to try to, like, flick to the head, right? Obviously, I missed there on purpose. I'm cracked if I want to be, but you get the idea. With it out of the way, though, my name is Alka. Check out this next video, and I hope I'll see you there. Later. Something in Siege that you didn't know is if you throw an H-charge on the side of a hatch that's electrified, you don't need to EMP it, because the proximity of that explosion will actually open up the hatch. As you can see, the hatch is open even after it was electrified. Now that was just one out of 25 things you didn't know about Siege, and if you knew that one, then stick to the end of the video because you might not know the rest. The next thing you didn't know being that if you're Flores and you try to Flores drone through an Aruni gate, but you activate the Flores drone right before it hits the Aruni gate, it'll actually go through the Aruni gate and come out on the other side without being destroyed by the Aruni gate. So if you're ever playing Flores, activate your drone before it hits the gate and you should be fine. Another attacking tip is if you're playing Ashe and you notice there's a bunch of utility, but you don't want it to get caught by ADSs or Wamai discs or anything of the sort, all you have to do to get a bunch of utility on the other side of a barricaded door is by shooting an Ashe charge under the barricade. So right now, there's a bunch of barbed wire and Fenrir mines on the other side of this barricade, and all I have to do is shoot an Ashe charge just like this, and it should destroy a bunch of other things on the side, as well as the actual barricade itself. Now let's bring it back to Aruni, where I have another trick for you. If you ever get the chance to put an Aruni gate on the other side of a reinforced wall, probably not this one, but you get the idea. What you can do is, if they try to get open the wall, you can sit on the breach just like this. So now he's putting his thermite on the wall, and because my Aruni gate is deactivated, he's able to do that. But the second he tries to activate the thermite, I can just step back, and my Aruni gate reactivating destroys his thermite. Now, the Aruni gate will be deactivated for a short period of time, so then he'd be able to get it right after, but at least it gives you some time to trick it if you need to call for your turbo out to come back, or your bandit to come back, or whatever it may be. For our next tip, this is called mirror tricking, which is literally the exact same thing as Aruni tricking, but with mirror. So, whenever I put my thermite on the wall, and then I activate it, the mirror is able to put her mirror on the wall, and then just completely stop my thermite charge. Not only does it make it to where you get the thermite charge off the table, but because she has 2 mirrors and I have 2 thermites, she's able to counter me completely, and now she has info on whether I'm going to put a second one down or not because of the mirror window, so it's a pretty good strat. The next thing you didn't know about Siege is that if you have an alibi on your team at all, if you or that alibi were to run out, you don't get identified when you run out. As you can see, Alibi's outside and there's just a big question mark over her head, and if any of her teammates decided to run out as well, they would not be identified as long as they hadn't been red pinged previously. The next thing you didn't know about Siege is that whenever a defender dies, they drop a phone if you're playing Dokkaebi or if you have a Dokkaebi on your team. Now, if you're a defender and you want them to not be able to hack the phone, you're literally able to just shoot the phone, and then they can't hack it. So that's a really great counter to Dokkaebi if you have a teammate that dies right next to you. The next thing you didn't know about Siege is a crazy drone hole spot for the basement of Bank. If you're ever playing Mira on this site, make sure that you cover up this drone hole here. You do this because, as you can see, that drone hole right there is from outside, so Twitch from spawn can get a Twitch drone on this drone hole and zap the mirror that's all the way over there. As you can see, my mirror is completely broken. So if you're ever playing Mira, at least bring an observation blocker on this door or cover up that drone hole somehow, because if you don't, they will get your mirror for free every single round if they know about that drone hole. The next thing you didn't know about Siege is there is a crazy Glaz and Maverick strat that you can do on any reinforced wall near the site. So if Glaz smokes on this wall right here and Maverick puts holes on the wall just like this, I can't see the Glaz on the other side, but because there's a smoke there, he can clearly see me. I also don't know where the breach is, so it's really hard to pre-fire it, but as you can see when I activate my glasses, he can clearly see me through the smoke if he's playing Glaz. The next thing you didn't know about Siege is if you're playing Hibana and you want to make a rotate for yourself, all it actually takes is 4 Hibana pellets. If I line up the bottom left arrow on my Hibana pellet crosshair with the bottom left of the red diamond on the reinforcement, just like this, and I shoot it on the wall, and I open it with my Hibana pellets, you're easily able to crouch and walk through this breach just like this. Oh my god. The next thing you didn't know about Siege is if you get EMP'd as Pulse, let's say somebody EMP grenades me. Now, if I pull my pulse scanner out, I can pull it out, but it actually doesn't work. So as you can see, I have an enemy right in front of me, but they clearly don't get heartbeat scanned until the EMP effect is gone. And if you do it with Thatcher instead of regular EMP grenades, the effect lasts even longer. The next thing you might not have known about Siege is if you have a teammate who prones, just like the Jaeger's doing, as Fenrir, you can throw your mine at their head, and if it flips correctly, the Fenrir mine will be stuck in the floor and no one can see it. And if he activates the Fenrir mine, it clearly still works, as I'm fully blinded right now. So you can hide Fenrir mines in the middle of the open, literally anywhere, by doing this glitch right here. Now, one thing about Siege is if you're ever looking at a deployable shield, because of the glass on the deployable shield, it's actually pretty easy to see the other person on the other side. If you want to be stealthy and you don't want them to know if you're behind the deployable shield, all you have to do is knife the glass on the shield just like this. If I can actually get it, hold on, there we go. And now they can't see you. You can't really see them, but if it's in a place where you know where they are, it doesn't really matter because you have the information anyways. So now they don't know if you're on the shield or not because maybe you have head holes over here. Oh wow, I just wallbanged him, but you get the idea. The next thing you might not have known is that if you actually place a mute jammer down, you can cancel the animation so that it actually makes it a little bit faster when you place the mute jammer down. So as you can see, I canceled the animation very last second, whereas before, if I were to put a mute jammer down like this, it would take a little bit more time. As you can see, this is me canceling the animation. So I got up just a tad bit faster after the action bar had already filled up, whereas if I were to just not move at all, it's a little bit slower. The next thing that you didn't know is that Finka, if you boost with Finka in a smoke, you will actually die faster. So if smoke deploys a smoke just like that, as you can see, this is how I die. I take about 5 damage per second, or I guess 10. But if I were to Finka boost and he throws a smoke, I would actually die a lot faster due to the adrenaline, making me breathe harder and more. Next up, if you're ever playing Fuse and you're wondering like where the actual Fuse charges go, it's always going to go right to left from wherever you placed it. So as you can see, he put it down just like that, and when he activates it, it's going to go from his right to my left from the way that he activated it. As you can see, it went from all the way over here to all the way over there. The next thing that you didn't know as Zofia is if you ever plant the bomb and they're trying to defuse the bomb, you can literally just pull your stuns out as they're defusing, and you can stop them from defusing with your stuns, kind of like you would do with an Echo or with an Ela. It doesn't really matter, but you can stun people off of the diffuser to get a free round win. The next thing you might not know about Siege is Capitao can make one-way smokes. So if you were to shoot a Capitao dart about right here at the top of the doorframe just like that, clearly he'd be able to see me if I were to walk through it, but because my head and my perspective is in the smoke, I actually can't see at all, and if he were to shoot it lower, even when I'm crouched, I wouldn't be able to see. But he can clearly still see my legs and kill me. The next Siege tip that you might not know is that it takes 20 bullets exactly to destroy a wooden barricade. So if I went to Ash Rush through this door, instead of wasting an Ash charge and making a bunch of noise and letting them know that I'm coming, all I'd have to do is shoot the barricade 19 times. And then on the 20th bullet, I should be able to just walk in. Just like that. So if you ever want to rush, you can do it with simply one bullet instead of an entire Ash charge, and it makes it a lot easier to rush and a lot safer and quieter to do so. The next thing you might not know about Siege is if you actually vault next to a zombie barricade, most times it will break. So you can use this to get really sneaky runouts just like this. If an attacker sees a zombie barricade that's not broken, they're gonna listen for the sound cue of it getting meleeed 3 times, just like this, before they ever turn around to actually shoot you. However, if you have a zombie barricade like this and it breaks immediately, they're never going to expect that or react to it. So if I were to vault right next to it and then run out, I could easily get a free run out kill. Now, just like it takes 20 bullets to destroy a barricade, it takes 5 bullets to destroy the glass on a barricaded window. So if you ever want to hear people rappelling outside and you want to break the glass, all it takes is 5 bullets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you can see, all of the glass falls. Or if you have a shotgun, you can do the exact same thing. Just one pump a window like this from far away when you're ADS'd, and it'll break the glass on the window as well without destroying the barricade. Now, if you ever do break the glass on a barricade just like this, and you want to spawn peek from the barricade, this brings me into my next tip. If you ever want to destroy a single wooden pallet on a barricade, all it takes is 2 bullets. 1, 2, just like that. So if you ever want to prep a spawn peek, all you have to do is shoot it once. Once you hear them, you shoot it again, and then you kill them. It's very easy to do because all it takes is 2 bullets. The next thing that you might have not known is if you have a reinforced wall just like this one right here, you want to actually shoot the soft wall portion of it out before you reinforce it just like this. So I have people who are in closet right now. I want you to use gadgets, walk around, make a bunch of noise, shoot guns, whatever it may be. I want to try to hear you. As you can hear, that's a bunch of gunfire and explosions going around. Now, if we were to destroy the soft wall on this reinforcement just like this, and now we tried to listen to it, it is much louder whenever they do anything. As you can see, it's a lot louder, so start destroying the soft wall on things whenever you reinforce them. Another thing that you might not know about Rainbow Six Siege is if you actually want to animation cancel with Dokubi's tablet, just like you do with Mute's tablet, you can do that. As you can see, I got off of it pretty fast, even though the calls did activate. So what you do is you wait for the action bar to fill up completely, and then you quickly just take out your weapon just like that. And that animation is a lot faster than trying to Dokubi call and not pulling out your weapon and it being all slow. So you can animation cancel with Dokubi's tablet, just like you can do it with Mute's jammer. Now for the final tip, if you ever have a deployable shield, you can actually place it on the side of a doorway just like this. And that makes it so where no one can walk through the doorway. So if they wanted to try to rush, they couldn't, because now they have to vault over the deployable shield in order to do it. And a lot of people don't even know about that. And if they do, they'll get stuck in the animation and they'll die to anybody on site. So it's a great tip if you ever want to hold the site without them rushing through a doorway. But that's pretty much it for today's video. Check out this next video. My name's Alka, and I'll see you in the next one. Later. Defending in Siege can be very hard for the average player right now, which is why I'll be giving you 17 tips for defense in Rainbow Six Siege. The first of which being that you only ever want to hold angles if you're doing it for a swing. If I know, hey, there's a guy in trophy right here, and I'm sitting and holding the common pixel angle from this doorway onto the trophy door, and this guy quick peeks me, then I know when I'm on this door that he knows that I'm here. So why would I continue to hold the angle? I'm just gonna get pre-fired, right? It doesn't make sense. A lot of you are holding angles just to get pre-fired, and you're wondering how you're getting pre-fired, why you're dying when you're holding angles, and when you're holding tight angles with an ACOG. You just don't get it. It's because you're never really supposed to hold angles in this game. Literally ever. If you're on defense, I can understand why some people might think that it's good to hold certain angles, even with a shotgun. But the only reason you'd ever hold angles, especially even with a shotgun, is to swing. Because in this game, it is swing or be swung, due to a number of different factors that I'll talk about later. But you only ever want to hold angles if it's for information. So, if I'm holding this angle, I'm holding this angle because I'm waiting for the information of the guy crossing my screen to hug the left side of this door so that I can swing and kill him. That's how you want to be holding angles. I'm not holding the angle to see if anybody, like, tries to take a gunfight with me. That's not why I'm holding the angle. I'm holding the angle to get the info if someone runs across so then I can get a free kill. It's an info angle. Let's take these head holes for example as well. Most people play these head holes wrong, and it's why you're losing rounds on this site, I promise you. People will sit and hold the trophy door to master right here, like this, or they'll sit and they'll hold armory like this. This is terrible, because if someone's swinging you right here, they're going to see your shoulder first, and you won't have time to react and kill them. Instead, you'd want to hold the angle like this. Very, very tight, so when they swing, you have info, and you can reswing and peek them. That is the only time you should be holding angles. If that's the only time you're ever going to hold angles, then what do you do the rest of the time? This brings me into my second tip. You want to be swinging literally everything. Like I said earlier, even when I'm holding angles, the only time I'm holding angles is because I'm about to swing somebody. This is why shotguns are so easy for people who are trying to outgun skill people, or especially somebody like me who likes to swing a lot. If I know someone is on this trophy door and they're about to swing me, I'd rather swing them than be swung on, especially because you're having to rely on things like reaction time, server differences, ping differences, Wi-Fi, lag, whatever it may be. All those things can make it to where they see you before you see them. But if you're swinging, you have that advantage now and they don't. So if you swing because you know they're there because they're making noise, whatever it may be, you're easily going to get that kill. Easily, especially with a shotgun, whenever you only have to shoot them one time, that is a free kill. You never want to be sitting and holding this angle like this and then waiting for them to cross. You want to hear them get close to the door, and once you pinpointed their location, easy kill, right? Every single time. Swing everything you possibly can. But there's a caveat to this, which brings me in my third point. You want to be managing your aggression properly. So when people say swing or be swung, or swing everything like I just did, they imagine just literally swinging every doorway all the time ever. They're swinging literally everything, being super aggressive. That's not it. There's a difference between swinging every gunfight you take and taking every gunfight. I want you to listen to that again. There is a difference between taking every gunfight versus swinging when you get into a gunfight. There is a very, very large difference there. If I'm down in man count on defense, I want to be playing really aggressive because I need to even out that man count so they don't have multiple people surrounding me, getting the bomb down and overwhelming me. That's just how the game works. If you're up in man count, they have to come to you since they're on attack, so just be passive. You don't really have to swing anybody, right? So let's say I'm up on man count and I'm playing top floor Oregon and I know there's a guy in trophy and I know that there's a guy in master trying to get the wall open unsuccessfully, and I have 4 teammates or maybe even just 3. I don't need to be on the trophy door swinging, kids. I don't need to be on these head holes right here trying to swing top main, swing trophy. I don't need to swing. They have to come to us. We have all the time in the world. Instead, I can hold angles like this and only swing whenever they get close to me and they're about to swing me. I'm still swinging everything, but I'm doing it in a passive way and only when I need to. This is managing aggression, especially in a man count way, instead of just literally taking every gunfight you possibly can because you heard the term swing or be swung and you didn't understand what it meant until now. My next tip, if you want to be a better defender in Siege, is to utilize punch holes. These are being really underutilized right now because people just kind of forgot they existed, but you can use these to get free kills. Actually, though, I wouldn't recommend doing that. I'd recommend using punch holes for information baiting. If I have a bunch of punch holes here, let's say I have like at least 5 or 6 or 7, whatever it may be, some head height right here, some crouch height, some prone height, whatever it may be. If I'm an attacker trying to attack blue from oil pit or from secret stairs, this is really scary to look at, right? So not only am I going to be more passive on attack and, you know, actually try to drone it out a bit more so it wastes time, not only am I going to do that, but also I'm going to pre-fire this, right? If I see that there's people here, oh, pre-fire, 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 right? That will give you, the defender who's sitting on this reinforcement, information as to where they are. If they're pre-firing where I was, you're going to see the bullet tracers and you're going to go up to them and get a free kill. If they're pre-firing from close on the wall like this, you'll see those bullet tracers while you're on the wall, and then you'll swing and pre-fire the kid, right? So you can use punch holes as not only a way to add ghost pressure, to waste time because they're scared, but also as a way to information bait. Let's continue this example. There's some walls like this one where, let's say I'm an attacker and I'm dropping moto hatch. If I'm swinging this door, I'm only worrying about these VTOLs. Then I worry about the rotate, then I worry about that door, then I worry about the bomb chassis, and then I can go for the plant once the site's clear, right? It's very easy for me to just go from one angle to the next by clearing it and doing so very efficiently. However, you can add punch holes to make this a lot more difficult. Let's say I have a punch hole right here, or I have some chairs broken right here that catch people's eyes, or I have head holes here that are reversible and usable for defenders. Now all of a sudden, because I just have a punch hole and I punched a few chairs, as an attacker, it's way scarier for me to push. I quickly this, oh, there's a head hole there. I don't know whether to pre-fire the feet holes or the head holes. Now you have a 50-50 chance of winning that gunfight instead of a 100% chance because you're pre-firing from a quick peek. If I have these chairs broken, I'm thinking, oh, okay, door, oh, that chair's broken, gotta peek that. Okay, maybe what if other chairs are broken, right? Let's slowly quick peek this, quick peek this, quick peek this, slowly, right? And then you could be behind that reinforcement and swing them once you know they're quick peeking, or vice versa from other angles. It doesn't matter, right? But just adding an additional punch hole angle can really help you in your ranked games. Something else that can really help you win ranked games is getting on cams in the early round. So the thing about solo queue is, again, you cannot trust your teammates to do what they need to be doing, whether it's because you have different playstyles or just because your teammates are bad. Trust me, I know. So in the early round, if everybody's alive, you can guarantee that your teammates don't have the brain power to be on cameras. So you should be the person that is on that cameras because you can't really rely on your teammates to do it. Not only does this make it to where you have a lot more information than you previously did, but if anybody's spawning on the exterior cameras immediately, you can tell where all of them respawned. If you can tell where all of them respawned, you can generally tell as well where they're going to push because of where they spawned. You can also get information as to what operators they're playing, so you know how to play around them and counter them, so it gets you a lot of early round information. Not only this, but if you relay that information to your team, they get all of those benefits as well. Let's say you have a roamer roaming somewhere on coastline, let's say in Sunrise, but everybody spawned main door, and you're playing kitchen. Now you can be like, hey, go play vert on top of service through the floor holes inside of penthouse so you can get a free kill on anybody on the door. Or hey, prep a run out on the double window to hop out on them because they're all pushing the service door, right? Instead of him just uselessly being in Sunrise where no one is pushing, now he's actively helping in the exact way that you want him to, or he'll at least have the information on what you want him to do. Maybe he wants to do his own thing, but he'll at least have the information on where they're pushing, which can greatly help your roamers waste time, which I've talked about on this channel being paramount for your success as a Rainbow Six Siege player. This goes hand in hand with my next tip, which is getting off of your cameras if someone dies. Now, like I said, you can't really trust your teammates in solo queue, but what you can trust is a lot of them get bored. So if you get on cams and you notice that your teammates are flipping through cameras, then you know if they're dead, you can get off camera safely, especially if you have a Valkyrie or a Maestro and Echo on your team that dies. They really like using their cameras. That's the whole reason they play the operator. So you can count on them to watch your cameras, and then you're not wasting an extra person on cameras for flank watch, which is an extra gun up on the field, an extra angle that's being watched so they can't sneak into the bomb site and get the bomb down. Something else that you need to learn late round on defense is learning when to come back to site. Too often do I see roamers that are roaming for way too long. Now, I've said time and time again that a roamer's job is to waste time, but it only comes to a certain extent. The job of a roamer is to waste time so they don't get to site, but if they're already on site, then you haven't done your job, so you might as well come back to site to help your team. I see a lot of people playing Cav, playing Vigil, playing Wamai, playing Alibi, or any number of roamers that are just off site when it's a 3v5. Good rule of thumb, if there are only 3 defenders on the board, go back to site. 4 allows a little bit of people to hold the objective, or maybe an extra roamer so that you have time to get back to the site, or it makes it to where you're able to roam if all 3 of your teammates are on the site. But if there's ever just you and 2 other teammates, get back to site. There is no reason for you to be roaming, because if that many of your teammates are dead, chances are they're already on the site and your teammates need you for help. Now, I see a lot of people also trying to go for a flank and get a hero play down, whether it be through an interrogation or just a multi-kill. Don't do this. Swallow your pride, swallow your ego, and just go back to site. You'll end up winning the round instead of losing it, which is much more important than a TikTok clip that you're going to post that only gets 4 views in the first place. So please just go back to site if you only have 2 teammates left. Something else you need to learn how to do properly if you are defending is how to trick walls. This can be done with impacts, with Cade, with Bandit, or with Turbo. Even Mute on some occasions, but I doubt you'll ever do that, so don't even worry about it. If you know there is a wall that needs to be opened by attackers, but they have a Thatcher, they have EMPs, or they have a way to get that wall open that you can't counter, what you need to be able to learn how to do is bandit trick. If you can be a good bandit tricker, you can get both of the walls completely opened and they can't do anything about it, even though they brought utility to do things, which makes it to where they have to rotate their push, they have to waste time, and it'll probably end up winning you the round because they can't get the bomb down. The same can be said for Cade, the same can be said for Turbo, the same can be said for the combination of 2 operators, whether it be Bandit and Cade if there's a lot of walls, or Cade and Turbo if they have a lot of EMPs. So you need to learn how to trick walls because it can actually be the difference between you winning or losing. I say that phrase a lot on my channel, but this genuinely is the reason why I win games sometimes, because I just know how to trick correctly. If you want a full guide on how to trick with all of these operators, let me know down in the comments and I actually will make one if enough people actually want that to be a video idea. Another piece of utility that you need to learn how to use on defense is secondary informational gadgets. These include barbed wire, bulletproof cameras, and proximity alarms. If you're playing ranked, chances are you are solo queue, which is why you're hard stuck in your rank and you're watching YouTube videos to get better. Trust me, I get it, I used to be there too. If you're solo queuing, a lot of the times the information gadgets that you're putting down, like barbed wire, like proximity alarms, or like bulletproof cameras, your teammates aren't going to use, whether it be because they're not playing off of them properly or because they're just not paying attention to the information that the gadget is providing. So what I do is I make up a strat that is self-sufficient for me and I give myself that utility. If I'm playing Rafters on Clubhouse with Azami, I'm going to keep my barbed wire for myself. One on my Rafters staircase and one on my lower garage staircase or my Rafters door. It doesn't matter. I'm giving myself that informational utility because I know as a player I'm going to act off of it. If I know someone's on my barbed wire, I'm going to swing them. If I hear a proximity alarm that I placed down in the area that I'm playing, now I know where to flank and where to push and where to swing and where to hold. A lot of your times your teammates will just ignore sound cues. They won't even use the information. So just save it for yourself and learn how to swing and play off of it, and you will get a lot more value out of those secondary gadgets that you weren't even properly using before. The next tip that I'm going to give you is you need to learn why the site setup is the way that it is. Now, something that's pretty default for the gym bedroom site on top floor of Clubhouse is this vaultable rotate next to this reinforcement here. But why is there a rotate here in the first place? Well, it's so you can rotate into the main hall and play top main stairs, but I guarantee you knew that. Something you might not know though is why is it a vaultable rotate? Why isn't it a crouch rotate or a standing rotate or the entire wall open? Why is it specifically vaultable? If you don't know the answer to questions like that when you go into a site, and be honest with yourself, then you don't properly know how to play off of that site setup in the first place. The reason specifically that this rotate is vaultable, if you were curious, is because people will get on this drone hole and shoot the feet of people who are inside of bathroom. If you make this vaultable, they can't do that because there's a wooden wall here. So that was just a quick little information. But now you know, because you know how the site setup works, now you know never to peek that drone hole and stand in front of the drone hole, because now you know people can peek off of it, right? So just by learning why the site setup is the way it is, you learned a new tip that you never even knew before. Let's take this quad wall for example. A lot of people will just put feed holes all across this quad wall with a rotate on the right just like this, and they'll call it a day. You don't want to do this. Not only is setting it up like this wrong, but playing inside of the actual site as a defender is wrong too. Because the entire purpose of these feet holes is so that if an attacker walks in, you have long angles that can watch them and they can't see you, because they're feet holes and not head holes, right? So you can deny anybody planting in here. But if you're a defender and you're sitting behind these feet holes, now you're exposed to that doorway if they've taken construction control. So now, just because you learned why these feet holes exist, you now know not to play here, right? So again, just learning the site setup and why the site setup is the way that it is important if you actually want to get better at the game. Now, I talked about earlier how making feet holes here with a rotate here is not a good idea, because you actually want to be reinforcing this wall here with an optional rotate on the right side as well. Reinforcing this wall here allows you to rotate through the Logi gold wall just like this. And now you won't be exposed to the window on the other side of that reinforcement. If you're not going to be playing inside of Logi though, and you have maybe a mirror set up instead that requires more reinforcements, then you would take this reinforcement off. But now, because you know why that reinforcement is there, you're more flexible in understanding as to when to and when to not use it. So again, you need to learn why things are set up the way that they are in order to get better at the game on defense. Something else that you need to be doing on defense is playing way more passive on mirror windows or deployable shields. So again, I'm going to bring you into a custom game. If the default plant is right here on this wall and you're playing mirror, you have a nitro cell that you can throw over to kill the person who is on this plant. So why would you literally ever peek that mirror? You wouldn't, right? As an attacker, I know that defenders are way too aggressive on their mirrors. So I'll sit here and I'll sit here and pre-fire and actually try to kill the mirror because I know they're going to swing me because I know they're dumb. But if that mirror never peeks me, that's really scary for me because now if I try to go for the default plant, he's going to nitro me, he's going to push me, he's going to do whatever it may be. And now you can bait out the nitro, but you can't bait out a player who's behind the bomb chassis. You can't bait out a player who's behind the door because he just rotated off of his mirror. And you can't bait the player who's on his mirror who's easily able to swing you when you go for the plant a second time, right? So if you just don't peek your mirror this entire time, even though there's 3 people here, there's a guy going for a plant, there's a glass, there's smokes, there's Grimbees going everywhere, just don't peek it. There's no reason to really ever peek your mirrors unless you need to because they're rushing into sight or something, right? People over peek their mirrors way too much. And the same thing can be said for deployable shields. If I have a deployable shield and I'm inside of server right here, I have a deployable shield next to the server rack and it's watching the pixel angle into tunnel, I never need to peek this unless they actually try to push up tunnel. Then I peek, right? Because again, we talked about reaction time on attack or on defense. They have to react to you peeking a shield, which is much harder for them, especially because they don't know if you're going to peek the top left, right? They don't know if you're going to peek the top right of the shield. They don't know that you're going to peek the side of the shield. So they're going to have to react to you, which again is a lose gunfight for them. So don't peek the shield. Don't give them the satisfaction of the pre-fire because you're trying to pre-fire and get a kill through this pixel. Just sit here, look at them, stare at them for a minute, and the second they push in, kill them, go back to your shield. Kill him, go back to your shield, right? Be way more passive on shields and mirror windows, and I promise you, you will rank up more. Something else that you need to learn how to do on defense is learning when to give up the site for a retake. There are some times whenever you're holding a bomb site that it is better to actually let them have the bomb site and go for a plant so that you can retake it later. Like I said, swinging is a lot better than holding angles. So let's say that I'm playing smoke, right? They have elbow control. They have a guy in pillar. They might even have a guy tower stairs. They have a guy on these head holes. Maybe a guy on the hatch that just dropped trying to go for a plant. Whatever. They're swarming the bomb site, right? It would be a mistake for me to sit here and try to swing with a shotgun. It would be a mistake for me to hold this angle and kill people trying to go for the plant, right? Because the guy elbow's going to kill me. The guy pillar's going to kill me and wallbang me. They're going to drone me. They're going to call out. They're going to flash above me, right? So it would be better for me to just literally leave and then go for a retake after the bomb is done, right? Because naturally attackers are going to start holding angles and backing out of the bomb site once the bomb is down, which makes it a lot easier for you to go into the bomb site. So let's say they planted default right here, right? They have a guy elbow, they have a guy, let's say pillar, and they have a guy on these head holes. 1v3 situation, right? If I'm smoke and I backed out of sight and I backed into freezer, how would I handle this? Well, first, you got a quick peek, right? Let's quick peek the guy pillar. He's not peeking me. Okay, I'm going to go over here. Okay, no one's on plant. I know no one's on bomb. That means they probably backed out in the box or on the head holes, right? So mental note right there. Now I'm quick picking, right? I take the elbow gunfight. I win the elbow gunfight, or I smoke it off. He backs up, whatever it may be. Elbow's not an issue. Now I take the guy with pillar, right? I'm taking the guy pillar. I'm taking the guy pillar. I either kill him or we back up. We take another gunfight, right? But while I'm doing that, I'm conscious of my head holes here. So maybe I smoke pillar. Maybe I smoke pillar and I peek the head holes, right? But this entire time, while I've been smoking, going for kills, holding angles, quick peeking, I've been taking space. Notice how now I'm on the double door to sight. But when I started, I was in freezer on the head holes. I did all of that. I'm retaking, which was way easier for me to do because they're holding angles, they're being passive, and that's a lot easier to take space from passive players than it is from aggressive players, unless you're baiting, right? Which you don't want to do if they have the bomb down because you're going to waste time. So it's a lot easier to retake sites in some certain scenarios than it is to just like hold it down and try to like be more aggressive and hold space that you don't need to be holding, right? So learn when to play for a retake in situations like that instead of just being stubborn and holding the bomb site. So we just talked about learning when to give up the site and retake it, but now I actually want to teach you how to retake the site. Why is my mouse on the screen? There's a lot of issues that people make whenever they retake sites, so I'm going to quickly address all of them so that you can be better at defending in Rainbow Six Siege. If you're trying to retake a site because they planted, never hold angles and bait. A good attacker will never swing you. Why will they never swing you? They'll never swing you because they don't have to. Why don't they have to? Because you have to come to them. You have to kill them and defuse the bomb. So why would I be swinging you and risking my life taking a gunfight I don't need to take when I could just hold this and wait for you to swing red stairs and then get a free kill, right? So never bait and never be passive and sit still and hold angles on defense if you're going for a retake. I see too many people doing this. You're just wasting time and you're going to lose the round. So always be trying to take space. If I know that they planted, let's say on the bomb chassis right here, they have a guy in rafters, they have a guy on this wall, it's a 1v2, I'm trying to retake and defuse the bomb. I'm not gonna sit and hold the window here and hope the guy rafters peeks me. That's dumb, right? I'm also not gonna sit on any one of these holes and hope that the guy on the wall swings me, because he's not gonna do that. He's gonna sit on rappel, he's gonna sit on the left side of the wall and hold the angle and swing whenever I'm defusing, and he gets a sound call. So instead, I need to swing them, right? If I know a kid's rafters, I'll use this hole. Okay, he's not there, I'll use this hole. I'm clearing, right? I'm clearing. He's there, pre-fire, right? Maybe I clear the wall first because the guy's in the corner or he's on the rafters staircase. Okay, I'm quick peeking. I don't see him on the right side. Okay, I'm looking at lower. I'm seeing if he's repelled. He's not repelled. Okay, I'm quick peeking the left side. I'm taking space. I'm taking space. Now I'm behind server rack. Let's take the gunfight with the rafters kid. No one's in rafters. Maybe he's on the staircase. Maybe I killed him earlier. Okay, let's go quad wall. The entire time though, I'm retaking, right? You always want to be trying to take space because you only have so much time. Then go for the pick, right? Diffuse, fake diffuse. When he swings, go for the pick. Maybe even hard stick it. If you hard stick it to 3 bumps out of 4 bumps in order to defuse, then he's going to swing. Then you kill him, then you defuse, right? So that's how you need to be retaking, is you need to isolate your 1v1s. I isolated the guy rafters, then I killed the wall guy. Or maybe I killed the wall guy, then I killed a rafters kid. But also positioning plays into this too. If you know there's a kid on these headholes, you know there's a kid on the wall, don't swing out this door. You're going to get shot from the guy on the wall and the headholes. You're gonna have to take 2 gut finds at once. Don't do that. Instead, take the wall first. You quick peek, you pre-fire, no one's there. Okay, now take rafters. Don't leave this position on radio until you've killed the rafters kid. If you can't kill the rafters kid and he's close, then don't swing out here, or else they're gonna coordinate a pinch, right? Maybe rotate to red stairs. Now I'm on red stairs. Because the rafters headholes can't see me and maybe he's close on this wall, I could swing this kid for absolutely free, right? Then isolate this 1v1. I go to the headholes, pre-fire, quick peek, quick peek. Okay, I know he's close on the wall. Pre-fire, 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 easy kill, defuse the bomb, right? Isolate your 1v1s, isolate it with positioning, with gun skill, with rotations, make sure you're being aggressive, don't hold angles, don't bait, and you will be much better at retaking a Rainbow Six Siege. Now that we're actually here though, I want to talk about one other thing when you're trying to be a better defender, and that is holding power positions. A power position would be a position like rafters on Clubhouse, where if you die here, you probably are going to lose the round. But if you live here, you're probably going to win the round. That's why people will play Azami here. They'll put an Azami here. They'll put an Azami over here. Maybe they'll put a third Azami. Oh, I missed, but you get the idea. I don't have crosshairs on because I'm recording a video, but you get the idea. They're putting Azamis pretty much just everywhere because they're trying to hold down this position for as long as possible because they know this is a power position. What are some other examples of power positions? Piano on cafe, trophy on Oregon, top main on villa for statue, library on chalet for top floor. These are all examples of power positions where the longer you hold it, the better off your team will be. And if you die there, chances are your team's not going to win because they have direct sight pressure, right? If you have a power position, you also need to play differently. And most other positions in the game, whether it be top red, in cash, on the hole, in radio, even in CC, in construction, whatever it may be, you have an escape route back to site. So you don't need to play your life. If they drone you, if they're pressuring you, you can leave. A power position, like rafters, does not have that luxury because people will put head holes here instead of a rotate. So now you don't have any safe rotate options back to site, which means instead of playing aggressive or peeking, you need to play as passive as humanly possible without dying, and you need to hold this for as long as possible because chances are you're probably going to die here. Now you might be wondering, why not just put a rotate here? Well, that's because you're going to die here. Putting a rotate here and giving yourself a rotate back to site won't do anything because that wall's open and they have a window here. All you're doing by putting a rotate here is allowing the people who are in rafters attacking to have a direct rotate onto the bomb. Whereas before, they would have to go through this window and get shot by red, get shot by this hole, get shot by a person swinging from the bomb chassis, right? So you just essentially made it way easier for attackers, and you're not saving your life by doing it in the process. So power positions, just stay here for as long as possible, even if it means throwing your life away, which is called playing your life, and you will, I promise you, win a lot more games in Rainbow Six Siege. Moving on to tip 15, you need to learn how to manage your utility based on other utility that your teammates have. What does this mean? Well, let's say that I'm playing an operator like Smoke, and I'm playing CC on Clubhouse, but we don't have any wall denial to keep this wall closed. We don't have a Turbo to slow him down. We don't have a Tachanka to maybe slow him down a little bit. We don't have a Goyo. We don't have Bandit, Cade, whatever it may be. This wall's getting open, and there's nothing we can do about it except for my smoke canisters. Well, then I know if we want to slow them down, I have to use these smoke canisters super early, and I can't use them for the plant, right? Otherwise, they're going to take site fast, which is really bad. You want to be wasting time on defense like I talked about earlier. But now, if you know we have a Turbo, we have a Cade, we have a Bandit for the wall, you have something to slow them down, well then maybe you can focus your utility for the last 30 seconds of the round. Don't use smoke grenades. Don't use them on con. Don't use them on top red. Don't use them on the window, because you know for a fact they're going to have to come through the wall or through rafters in order to get the default plant down right here, right? So then just have holes up here, right, that you can use while sitting inside of cache with your visible throw trajectory on right here. And now you can deny the plant because you saved all three due to the fact that you were conscious of what your team brought and you use your utility accordingly. So just make sure that you're managing your utility based off of your teammates' utility and playstyle, and you'll get a lot better at this game, I promise you. But let's say you weren't even able to make it to the last few seconds of the round because you died. Well, then you need to be giving comms on who you died to. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people making in this game is they're not giving comms onto people that kill them, which essentially can make it to where other people on your team die to the person that you just died to because you didn't call it out. I actually, out of all the content creators that you watch, am probably the worst at this, which is why I'm suggesting it, because sometimes I'll die, and because I'm trying to entertain stream, I'll just be like, fuck, or I'll scream, or I'll make a joke, and then someone else dies, and I was like, where's my call out? And I'm like, oh, dude, sorry, I forgot. Because genuinely having just one call out can be the difference between your teammates living or dying, which can be the difference between you winning or losing. So make sure every time you die, you're giving a call out as to where they killed you, then where they're going in next if you saw them move in the kill cam, and who the operator was, because some utility can actually be helpful if you know where it is. So if I die, I'll be like, hey, top main, crouch, there's a Zofia, this is an easy pre-fire, right? Or I could be like, hey, top red stairs, rotating 90, there's a 0 putting a flank camera for Astro, right? That's a great call out that lets my teammates know where I died from, where he's going to next, what to do about it based off of the utility and the playstyle, and also how they can potentially win that gunfight. That is a good and concise call out, and it's something that you need to start implementing into your ranked games. Now, the final defender tip that I'll be going over in today's video is you don't need to be forcing a strat. Like I said earlier, in power positions, yes, you want to be forcing that strategy because you want to be making sure that you hold that for as long as possible. But when it comes to 95% of every other strat that you do in Siege, you never want to force it. Now, this is very map specific. On smaller maps, you want to be a bit more stubborn with how you're holding and what you're doing with your strats because you don't have a lot of space that you can give up for free without just throwing the game. However, on bigger maps, if you're roaming, they have a lot of rooms that they can use to clear you, and you have a lot of rooms you can fall back on. So if you're roaming with a pulse C4 and you're trying to get a below kill, but it's a 2v5 on site, stop trying to force that C4 kill and just go help your teammates. Sometimes your little solo queue strat that you're trying to do is a lot worse and can hinder your team than just adapting and doing what needs to be done instead. But with that out of the way, that is it for today's video. My name is Alka. Check out the next video, and I hope I'll see you there. Later. Taking gunfights in Rainbow Six Siege is hard due to the fact that it's a one-shot headshot game. So in today's video, I'll be giving you 12 aiming tips and tricks that you need for your ranked games. The first of which being with the lasers. Now, in the description, it says that it's a mountable laser sight that increases hip-fire accuracy. So most people would assume that it only increases hip-fire accuracy. But that's not the case. For shotgun specifically, it also increases the accuracy when you're aimed in as well. Don't believe me? Well, watch this. I'm going to take my laser off of the shotgun. As you can see on the wall, I don't have a laser. Now I'm going to shoot my shotgun at the target. Notice the choke of that circle. It's pretty wide. Now if I go back and I actually equip the laser onto this shotgun, as you can see, laser is equipped, and then I shoot the exact same way, you can clearly see that the choke of this spread is much smaller and more accurate than the choke of that spread. Speaking of using a laser though, you need to know how to hold angles whenever you have a laser equipped. One of the biggest weaknesses of having a laser is that there's a huge red dot on the wall wherever you're aiming, which means that if an enemy sees this, they'll know where you're aiming and probably where you are too. Now let's take this common shotgun place for example. This spot is called Bolo. This is because at one point Bolo got a huge amount of kills from just sitting in this corner in one round. Now if Bolo was using a shotgun and he had a laser equipped and he were to hold this angle, as you can see the laser is clearly able to be seen on the doorway, which means any attackers that are right here can see that laser, and if they're a pro player they'll probably know, hey, he's in this corner, and he wouldn't have gotten the cool clutch that he got. But if you as a player are using a shotgun with a laser like I told you should be doing, and instead of aiming through the doorway or onto the doorframe where they can clearly see it, you aim it at the doorframe next to you where they can't see it, then this is no longer an issue. Your crosshair is still close enough so that when you see them you can easily just shoot and kill them, especially for my PC players, so the crosshair placement not being exactly on them isn't too bad of a thing. And it also stops them from being able to see your laser, while allowing you to still maintain that same amount of choke on your shotgun. A better way to get even better aim though is to have good aiming settings. First of all, you want screen shake intensity off. There's no reason to have this on. It just makes it so where if things explode, your screen shakes, which can really throw your aim off. Secondly, you want good sensitivity. Now, copying a pro player's sensitivity because you want to aim like them is a terrible idea. The reason for this being is because the reason that they have their sensitivity is because they've been playing on it for a long time, which is why they're so good at it. It's not the actual sensitivity, it's the time and effort they put into that sensitivity to get good that made them good. So what you need to do as a player is find a sensitivity that you are the most comfortable with, that suits you the best, and then just drill that over and over and over again every single day for multiple months, and then you'll get there. Not only is your sensitivity super important, but so are certain keybinds. Like, first of all, you want to have your lean on toggle. If you've been using lean on hold and you know how to quick peek already, and you're already pretty good with it, then it doesn't matter. But for newer players, putting it on toggle is just going to get you a crisper quick peek, which is something that we'll talk about later. Going over graphic settings, I just have everything on super high because it looks good for the video, but you actually want the complete opposite. You want everything on low except for shadows and LOD quality. The reason for this being is because the lower settings you have, the less hard your graphics card in the bottom right has to work, which makes it to where you'll get more frames per second, which makes it easier for you to see, and therefore easier for you to aim. If you want a complete settings guide, you can check that out on my channel. But in terms of settings, that's pretty much about it. Not only can having the best settings outside of the game really help your aim, but so can warming up properly. Having a set warm-up routine is very important because it makes it so where your aim is at the top of its shape before you go into a ranked game. A lot of the times people will just hop into a ranked when they first get on. Even if you have some of the best aim in the world, you don't want to do this because you won't have your best aim that you've ever had if you didn't warm up beforehand. It's a slight difference, especially to those that are more inclined to aim better, but it's a noticeable difference at that. There's multiple different avenues that you want to be warming up in a solid warm-up routine. There's recoil control, which you can easily do in the shooting range target. There's flicking and tracking, which you can easily do in the third lane of the shooting range. There's crosshair placement and trigger discipline and reaction time, which you can all train in the map training grounds. And then there's movement while shooting, which you can practice in the arcade. These are all very solid tips that you should be warming up on whenever you're trying to curate your own warm-up routine, whether it be 5 minutes or 20 minutes. And it's something that you definitely should consider getting into if you haven't already. Something that's way more important though is holding angles properly. I've brought you onto Clubhouse to demonstrate this. Now as you can see, I've brought you into Cache, where you have the comment, head holes, reinforcement, and rotate combo. Now let's say you're playing top of red stairs and you're holding the angle onto the construction door because you know someone is there. Do you sit behind the reinforcement and hold the angle expecting someone to swing from the left? Or do you sit behind the wall here, expecting someone to swing from the left? The answer is you actually want to be behind the reinforcement, and no, not because it's a reinforcement. The reason that you want to be on the right side is because if someone is swinging from the left, you want to be on the right, and if someone is swinging from the right, you want to be on the left. But if you paid attention, both times from both angles, I specifically said that they were swinging from the left, which means that sitting on the right is the correct place to sit. The reason that you want to be sitting on the opposite side of where they're swinging is because a numerous amount of reasons. The first reason is if they run across the door and you hold a super tight angle, you'll see a part of them run across the door, even if it's just an instant in a second. That gives you information, but also if they run across the door, they can't see you because they ran across the door and you're still holding this tiny of an angle. So you get information on them and they don't get information on you. Whereas if you were on the left side and they swung out the door, they'd be able to see you the entire time they were swinging, just like you'd be able to see them. So now they have information on you when in reality you could have just been on the right side and them have no information on you. Not only this, but if you're sitting on the left side, holding an angle is way wider, and holding it on the right side is a much tighter angle, which gives them a lot more room for error, and it gives you way more of a precise shot. Most importantly though, if you're holding the opposite of where they're swinging, you can control how much of them you see and how much of a gunfight that you want to take. Whereas if you're on the left and they swing from the left, they're controlling how much of a gunfight is being taken, because no matter what you do, the entirety of the door is on your screen. So it's just a great rule of thumb to peek from the opposite side of where you think they will be swinging. Not only should you know how to hold angles properly, but you should learn how to swing angles properly. Let's bring yourself into the attacker's shoes for the example that I just gave you. If I just took control of construction and I'm trying to do a cash push, how would I go about swinging this construction door? Would I just swing it like this? Would I quick peek and swing it? Would I run across and then swing from the other side? What would you do here? Well, there's two scenarios. Scenario 1 implies that you have a drone that you can use, and the more likely option, scenario 2, implies that you don't. If you're an attacker pushing into cash from construction, what you need to be doing if you don't have a drone is quick peeking for information, which is something that we'll talk about later if you don't know how to quick peek. If you're quick peeking for information, all of the common angles, and then you see somebody, what you want to do after quick peeking, let's say I see someone on the head hole, is then change levels and then swing them. Whenever you swing them after changing levels, if they have their crosshair up here and they see your head up here when they quick peek, as soon as you go to swing, they're going to pre-fire up here where they thought your head was, but because you changed levels to crouch level, they won't hit your head, but you sure as hell will hit theirs. So it's just a good rule of thumb that whenever you're trying to swing and you quick peek and see somebody, change levels and then commit to the peek. You could even mind game it a little bit. You can quick peek and then quick peek down here to confuse them and then go back up and swing. You can do a lot of things depending on what elo you're in, but changing the levels whenever you swing is very, very useful. But if you need to learn how to swing correctly, then you need to learn how to quick peek correctly. Now, like I said back in my settings tip, you need to have your lean keys on toggle for the best quick peeking experience. But even if you have it on hold, you should be able to keep up here. What you want to do is aim in, and then you want to lean and move to the left at the same time. And then once you've gathered the information, you're then going to lean and move back to the right at the same time. Or if you're on toggle, just unlean and then move back to the right. So lean left, unlean right, move right. And it's the same thing for the other side. You'd lean right, move right, unlean left, move left. It's very, very easy to do, and once you get the muscle memory down after sitting in a custom game for maybe 20 minutes, you can become 30 times better than everybody in your elo, especially if you're in a low elo. It's very easy to quick peek once you get the hang of it, and it's one of those skills that you'll use forever once you learn it, because it's going to be useful in every single meta and every single season, just due to the fact that that's how the game works. But if you try to quick peek and you have the wrong crosshair color, you'll lose the gunfight anyway. Which is why you need to have the correct crosshair color. Now, I have purple equipped, as you can see, but there are a plethora of other colors that you can choose from, and some that you really should stay away from. Let's go over all of them from left to right. First of all, you have the default crosshair. This isn't really bad, and honestly, you could keep it. The green crosshair does kind of get old after a while, but it's not a bad option. Then you have light blue. This is really bad, because if you're trying to spawn peek a bright area, your crosshair will actually get flushed out. And because it's not a strong color, it's really hard to use, and it's hard for your brain to use in order to hit shots. Then there's blue. Now this is a prominent color, but because it's so deep and dark of a color, you have a harder time on darker maps and in darker settings. Then there's turquoise. Turquoise isn't terrible, it just suffers from the same problems as light blue. Then there's green. Green is good, but because green is such a bright and vibrant color, sometimes your brain can get distracted on the crosshair and not on the actual enemy that you're shooting. Light green is a much better version of green in my opinion, just because it's a little bit more of a faded color, so your brain doesn't actually get distracted by it, and I know a lot of people that swear by light green over green, or vice versa, so I mean, either way, these two crosshair colors are viable, as long as you're not running like turquoise or light blue. Then there's yellow. This one's just too bright, don't use it. Then there's light orange. This one is just too dim. Don't use it. Then there's regular orange. This is just the worst version of light orange. Then there's red. We talked about with the default crosshair settings, this being viable, so if you want to run red, you can. Personally, I find it a bit distracting, but to each their own. Then there's purple, where every single color comes together and rejoices because you have found the perfect color. All jokes aside, purple is just a great crosshair color because it mixes the perfect amount of brightness to darkness, the perfect amount of opaqueness to transparency, and the perfect amount of being a vibrant color with being a dim color. I love purple. A lot of people run purple. I definitely recommend you do it. White is terrible, don't use it, you'll get lost on any super bright maps when you're spawn peeking like Clubhouse, and then black suffers from the opposite issue. Now that you know what crosshair colors to use, you shouldn't have trouble spawn peeking or holding dark angles in any of your games. You will have trouble though if you don't know how to pre-fire correctly. Pre-firing in general is arguably one of the most overrated things that most Siege players do, and it's because they just do it wrong. The only time you want to pre-fire is if you're pre-firing a common angle that people hold, or you have information on somebody. Let me explain. If I'm an attacker and I'm walking down the main stairs of a Clubhouse, a common angle that people will hold is the head holes on this wall right here. So what I can do as an attacker after making sure no one's in moto is I can swing and pre-fire the head holes that might be there. Because it's a common angle, sometimes you'll get a kill, sometimes you won't. But pre-firing just the left side walls right here in hopes that you'll find a head of somebody sitting in armory is a terrible idea. And that type of pre-firing where you just randomly pre-fire through a wall because you saw someone do it in a YouTube video is not good. You don't want to be doing that. Instead, like I said, pre-fire common positions like these head holes here. Or if we bring it back to the top floor and you're in construction, pre-firing the head holes that are typically there for rafters. Not only can you pre-fire common defender locations, or even for that matter, attacker locations if you're a defender, but you're also able to pre-fire based off of information. So right here I have the reinforcement, feet hole, and rotate combo that are typically on the church triple wall when holding blue. Now when attackers push generator or blue, or whatever you call this area, sometimes they'll have a guy sneak down the secret stairs, or sometimes they'll have a guy sneak down the oil pit hallway. Now the reason that these feet holes are here is so that people who are playing inside of church can easily get information on anybody's feet inside of blue, so that they can pre-fire them through this wall that is typically right here. This is a great example of using information to pre-fire people. Now yes, you can see people through feet holes and pre-fire them, but that's not really pre-firing, that's just shooting through a wall. A better example is people love to play Valkyrie and throw a Valkyrie camera right there. That Valkyrie camera sees people who are in this hallway here and going down the staircase, so sometimes people won't even put feet holes on the wall that we just talked about. They'll just leave it soft so that they can ping people on the Valkyrie cameras on the other side of the wall, and then once they see that ping, they just pre-fire through the wall and get free kills. That's another great way you can use pre-firing, is just by using information. An even more rare aiming tip and trick though is shot resetting, or in other words, tap firing. What a lot of people do when they're new to FPS games or new to Rainbow Six Siege in the first place is they will just spray magazines, and on guns like the F2 where it's a bit more recoil, this can be detrimental if you don't have recoil control. What you need to do instead is not only tap firing, because it resets your bullets to the point of your crosshair where you can control it, but you need to be burst firing, so that you can reset your crosshair onto where you want it. As you can see, whenever I spray a magazine and then I stop shooting, my crosshair comes back exactly to where it was earlier, which in this case would be this first red dot right here. So look, I spray, oh hold on, so look, I spray, and then my crosshair resets exactly back to where that red dot is. So you can use this to your advantage. If you're in a gunfight with somebody, instead of just spraying and praying and hoping that you can control the recoil, you can burst fire and let your crosshair reset on its target to get that free headshot. It's something that's pretty underrated, and it's more prevalent in games like CSGO, Rust, or Valorant, where the recoil is a lot more prevalent, but on guns like the F2 like this, it's something that you should definitely keep in mind. Speaking of general recoil control though, this is going to be my final aiming tip and trick. You need to get down your recoil control. The easiest way to do this is to come into the shooting range like I've showed you and go to zone 1. Once you're in zone 1 and you have the target, just go up to the target and without controlling any recoil or moving your joystick or mouse at all, just hold down M1, or if you're on console, hold down right trigger. What I just did here is I just mapped out the entire recoil spread of the gun. So now I know, hey, the gun just goes straight up and at the end it goes to the right a bunch. So now I know if I want to perfectly control this recoil, all I have to do is pull down and at the very end, pull to the left a little bit. So let's try it. I'm pulling down, pull to the left, and as you can see, it's pretty much a straight up and down line. What I could do is get my up and down recoil control a bit more down packed so that I can get just a solid grouping instead of a grouping and a line in the middle. So let's try it. As you can see, now it's a solid circle instead of a circle and a line. We can even get it more down packed than that, but that's for a different video. With that out of the way, that's it for today's video. Check out this next video. My name's Alka, and I hope I'll see you there. Later. Do you have one game where you're going absolutely crazy, and then one game where you go 0-5? Welcome to inconsistency. You have it, and I'm here to tell you how to fix it. There's 5 pillars of why you're inconsistent in Rainbow Six Siege. The first of which is that you're playing just literally inconsistently. Obviously, but what do I mean? This means that you have a day that you play Siege, and then you take a break for a few days, and then you come back. You take a break for a week, or you just don't play at the same time of the day, so your mood and your energy levels are different. And then you wonder why you're not as good, or you're inconsistent. Well, that's why. Someone who puts more hours and more consistent hours into something is going to be better at that thing, period. This even goes for in-game inconsistency as well. If you're not consistently having the same playstyle, you're going to be inconsistent. There's multiple types of Siege players in the world, and multiple playstyles and roles in the game. And if you're really good at playing support on the site, and all of a sudden you want to start roaming with Vigil, you're obviously not going to do as well, and therefore think that you're inconsistent, but in reality, you just made a bad decision. If something isn't broken, don't fix it. I'd rather have a guy who has a 1.6 KD on Vigil Boss G consistently, and I'd just let him play as Vigil Boss G, then force him to play Cade, because I think it's for the betterment of the team. That teammate won't be as reliable or as comfortable because you made him pick a different operator that you think is best, as he normally would just plan on his Boss G. Just let him do his thing, and he'll probably be better. And the same goes for you watching this video. If you're good at something, even if it's weird, but more importantly, it works, then don't switch it if you're able to, and obviously within reason. But what if you are pretty consistent on the when and how you play, but you're still inconsistent in your performance and the results of each game? Well, this brings me into the second pillar of inconsistency. There's a number of reasons within this pillar, but the first and most prevalent being that you don't have a warm-up routine. I've talked about this at least 50 times on this channel alone, and for good reason. It genuinely will separate if you have a good day or a bad day in terms of how your performance is. The best part about it too is that you can tailor make it how you want for you. It can be short if you don't have patience to warm up. It can be long if you really want to nail everything on its head. It can be tracking focused, flicking focused, quick peek focused. It can be mechanically focused. It can be game sense focused. It can be whatever you think makes you warmed up in that day. Because in the end, it's personal preference, like I said. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is you can do it for as long as you want to until you feel warmed up. So there's no excuse to go into a game and not feel like you're just not doing good because you didn't take the time out of your day to just warm up for 5 minutes. The second reason for the second pillar that you're inconsistent in game is because you're focused way too much on being consistent. Hell, that's probably why you even clicked on this video. But honestly, I'd rather have a teammate that sometimes goes 0-5 from time to time, but still wins the game, than someone who gets 15 kills a game, but loses more often. This is because it's literally happened to me on multiple occasions, so I know that I definitely want this. I have a friend, for example, who I play with pretty semi-often by the username of Breadstick. If you're an OG and you watch the Twitch streams, you know who I'm talking about. Now, he has his flaws, like every player. He has his inconsistencies, his potato moments, whatever you name it. But I win when I play with him at least 50% more than I do when I don't play with him. Now, like I said, he has his flaws, and one of them mainly is that he himself has a lot of inconsistency as a player. But I'd so much rather have him on my team than have somebody else who gets a lot of kills that I never win with. Because the simple truth is, I win more with him than when I don't. He's also just kind of funny and fun to be around in general, which brings me into my next pillar of inconsistency, the third pillar. You will be more consistent if you have people to play with. Having a 5-stack will do a lot of things for your games that are nothing but positive. Namely, for this video though, make you more consistent. Now, how does it actually do this? Well, if you have a balanced team that you've been playing with, you've been playing games with them for a while, you've practiced with them, chances are most people on that team, including you, know what operators and roles that they play. For example, when I solo queue, I'm a very good flex player. I love playing operators like Lion, Ying, Zero, and Azami. But when I queue with Breadstick, me and him duo queue support every single time because we can't reliably have a Thatcher on our team that gets walls open. I don't know why, it's just a curse that we have. Anyways, back on track. If we have a third teammate, usually I'll play entry while those two play support. So I'm changing around what I'm doing based off of the teammates that I have, which can cause for a lot of inconsistency on my part. But if you do what I don't, and you have a dedicated group or just dedicated people that you play with, this is no longer an issue for you because you get very very used to the flow of what you're supposed to do and how things are supposed to go, because by then you've figured out what everybody's strengths are. You have two guys that are really good at entry fragging, while you're good at flex, and the other two people are just good at support. And because you've been playing with each other long enough, you know how most rounds on most sites on most maps go, and you know how to push with your team without having to communicate or hassle people as much, which can make you way more consistent. It's a lot easier for you to learn the flow of what you're supposed to do when you're with those players as well, when you have map knowledge. Which brings me into my fourth pillar of consistency in Siege. Map knowledge is crucial for Rainbow Six Siege, and most games in general, but specifically Siege for a number of reasons. Some of the best players don't know map knowledge to a T. To prove that even you don't have as good of map knowledge as you might think you do, let me administer a 3-part test to you. These parts consist of the easy, the intermediate, and the advanced part of the test. Now, the first part obviously being the easiest. Do you know the callouts Harry Potter, restaurant, or coffee for first floor of cafe? Do you know the callouts Bolo, satellite window, and chair pixel on Oregon? Do you know the callouts lockers, oven, or dong on theme park? If you missed even one of those, then you still have a long way to go for Siege callouts, because those were some easy ones and that was only 3 maps, so chances are there's a lot more you also don't know. For the intermediate part of the test, let's go over a common push for Clubhouse. The plat wall rafters take for CC. Now, because it's so common, you'd think that you'd probably have it down by now and how to push it, right? Well, we'll see. As the person who is pushing bottom garage, let's say you're a Habana, a Capitao, Grim, whatever, to flush out the rafters player, when should you walk to the left side hole that you made with your hard reaching charges and go in and pressure that rafters player? Should you A, whenever you have someone on the door to cover you? Should you B, when your team has the wall open? Should you C, when you have a teammate in secret to cover your bottom garage? Or should you D, it doesn't actually matter and it's a trick question? Well, if you didn't answer with either A or B or both, then you have some work to do, because if you're pushing the bottom of rafters, you need the wall to be open, and preferably you also want someone on your door to create as many angles as possible to kill the rafters player. Now, for the advanced map knowledge section of this test, let me give you another scenario. Let's say you're in a 2v4 situation, attacking the basement of Clubhouse. Your teammate Maverick is in dirt on the dirt door, and he has the diffuser. You, Buck, know that one enemy is on the AK rack, one is in the short hall, and one is in Moto. What should you do? Should you and your teammate go for the kill in AK rack to even out the man count and plant in armory? Should you just go for kills in general because you only have 45 seconds on the clock? Should you rotate to the hatch, the kitchen hatch specifically, to cover him from a different angle so he can get the plant in deep armory? Should you drone out the enemies, play a little bit slow, make sure that you know what you're doing, and you use utility to get plants down no matter the man count? Well, if you answered anything except for the first answer, you're not as good as you think you are. Now, these 3 tests were actually pretty for most veterans and advanced Siege players to answer, and even they have tests that they don't even pass, and they have knowledge mistakes too. So of course you do, and you have a lot more than you think, which can be a huge issue for your map knowledge and therefore for your consistency. Not only this, but most players are good on some maps and bad on others due to a lack of knowledge on that map or just a lack of knowledge on how to play that map. Now, this is another reason that map knowledge can cause inconsistency. I'll go over another example from my personal experience. Chalet is my worst map. I win 31% of the time that I go on Chalet. It's atrocious, I know, but my best map is Clubhouse, where I win over 70% of the time I go to Clubhouse. Now, obviously, Clubhouse has been in the game longer than Chalet, and Chalet went through a rework where everyone had to relearn the map again. So you'd think, obviously, I know Clubhouse better than I know Chalet for that reason, but that's not true because there's other inconsistencies in this. I am worse on Oregon than I am on Cafe, and Cafe and its rework have been around a lot less time than a map like Oregon, because I just spent the time to learn the map of Cafe. I learned the ins and outs, I learned the playstyle of how you need to be, how aggressive or passive you need to be to take control of that map, what operators to play. I went through the liberty of making my own Valkyrie cameras, Echo cameras, solo queue strats for every single operator on every single site, and that's just not something that I've done on Oregon because I honestly just kind of find it boring. But you get the idea. You can be inconsistent map knowledge-wise in another way just because you have bias towards certain maps and not certain maps, which can be a huge issue if you're trying to be consistent in Rainbow Six Siege. But none of anything that I just said in the first 4 pillars even compares to the 5th and final pillar of why you're inconsistent in Rainbow Six Siege, and that is because you're literally not improving. Now, you might be thinking, duh, obviously, if you're not improving, you're not going to be consistently getting better and playing the game better, right? Well, you'd be surprised because I'd say about 70% of the people who play this game are not improving as much as they think they are. Let me explain. Improving in and of itself, textbook definition, means becoming better. And most people who just sit down and play the game for like maybe 30 minutes to an hour a day are not getting better. Sure, practice makes perfect, but perfect practice makes perfect. That's the actual full saying. I'd rather have somebody on my team or train somebody in general to get good enough to be on my team that's been playing the game for only 3 or 4 months but is dedicated to getting better than somebody who's been playing the game for 5 years that's been hard stuck diamond their entire career. And it's because I know that player that I first mentioned has way more potential to become way better and more consistent than the player that I mentioned after the first player. And that's because there's a difference between just playing the game casually and learning from your mistakes. You, as a player in a perfect world, should not die in the exact same place twice. Every time you die, you should be thinking, why did I just die there? Oh, I died there because of I did this, or because my enemy outplayed me this way. Okay, now that I know that, I'm never going to let that happen again. And then boom, you never die there again. Now, obviously, some of us don't have photographic memory, and I don't either. So you're obviously going to die to some places 2 or 3 times, but it should never be more than 5, because if you're just dying to the same stuff over and over again, and you're not learning, you might be consistent, but you're going to be consistently fucking terrible. So, you know, pick your poison. But you need to actually be taking into account how to improve. Something that really helped me was watching Pro League, because one thing that Pro League players are good at is adapting. That's why they're in Pro League in the first place. When I would see one team do an elaborate defense setup and the attacking team would just pick them apart, the defense didn't do the exact same thing. They might have done the same strat with the same operators, but they changed it up a little bit to adapt to what the defense did. Or maybe one pro player held an angle, got absolutely shit on, and then he held a different angle and shat on the guy that killed him last round. But constantly adapting and learning from every single time you die will make you way more consistent, because not only are you consistently dying less, but also the more you learn, the more you're able to learn. What does this mean? Well, the more you're learning about certain angles that will kill you, the more you'll be able to realize that the angle you're holding probably isn't a good angle, because there's consistencies in bad angles. For example, if someone's swinging me from the left side of a doorway and I'm holding the left side, I'm going to lose that gunfight. You want to be holding the opposite side of where they're swinging. Now, I didn't learn this because it was something that I just learned. I learned through trial and repetition, muscle memory, and just overall intuition that when I'm on the left side of a door and someone swings me from the left, I usually end up losing that gunfight. And the same goes for if they're swinging from the right and I'm on the right. So then I'm like, okay, that's an issue. Maybe I should just try being on the left side of what I'm peeking when they swing the right, and vice versa. And that in and of itself made me win way more gunfights. So not only does learning make you more consistent, but if you're consistently learning, you'll learn more and therefore be more consistent. It's a huge domino effect. So if you genuinely drop your ego and realize that not everything is your teammate's fault and not everything is your enemy's fault, and 9 times out of 10 when you die it's your fault, you will be able to learn from your mistakes and learn from them properly to become way more consistent in Rainbow Six Siege than you ever were in the first place. Now, I know a lot of that can be a lot to digest, and I have an entire YouTube channel full of videos that you can check out to make you even more consistent. But just to put a bow on the top of the present, I'll go over a secret little bonus tip that isn't quite a pillar, but definitely still something that you need to know. And this is confidence. Now, this is something that I've been talking about a little bit more recently in my YouTube videos because it's something that I learned recently. I'm not saying that I wasn't confident before, but I have somebody that I play with who typically isn't confident. And some days when he logs in and he is confident, he does way better because he's just like, you know what, fuck it, I'm running in. And then he gets 3 kills, whereas he would try to like play utility and then he'd sit back, be too afraid to do anything, and then he'd lose gunfights. Now, no, this person isn't Breadstick, but it's a different person that I play with. The thing about being confident is, yes, it does make it to where you're able to win some certain gunfights because you're swinging properly, but it can also lose you gunfights, so you need to learn when confidence is key. Now, confidence doesn't necessarily equate to aggression. Just because you're confident doesn't necessarily mean that you are an ego fest and you're swinging everything. Confidence isn't loud. It's calm. It's a really good saying that a lot of people live by, and it's something that I find very true in my time to time and daily life. Someone who is aiming and they're in a clutch situation that looks way less shaky and way more calm, but isn't as fast in swinging many things, is a much more confident player than someone who's twitchy and moving all the time and constantly moving and quick peeking and pre-firing because he wants to look like Bolo and because secretly deep down he's scared for his mommy. It's the difference between a Warden player and an OG smoke main, if you need it in Siege terms, but you get the idea. Confidence is such a good cornerstone that you can rely on in high stress situations to make you much more consistent, because one thing that a lot of players and YouTube videos don't account for is the human emotion aspect of aiming. And if you're under high stress, maybe you're just not having a good day, your aim is going to suffer because your decision making is going to suffer. But if you have confidence in yourself as a player and you don't let whatever shit happen to you in the day affect your gameplay, you're going to be more consistent because you're consistently not letting your mood affect your gameplay. I thought that was a little important, but not enough to be a pillar, which is why I stuck it as a bonus tip. But with that out of the way, my name's Alka. Check out this next video, and I really hope I'll see you there. Later. Attacking in Siege is very hard, which is why in today's video, I'll be giving you 25 tips so that you can attack better. The first tip of which being with Hibana. Now, if you're ever going against an electrified hatch that has wood around the actual hatch, you can get the Cade Claw off for absolutely free. All you have to do is shoot 2 Hibana pellets next to the hatch, just like that. Then, when you explode the Hibana pellets, the radius of that explosion will kill the Cade Claw, as you can see. Now the hatch isn't electrified, so if I switch to 4 Hibana pellets, I can put my Hibana pellets on the hatch, and now the hatch is open, and you didn't even need an EMP. Now that was just one out of 25 different tips that I'll be giving you in today's video. The second of which being for buck. Now, if you're ever trying to get a wooden floor open, and you try to take vert on it like this, sometimes it just doesn't work. As you can see, the vert's pretty inconsistent, and a lot of this is still not even penetrated through. So here's a tip that'll help you out a lot. The metal beams always go opposite of the wooden floor. So as you can see, the wooden floor is going up and down. So I know the metal beams are going to go left to right. So now I know if I stand like this, it'll be much easier to get a consistent hole in the floor. Whereas if I went with the wood, it'd be a lot harder. And as you can see, I didn't even go through the floor all the way. So you always want to go against the grain of the wood to make more consistent vert. Now, if you thought that tip was insane, then you need to hear about this next tip for sneaking into barricades. When you break open a barricade, it's pretty loud. As you can see, it takes 3 hits, and any defender is going to know that you're coming. However, if they only hear 1 hit and a couple rounds of fire, they're not actually going to be expecting you to go in the door. That's why this next tip is so useful. If you want to be able to sneak through a barricade, all you have to do is hit it once like this. Then you can literally just shoot the rest of the barricade like this, and now you're able to just crouch through the barricade, and you only made 1 single melee sound, so they're not going to be expecting you to be on the other side, ADS, and shooting at them. It can catch a lot of your enemies off guard and by surprise and get you a lot of free kills in the process. Just like our next tip, which is about having cutoff drones. Having cutoff drones is super important because it essentially cuts off any defender rotations, hence the name cutoff drones. For example, if I'm playing buck trying to buck open kitchen floor like this to maybe get any kills on vert, I don't want to have to worry about anybody coming from bar, coming from bathroom, coming from top main, or bottom main. But if I just have a cutoff drone right here in bathroom, I don't have to worry about any of that because I can periodically get on this or have a teammate watch it, and now I know that nobody's flanking and I can play this for as long as I want to. It's essentially like having a 0 camera but on every single operator. You can do this with your prep phase drone as well if you want to save your prep phase drone, and you will get a lot of value out of it and make flanking as a defender almost completely useless. Not only can this get you a lot of kills, but so can refragging your teammates. Now, there's a pretty fine line between just baiting your teammates and purposefully refragging them. If you know that you have a teammate that's 0-2 that's trying to ash rush into the bomb site and you know his ass is just gonna die, you might as well be sitting right behind him. That way, if somebody kills him, you can at least swing the kid that killed him and get his refrag. Instead of just being down a teammate, now both teams are down and you're in a 4v4 instead of a 4v5. Not only does this go for people who are just running in the building and being idiots, but it can also go if you're trying to roam clear or just entry in general. If you're roam clearing, chances are you have people that are roaming, especially when people are running boss G on Vigil. Being able to refrag is extremely important in case they need to reload their boss G and you can easily kill them off of it. The actual sound and visual of your teammate getting shot shot at is enough information for you to know exactly where they're shooting them from, and it doesn't really require you to have good aim to be able to refrag them in the first place. So if you and one other person are ever roam clearing, just try to be right next to that person as they're swinging so that you can bait and refrag them, making sure that you're not just down in man count for no reason. Another thing that can get your teammates just seemingly killed for no reason is not playing the right operators, which is why my sixth tip for attacking is flexing your operators based off of what your teammates are playing. Me personally, I don't really like to play support when I'm solo queuing because I just kind of like to frag out. It is what it is. But a lot of the times, so do my teammates. So I find myself, unfortunately, having to just play that Melusi or play that wall denial or play the hard breacher. As much as it is unfortunate that I can't play the playstyle that I want to, I'd rather win and have a hard breacher and get the bomb down than not win because I wanted to run into the building as a Monty or an Ash. So what I do most of the times is I will just sit and wait for my teammates to pick operators, and then I will pick an operator based off of what we don't have. If they picked a hard breacher and EMPs and flank watch, then maybe I'll actually be the one to entry. If they picked up the Ash, if they picked up the Yana, if they picked up the gridlock, maybe I'll be the one to play the ace. It doesn't matter, but just always making sure that you have one of every single necessary operator type will win you a lot of rounds. Just like my next tip, which is not swinging in a post-plant scenario. Now, I understand the mindset of trying to swing all the time on attack. You have to be the one to push the bomb site, so you have to be the one to be aggressive, and when you have Peeker's advantage on your side because you're playing an online game, it just makes sense to swing people for kills. But when you get that bomb down, you have to think of it sort of as now you're the defender and the enemy team is an attacker, because they have to come to you instead of you having to come to them. This is because there's only a certain amount of allotted time before they're not able to defuse again. It takes 7 seconds to defuse. So as long as you can delay as much time as needed to where there's less than 7 seconds left on the defuse time, you will win the post plant every single time, even if all of you die. So making sure that you're playing extremely passively and not swinging literally at all will make it to where you will win every single post plant. You can always hold crossfires with your teammates too, so that if your teammate ends up actually getting in a gunfight because he's just stupid, you're able to refrag him, which is something that I talked about earlier. But making sure you're playing extremely passively in post plant scenarios will win you attack rounds. Just like my next tip of always droning in to every single room that you want to go into. Number one mistake that I see most players making when I'm solo queuing or just playing ranked in general is that they don't drone in enough. A lot of the times they'll die to random people just ratting in corners, or they'll die to people that they just didn't have information on in general. If they had droned in before they rushed in, this wouldn't be an issue. Now, I do understand if you're an entry fragger, you shouldn't really be the one droning yourself in, but if you're in a solo queue environment or you're just playing ranked, you cannot trust your soft supports or hard supports to drone you in the first place, even though it's their job. So if you know that your teammates are unreliable, you can't really use them not doing their job as an excuse to not drone yourself in. Droning really does not take that much time, so there's really no excuse to do it as long as you're able to do it efficiently and make sure that you're droning every single corner to get all the necessary information. The only thing that comes after having to always drone is taking the gunfights, which can be a lot harder if you're not pushing the right areas, which is why my ninth tip is to push easier areas on the map. Well, what do I mean by this? Let's say that you're trying to attack CC Cash on Clubhouse. What most people will do is the default take. They'll open up the plat wall with an ace, they'll open up the bottom garage wall with some sort of hard breaching charge, and they'll run a Capitao or a Monty to take rafters. This allows them to be able to hold rafters and contest red stairs or contest people on the cash door so that you can go for an easy smoke plant behind the bomb. Pretty standard stuff. Here's the issue. This is the hardest way to attack this bomb site. The easiest way to attack this bomb site, especially if you're a solo queue ranked player, is actually to attack the back site. All you have to do is open up this wall and drone yourself into gym, bathroom, master, logi, and whatever it may be. You can have a flank cam, or in this case, because I'm playing ace, some claymores on your main stairs flank, and then you can open up this wall, even open up the bottom of the wall so you don't have to vault over it. You can contest red, you can contest red hall, you can even drone yourself into cash, and then once you're ready, you can go for the plant either on this wall here, which by the way isn't exposed to the red rotate, or come plant on this cash table right here or that cash table. It doesn't really matter, but pushing this is actually much easier than pushing the default take. So why do people like to push the default take more? That's because in Pro League, people like to push over here more because they're more coordinated. This is not Pro League though. A lot of the times you'll see people pushing random stuff just because it's the ranked meta, because the ranked meta is shaped by the Pro League meta. So you as a player should learn where the easiest parts to attack as a solo queue player are. We're talking construction for top floor. We're talking pushing lobby instead of square on top floor bank. Pushing solar on top floor of chalet instead of just pushing library side. A lot of the times, backside is easier to push than the front side, and you can win a lot more rounds because of it, especially if you're solo queue. Just like this next tip, which is for shield players. The biggest mistake that I see shield players making is just ADSing too much. If you ADS too much, people are just going to shoot you. Especially as Monty, when you're able to extend your shield, there's really no reason for you to be ADSing literally ever. If he tries to melee me or shoot me and I'm ADS'd, I'm going to die. But if I'm full shielded, it's not really going to do anything. He can melee me all he wants, he can shoot me all he wants, I can still kind of press him around in this corner and do whatever I want to him. The craziest part about it too is if he tries to melee me while I unshield, it will not actually make my shield go away. As you can see in 3, 2, 1. But normally, if he were to melee me with my shield like this, it would make my shield go away, right? So that's just a great hack as Monty. Instead of ADSing people, all you have to do is wait for them to melee you, and then you can unshield and melee them back. Let me try it one more time. 3, 2, 1. Just like that, and then you'd melee them back. And then now they're down. The only time you ever want to ADS people is if they're running away from you or they're doing something else and you can kill them for free. Not only are shields widely understood by the vast majority of the player base, but so are this next secondary gadget, smoke grenades, which is why the next tip on this list is to stop saving your smoke grenades for a plant situation and use them to push and take space. One of the hardest places to push on Oregon is trying to take construction control on the basement. Smoke grenades make this completely easy for you. Again, your biggest issue when pushing here is that you have to worry about elbow and you have to worry about the head holes and you have to worry about the door. But if you use both of your smokes, you only have to worry about one, and taking a one-on-one gunfight is your best chance. So you can smoke off the head holes, you can smoke off the door, and now you don't have to worry about literally any of those things, and then you can rush into elbow and take it for free. Monty brings smoke grenades, which is by bringing a Monty on elbow is very easy to do pushes like this with, because it allows you to just take free space, as most smoke grenades that are well placed do. So again, stop saving your smoke grenades for a perfect plant scenario, because a lot of the times that's not even going to happen, and just use them to take space. I promise you, they are one of the most underrated attacker gadgets in the entire game. Speaking of plant scenarios though, one tip that I need to give you when trying to get the bomb down is to use loud gadgets to cover the sound of you planting. If you didn't know, planting makes a lot of noise. Putting it down makes noise. And typing all this makes noise too. Defenders can easily hear this, and based off of that, they can swing you. However, if you have a very loud gadget like Gridlock or Ram's Boogie or Ying Candelas, you can easily activate that gadget just like this. And now the plant is almost completely silent, especially to the defender's ears and not yours. And now you're easily able to get the bomb down, back out of the site before they even realize what's going on, and get angles to hold the bomb and kill people to win the round. Something else that can win you just as many rounds on the attack is pushing with your team. Now, one thing that I preach a ton on my YouTube and my stream is that if your teammates all are doing one thing, even if it's a dumb idea, doing their dumb idea with them is better than doing your smart idea alone. Playing off of your team, even if it's an idea that you don't think is good, will yield you better results than trying to get a wall open by yourself when you don't have anybody to help you get that wall open. That's why a lot of the times if I see that my team is rushing Blitz, Ash, Finka, and Lion, and I know they're all stacking dirt, I'm not gonna play Thermite and try to get a wall open. I'm gonna rush with them, or at least try to support them in a way that makes sense and enables their rush. Even if I think it is a stupid idea and it is not going to work, it is better to support something that is dumb than to do something by yourself that you think is smarter. So drop your ego and just push with your team every single round. I promise you it will get you more round wins. Something else that will get you more round wins that is team oriented is giving comms more. If you are playing ranked and you do not have a microphone, stop playing ranked. I don't know why you would try to play ranked without a microphone, but being able to call out enemies or receive call outs can be the difference between you getting a kill or winning a round. Genuinely, I have gotten so many of my teammates kills because I'm constantly giving comms as to where people are. I'm asking for comms, and because of that, not only do my teammates know where everybody is, but I know where everybody is. So I know where to position myself, what gunfights to take, what type of push they're gonna do, where they're going, what angles to hold, just because of the simple fact that I'm giving more comms. Getting more comms is single-handedly the biggest tip that I can give you in this entire video that will completely change your gameplay and make it so much easier for you to attack. Something else that can help you attack extremely good is saving your prep phase drones. Now, this excludes Deimos players because you need to red ping people in the prep phase, but for most players, don't run your prep phase building into the site just to spot some people. The great thing about solo queuing in ranked is chances are your dumb teammates are probably running their drones into the building as well, and if they're doing it, all you have to do is get on their drone instead and look at who they're going, and you don't have to waste your drone. You not wasting your drone gives you a second drone that you can use to roam clear, to drone in wherever you're pushing, to drone in people that are sitting in the site, whatever it may be. Having an extra drone is great. Even if it's just as simple as to burn in a Rooney gate, having an extra drone can be the difference between you getting a kill or not getting a kill, or dying to a random cav sitting in a corner that you never knew existed, or not dying to that cav Viera. So make sure you are saving your prep phase drones unless you're making a cutoff camera, a flank camera, or you're a Deimos player. Now that example had a lot of exceptions.